Greetings, this is yours truly, Lord Karo, welcome to my domain. Reborn as Izuku Part 1. I woke up laying on a bed I did not recognize, but what I do recognize is that the room is absolutely filled with All Might merchandise. I sit up and my ears are ringing. I shake my head as the ringing fades and I can hear something next to me. I look to the bedside table to see an All Might clock with the alarm ringing. The morning is here, the morning is here. I pressed the button on top to stop it. The sun wasn't even out yet, why was the alarm set to that? And when did I get all this stuff? What happened? I look at my hands, not my hands. I get out of bed and stumble, catching myself by grabbing a shelf. I hit the side of the desk with my hip and hissed, okay, so not a dream. I walk out of the room and into the bathroom, my body moving on autopilot as I turn on the lights. I looked into the mirror and was shocked to see green eyes looking back at me. I run my hands through the green locks, so soft. I rubbed my freckled cheeks. I know whose face this was. Izuku Midoriya. Wait. I lifted my shirt and was surprised to see a chiseled body. Wow. My voice was different but very familiar. Okay, what exactly happened? It's all a blur. Sitting down on the toilet seat, I rubbed my face trying to make sense of this. Nothing came to mind, but now that I was focusing on remembering what had happened, I realized that I have two sets of memories, one I know is my own, the other one was of Izuku Midoriya. His childhood, his middle school days, wow, it was worse than the anime portrayed it. My old life wasn't bad, but I wasn't happy with it. The days I spent working were not fun, I was never close to anyone, except for a select few. My childhood was spent in isolation except for some friends I lost contact with after we graduated college. Parents who wanted me to achieve great things but kept comparing me to others and insulted my hobbies. All in all, I had a sucky life before this. Maybe this is my chance to do something great. Wait. I ran to my room and looked at Izuku's my phone and looked at the calendar. Today was the day of the entrance exam. Existential crisis later. Exam soon. I put my phone down and put on some clothes so I could finish when Izuku started. But I started. This was gonna take some getting used to. Putting on the signature red shoes, I left with my backpack and made my way to Dagoba Beach. I arrived and was greeted by some trash that was left. I looked through past memories and took a deep breath. Time to finish what you started. As I worked through the garbage I was thinking about how I got here and what happened to the real Izuku Midoriya, and what I was going to do about the plot. I had 4 seasons and an entire manga's worth of information. Cleaning the beach now was difficult. I can only imagine. Nope, I have the memories and muscle soreness of the whole 10 months of hell. Didn't need to think of it. It took me 2 hours, but I finally did it. I sat down on the beach shirtless, looking at the beautiful sunrise. I was exhausted, but I also felt guilty that Izuku wouldn't be able to go to Ua and meet his friends. I hear a gasp and tried to look back and saw Skinny Might standing there astounded by how clean the beach was. We locked eyes and I gave a smile and thumbs up before laying down on the sand. I stared at the sky and then Buff All Might stood over me with a proud smile on his face. I leave you for a week and this is what you achieve. I'm so proud, young Midoriya. Oh, so that's why he was so surprised in the anime. I shakily stood up. Thank you, All Might. Do you think I'm ready? All Might gave a booming laugh and put a hand on my shoulder. I believe you're a young man. Take a look at this. He took out his phone and showed me the picture he took of Izuku when he first started. This is you 10 months ago, now look at you. You are ready for my power. I smiled at him. Thank you for this, All Might. I couldn't have done this without you. I spoke full of gratitude. All Might simply took a strand of his hair from his head. Oh no. You are welcome, Midoriya, but remember, this was done by you. It was your valiant efforts that got you through this task. He presented the hair. Eat this. I simply stared at it, then at him. He sweated under my stare. You have to eat some of my DNA in order to get my power. I then sighed. Down the hatch, I guess. I took the hair from his fingers. All Might gave me a thumbs up. That's the spirit. I swallowed the hair and choked a bit. Okay, you ate it, now it has to be processed in your stomach and you should start to feel one for all in 3 hours. I look at the clock and wince. I won't have time to practice. All Might, the exam is 4 hours away. How can I learn control before then? I asked, making the big man flinch. Well, control came naturally to me when I first got it. Okay, well, at least me and Izuku were already on the same page when it comes to using a quirk. Luckily I had the idea on how to use it correctly by having an image to use. But how much could I use? Maybe 5%, that was being hopeful. Be careful, the physical backlash of one for all can be intense, so you must be prepared, All Might told me. I nodded. I understand. I left the beach and made my way home. Still not used to this. It was weird. Living an entirely different life but one so familiar. I stopped in front of the door. Inko, Izuku, my mom. I needed to get used to this. I opened the door and went inside, making my way into the kitchen. I saw her cooking. She was the same as she was in the show. I couldn't help but smile. Hey mom. She turned to me and then covered her nose. Izuku, honey, go and shower, you stink. I laugh and nod, going into the bathroom to shower. A cold shower sounded amazing right now. I came back to the kitchen after cleaning up and changing into my school uniform, tighter now that I had muscles. I walked into the kitchen and sat down as Inko served some breakfast. We both ate in silence. Today's the day. Inko looked at me. I nodded. Yeah, mom? Gosh, this was so weird. I just want you to know that. I know things have been hard. I want to make you proud. I gave her a determined smile. I'll do my best as a hero and make it so you don't have to worry so much. Inko started to tear up. Oh baby, I will always worry. I love you so much. I couldn't help but cry also. I got up and hugged her. Inko was an amazing character, such a sweet and loving mother. I finished my breakfast and after kissing Inko on the cheek I ran to the train station in order to catch the first train to Ua. As I ran the first could feel something stirring inside me. Either it was the hair disagreeing with my stomach or my quirk was finally manifesting. I walked through the gates of Ua and it took my breath away. I smiled as I gripped the straps of my yellow backpack. Out on my way Deku. I looked back to see Katsuki Bakugo walking past me. Stay out of my way. I frowned and watched him walk into UA. I won't be so forgiving but I won't be rude. I took a step and then intentionally tripped. I then felt gravity leave my body. Whoops, it's my quirk. Sorry for using it without asking first. But it'd be bad luck if you fell, right? Ochako Uraraka smiles as she helps me stand up and put her fingers together, deactivating her quirk. It's alright, thank you, I spoke with a smile. Wow, I never realized how cute she was. In person she was like an angel. I couldn't help but blush. Well, good luck, she said and ran to the gate. Taking a deep breath and making my way to the door. It was time for me to head to the starting line. I walked into the building and entered the auditorium where everyone else was. I saw an empty seat, which was next to Bakugo. Sighing, I walked over and sat next to Bakugo, who ignored me. I didn't want any problems. President Mike stepped onto the stage. For all you examinee listeners tuning in, welcome to my show. Today, everybody say, hey, but the auditorium was silent. Normally I would be fanboying, okay inside I am but thankfully it's not coming out as mumbling. Mike started to explain how the exam would work, where we would be doing the exams, me and Bakugo are in different battle centers, he was in A and I was in B, how we would be gaining points by fighting robots, the 3 robots that are worth a different amount of points, exactly how I remember. May I ask a question? Oh, it was Iida. On the printout, there are 4 types of villains. If that is a misprint, then UA, the most prominent school in Japan, should be ashamed of this foolish mistake. Iida spoke while holding out the form. Geez dude, relax, and you, huh? Iida looks at me and glares. You look like you don't wish to be here. If that is the case then leave. I couldn't help but grit my teeth and glare, but I didn't say anything. As Mike explained the 0-point robot I hummed thinking on how to get Uraraka into Ua. If I don't try to attack with 100% then she won't be able to save me then she won't be able to rack up enough points to get in. Well I need to figure it out quick. Thank you very much. Please excuse my interruption. Iida apologized after Mike finished his explanation sitting back down. That's all for me. Finally, I'll give you listeners a present. Our school motto, the hero Napoleon Bonaparte once said. A true hero is someone who overcomes life's misfortunes. Go beyond. Plus ultra. Now, everyone, good luck suffering. Present Mike finished. The screen behind him also showing the words, plus ultra. I got up and followed everyone outside towards the locker room to change into my tracksuit. Once I was done I exited the building to see buses waiting for the examinees. I walked past a few buses looking for mine. BBB. Ah here. I smile as I enter the bus and sit down on my own waiting for the bus to start moving. I look at my hand for a moment before closing my eyes and imagining a dial connected to an engine. I twisted the dial slightly to 3%. I feel energy flowing through my hand. I opened my eyes and see. Wait, why was the lighting teal colored? Wasn't it normally bright green? Okay, another thing that changed. My quirk's lightning. I turn it off and then back on trying to get a feeling of it. The bus arrives and we all exit the bus. I stand behind the crowd and look up at the large doors. I should be able to get more points if I limit myself to 5% instead of pushing it to 10%. Okay, now where is she? I spotted Uraraka taking deep breaths looking nervous. I walked over with the intent to cheer her up, but Iida stepped in front of me. That girl appears to be trying to focus. What are you doing here? Are you taking the entrance exam to interfere with everyone else? Iida demanded. Here's where I draw the line. I gave him a glare. Does it ever occur to you that I know her and I'm simply trying to cheer her up? This caught him off guard. Good. I'm just gonna talk to her to help her soothe her nerves. If you have something against me helping someone, you shouldn't be here. I pushed past him towards Uraraka. Mean? Yes, I know what I did was mean, but I wasn't gonna let people step all over me. I put a hand on Uraraka's shoulder making her look at me and I smiled. It'll be okay. Just do your best. She slowly smiled back at me and nodded. Yeah, thank you. Do your best also. Okay, start, President Mike announced. While everyone was looking confused, I already summoned one for all, letting it spread across my body and dashed into the city. I've never felt more alive. I see a 2-pointer and I use 3% to punch through it. 2 points. I see more coming my way. I smirk and dash forward punching, chopping and kicking. 10 points already. I stop to see a blonde girl about to be crushed by a 3-pointer. I run towards her and drop kick the 3-pointer into pieces. I jump off the robot and pant lightly. What a rush, you okay? I looked at her and I instantly recognized her. Thanks bro. Kami Utsushimi, who wore a simple tracksuit like me but it was purple. She smiled at me with her plump lips. What were the odds that she was taking this exam? I take a piece of the 3-pointer and hand it to her. Here, use this, it'll help. Before she could say anything I rushed back into the fray. Okay, that was 13 points, I need more. I fought more robots through the city, and on the side I also helped other students and saved them when they needed help, even if they weren't grateful. I spotted Uraraka doing well. Iida was doing well also. I racked up about 39 points, better than before. I stopped as President Mike announced that there was 3 minutes left, already. Then the ground started to shake. I looked behind me to see the large 0-pointer. I watched as the other examinees started to run away. I pushed past them and helped others who had fallen and kept them from being trampled and looked for Uraraka. Ow. I see her right where she was supposed to be. Crap. I ran towards her, I passed Iida and we locked eyes for a moment before I kept going and arrived at Uraraka's side. Hang on, I told her as I looked at her leg and lifted the slab of concrete off her leg letting her crawl out. Come on. I looked behind me to see Kami helping Uraraka to her feet. You came? I asked in surprise. Kami smiled at me. Yeah, I owe you for that weapon. I let go of the slab and looked up to see the 0-pointer closing in. Go. I took a deep breath and turned the dial up to 20%. Now or never, I jumped higher than I could have imagined and cocked my fist back. Detroit. I started with one for all 100% powering my right arm. Smash. I uppercut the 0-pointer making it fall back. I grinned and then winced at how sore my legs were, and let's not forget that my arm was broken. The adrenaline was helping with the pain of my broken and battered arm, but it hurt like hell still. Any moment, Uraraka should be able to help, but if she doesn't slap. I felt the stinging on my cheek as Uraraka slapped me hard, taking away the gravity letting me float for a moment before Uraraka released her quirk letting me land safely. Breathing heavily as I was on my back, I turned to see Uraraka vomiting. Kami came up next to me with an awe expression on her face. Whoa dude, you just one-shot that thing. I chuckled and sat up. Well, I needed to keep two beautiful girls safe. I winked. Ochako blushed as Kami gave a flirty smile. Well then you need to be rewarded. Kami purred. Now, save it for later, let me look at him. I looked behind Kami to see Recovery Girl. I waved with my uninjured arm. Hey, the old lady looked at my body. She kissed my arm letting it heal. It wasn't enough for me to pass out but I did feel very tired after. Here you go Sonny. Recovery Girl offered me some gummy bears which I took and popped into my mouth and slowly chewed. I watched her heal Uraraka's sprained leg. I got up shakily after a few moments. My name is Midoriya Izuku. I told the two girls. I already knew their names but they didn't know that. Kami grinned at me. I'm a Shishimi Kami fam. Uraraka stayed sitting. I'm Uraraka Ochako. I offered Ochako a hand and helped her up. Thank you for saving me. Ochako smiled brightly as she held my hand. Why was she so cute? OMG girl you are so adorable. Kami spoke up for me making the other girl blush. I laughed as we went back inside. We said our goodbyes and I made my way home. I was excited. I knew I made it in, or maybe Aizawa saw that I did something wrong and convinced Nezu to put me in general education. But all that I can do is wait until I receive my results. Chapter 2 Chapter Summary starting the first day with a bang. Okay, it's been a whole week since I took the exam. I got rid of some of the All Might merchandise in my room. Mom was confused why. I told her that I wanted to store it to preserve it. I think she believed me. I also spent the week working on full cowling. I was able to turn it on at will and regulate the power from 5% to 10% for a short amount of time. Still need to build muscles. I was lifting weights in my room in deep thought. Soon. I jumped to see Mom coming in with a letter, just like in the anime. Izuku. It's here. It came. It's here. Mom was crawling on the floor with the letter in hand. I immediately took it and Mom left to give me some privacy, even if I know that I got in it's a little nerve-wracking. I opened the letter carefully and took out the holodisc. I placed it on my desk and it started to play. All Might in his yellow striped suit appeared on the holographic projection in front of him, declaring, Booyah, I am here, as a projection, now. I smile. Classic All Might. The truth is that I didn't just come here to fight villains. You're looking at the newest UA faculty member. All Might looked off screen. Yes, what's the matter? Who's showboating? Oh, sorry, I'll wrap it up but I have to show him something first. Wait, I need to do how many of these things? I chuckled in amusement. Alright, moving on. Congratulations, you have passed both the written exam and have 40 combat points in the practical exam. But that's not all there is. You see there was a hidden task in the exam. We have rescue points. The screen changes to show the leaderboard and I got 50 rescue points. I was in first place with 90 points in total. Congratulations again young Midoriya, this is your hero academia. The projection vanished and I got up with a wide grin. I opened the door and hugged my mom. I got in. I felt the tears building in my eyes as Mom started to cry. Oh my baby, she squeezed the life out of me but I didn't care. I was going to UA and nothing was gonna stop me. Well, maybe I spoke too soon. After going back to Aldera, the school for jackasses and assholes, me and Bakugo were walking out of the principal's office after the principals congratulated us both in passing the exam. Bakugo has been glaring at me all day ever since he laid eyes on me. I can imagine why. I ruined his perfect origin story. As soon as class ended, I was pushed against the wall. I told you to not apply Deku, you don't listen. I glared. Why would I listen to you after everything you put me through? Bakugo's face changed from anger to shock by how the submissive Deku was standing up to him. I'm tired of you Bakugo, I'm gonna be a hero and you can't stop me. I yelled and this caused the explosive teen to raise his hand. Big mistake. His hand started to ignite with fireworks. As he thrust his hand to my face ready to use his quirk, I called upon full cowling and grabbed his hand. His eyes widened in shock as my body was covered in teal lightning. You have a... I pushed Bakugo away and walked past him. Yeah, I have a quirk now, but why would I tell you? I glared at him one last time and walked away. As I walked I felt a small part of me demanding why I did that. It was probably the part of Izuku that was not taken over by me. I had to. He needed to learn that if we were to become friends, he needed to be taught a hard lesson. Anyway, we would meet again at UA. I needed to train my body to use one for all at a higher percentage. So that's what I did. I trained harder with one for all. I could feel my grip on the quirk getting better. A month passed. I got my UA uniform and looked up how to tie a tie and let me tell you, it was a pain. Okay, here and here. Nope, I groaned and undid my tie trying again. Mom was watching in amusement. Izuku, I don't think you're doing it right. Well, I know that much. I mumbled and kept trying. I was gonna get this. I was training to be a pro hero. I had the power of All Might in me. I wasn't gonna fail. All Might, I need your help. I said as we were on the beach one night. The number one hero in his true form looked at me in amusement as I looked so defeated, the tie around my neck. What happened, young Midoriya? I slowly lifted the tie. I don't know how to tie a tie, I mumbled, but All Might heard it and started to snicker. Okay then, this I know how to do. He kneeled in front of me and started to show me how to tie my tie. Don't worry, I had trouble with this when I was your age. Did your sensei help you? I saw him stiffen. Either it was Nana or Gran Torino. Yeah, my sensei. He looked down sadly. All Might? He looked at me and gave me a smile. Don't worry, young Midoriya, just focus on doing what you can for now. I nodded. How that was the name of the next episode. Weird. March today was the day I trained for. I had my bag. My tie was correctly tied. I put on my shoes and looked at my mom. Her eyes were filled with tears of pride. I'm so proud of you. I smile and come close, kissing her cheek. I love you. She looked shocked but smiled widely. I love you too, sweetie. I left and ran to the train station. I arrived just 10 minutes before classes were supposed to start. I walked up to the big door of Class 1A and took a deep breath. This was the first step. I just needed to take it. I grabbed the handle of the door and went inside. That the room was filled with people. Remove your feet from that desk. Such an action is insulting to those who came to UA before us as well as the craftsman who made the desk. Iida was scolding Bakugo, who could care less. I sighed. High maintenance as usual, Iida. I walked in and was stopped by Iida. Hello, my name is Tenya Iida. I'm from… I cut him off. Same Academy, I heard. I'm Izuku Midoriya. He gave me a look. You saw the hidden aspect of the exam, didn't you? I hate to admit that you are far more superior than me. I sighed. I didn't really. I just did what we came here to do. We're here to train to save people. I looked at him. We got off on the wrong foot. I just won't tolerate someone assuming that I'm something I'm not. Iida blinked. Ah yes. I apologize for my previous behavior. I would be happy to start over. I smiled and we shook hands. Yo Izuku. I turned to see Kami in a UA uniform. No stockings. Wow. Oh Kami, you made it. I grinned. Yeah, I have you to thank for it. Thanks for it, bro. She winks and I could feel heat coming off my cheeks. Oh, we're in the same class. I see Uraraka coming up behind Kami. You made it too. Kami hugged Uraraka. Whoa, 3 major hotties. I heard Kaminari say behind me, deal with him later. Come on, we should take our seats before our sensei. I stop and look behind the 2 girls. I see a big yellow caterpillar on the floor. Yup, that's our teacher. If you're here to make friends, I suggest you go elsewhere. I step back as Aizawa gets out of his sleeping bag and walk inside. It took you 4 seconds to quiet down. Good, time is precious. He gets behind the podium and takes out the UA gym uniform. Put these on and meet me outside. I immediately take it and run outside. Aizawa looks at the door, then at the rest of the students who are still trying to process what's happening. Well, get going. The whole class takes their own uniform and heads to the locker room. I changed into the gym uniform and was the first one out. I started stretching, getting ready for the tests ahead. I saw Aizawa come and gave me a blank look before nodding in approval. You know the importance of time, so you're the first placer. Yes, sensei, I nod. The rest of my classmates come out and gather in front of Aizawa. We'll be testing your quirks, a test of quirks. Everyone but me asks in unison, creepy. But what about the entrance ceremony? We're gonna miss it. Stuff like that is a waste of time. We have free reign on how we run our classes. You will be going through a series of tests. He takes a ball from his back pocket and throws it at me. I catch it. Midoriya, how far could you throw in middle school? Okay, this is different. Let's see, 80 meters. I replied. Okay, now try it with your quirk. Stand in the circle. I walked to the center of the circle. Sensei, do I have to go all out? I asked. Aizawa raised an eyebrow. Yes, you can do anything as long as you stay in the circle. I started to explain. I can only use at least 20%. If I go any more, my bones will break. Aizawa narrowed his eyes. Okay, fine. Go at your current limit, but I also want to see you at 100% after everyone else. I gulp and nod. Okay, prepare for excruciating pain. I charged 20% throughout my body and I could feel my bones aching. What was better, a throw? No, a kick. I threw the ball up and kicked high. My aim was true as the ball shot into the sky. I was surprised by how strong it was. Wow, that was so powerful. Just like in the exam. I heard behind me, but I ignored them as I looked at Aizawa. He looked at his phone and then held it up for everyone to see. 813.4 meters. Wait, what? This is who you're striving to surpass. He wasn't even going at 100%. Whoa, wait. He's putting me up on top. Everyone looks at me. Bakugo looked ready to explode. To give you more initiative, whoever gets last place will be expelled. My classmates gasped. But that's not fair, Mina exclaimed. I knew he wouldn't, but I didn't want to test my luck. Welcome to the hero course of UA High School. Aizawa brushed his hair back with that creepy smile on his face. Now the fun began. The first event was the 50-meter dash. I was pitted against Bakugo. I waited for the gun to go off, channeling 10%. The gun went off and I dashed towards the finish line at high speed. I stopped after passing the finish line, 2.50 seconds. The automated voice announced. I grinned, that was better. 4.13 seconds, I saw Bakugo land next to me and he gave me a dark glare. The second event was the grip strength test. I held the device and channeled 20% and gripped hard. I heard it beeping and took a look. 325 kg good, second to Shoji. I looked at the gentle giant who gave me a thumb up. I returned it with one of my own. I stretched a bit preparing to do the third event, the standing long jump. Aizawa was watching me like a hawk. I shouldn't disappoint. I took a deep breath and made the jump. I didn't put much strength into this, I needed it for the next one. Fourth event, sidestepping. I used 5% and came in first, since Mineta wasn't here to take it. I finished and walked to the rest of my classmates. Dude, that was awesome. You're acing these tests like they're nothing. Kirishima walked over. It's very manly, I smile. Thanks, you're not doing so bad yourself. Izuku Midoriya. I greeted Nejire Kirishima. He gave me a toothy smile. I turned to see Uraraka throwing the ball into the sky and waited and waited. Mr. Aizawa showed us the result. It showed the infinity symbol. Infinity? I gave Uraraka a thumbs up. Good one. Thanks. The bubbly girl came back to the group. Next was Bakugo. Hey, let's see how he fares. D. He blasted the ball into the sky with all he had. Aizawa showed the score. I had to bite my tongue. 710.4 meters. Wow, just a little farther. Damn it. Bakugo glared at me as he passed. Damn Deku, he growled. Mr. Aizawa threw me another ball. Use your full power this time. He ordered. I gulped. Better brace yourselves. I warned as I walked to the center of the circle again. I pumped 100% into my whole arm. The power becoming too much, I threw it as hard as I could and boom. I bit my lip to hold in my scream of pain as the ball was launched into the sky, breaking the sound barrier. I held my arm, gritting my teeth. Fuck, how did the original Izuku go through this? I looked at Aizawa and he looked surprised.
So how's that? I gave him a shaky grin. I'm good. Aizawa hummed as he looks at his phone. He then shows the score, 1,240 meters. I could feel the looks I was getting from my classmates. Go to recovery girl, get that healed and head back to the classroom. I nodded and walked back inside. I found the nurse's office after a few minutes. The door was open, so I simply walked in.
Recovery girl looked up from her desk and scowled at me. I remember you. You broke your arm again? I flinched. Mr. Aizawa asked me to use 100%? I explained. The old woman glared at me but sighed. I will have to speak to him later. Sit down. I'll heal you right up. I obeyed and sat on the bed. Recovery girl used her quirk and healed my broken arm. I could feel myself getting tired, and as soon as it was done, I was still able to move but felt like I needed to sleep. I saw your performance in the exam. You used 1 for all correctly. Please be sure to keep it that way. I blinked and looked at her, trying to look surprised. Yes, I know about All Might and his quirk. I was the one who healed him whenever he had an injury after all. I nodded as she shooed me out of the office and I walked back to the locker room. The real classes wouldn't start until tomorrow, so I just had to go home and rest. At least I had more stamina now, or else I would have passed out. I changed and made my way out of UA. I had a long day, just wanted to sleep. Midoriya. I looked behind me to see Iida, Kirishima, Mina and Kami. Oh hi. I turned to them. I see recovery girl healed your arm fully. Iida said in an uptight tone. You okay? I heard that getting healed by her is pretty tiring. Kirishima asked. Yeah, I stopped to yawn and covered my mouth. I'm pretty tired. I replied. Well, how about we walk to the station? Kami asked as she hugged my right arm with a smile. I couldn't help but blush and pull away. That would be nice. I accepted politely. Hey, we looked back to see Uraraka running towards us. Are you walking to the station? Wait for me. She stopped in front of us. Oh, you're Infinity Girl. Mina recognized her. Oh hi. I'm Mochako Uraraka. Uraraka introduced herself, Nejire Kirishima. And I'm Mina Ishido. I am Tenya Iida. It's nice to meet you all. I smiled. I was making friends. By the way, why did that angry Pomeranian call you Deku? Mina asked. Wait, who is she? Oh, Bakugo. He isn't gonna like that name. Mina shrugged. I call it how I see it. Well, that's his nickname for me. I replied, but it means useless, doesn't it? Iida asked. Yeah, I didn't manifest my quirk until I was older, so he called me that to make fun of me. Uraraka frowned. Really? Well, to me it sounds more like Dekiru. Like you can do it, you know? I looked to the bubbly girl with a blush. You can call me that if you want. I gave her a genuine smile. Really, just like that? Mina asked with teasing grin. I blushed hard. I mean, yeah, she's taking something that was an insult and making it a good nickname. I tried to explain, but the smile on Mina's and Kirishima's faces showed that they didn't believe me. Well, I think Deku sounds cute. Kami hugged my arm again. Uraraka saw this and pouts hugged my other arm. Deku, let's walk to the station together. Kami tugged me towards her. He's gonna be walking with me. Uraraka pulls me back. I asked him first. We are all going to the station. We should all walk together and not fight. Iida exclaimed as he did the arm chopping motions.
I was a blushing mess. Why was this happening to me? What has changed? I need my arms back, please. The two girls blinked, then stepped back. Oh yeah, recovery girl healed your arm. Is it okay? Ochako asked. It's better. Why was I stuttering? Well, if you need help just ask me, okay bruh. Oh, and here's my number. Kami handed me a piece of paper with her number on it. Oh yeah, I forgot to give you mine too. Ochako took out a pen and paper and hastily wrote her number down and handed it to me. Thank you both, I'll text you two later. We started to walk to the station. I saw Kirishima giving me a thumbs up with a grin. Nice one. I lit up like Christmas. It's not like that. But he wouldn't listen. What was I getting myself into? Chapter 3. Chapter Summary. Battle training starts. A new costume is made. A fated battle takes a different turn and Bakugo makes a startling revelations that hits very close to home. Chapter Notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. My second day at UA, I was nervous about the battle ahead of me, but first I had to go through something that will test my patience. English class. I stared at Present Mike as he asked us which sentence was wrong. I raised my hand. I was sure Momo did the same behind me. Midoriya. Mike pointed at me, it's the fourth sentence. I answered, correct. I was glad that I was able to speak and understand Japanese. It would have been weird to only know English. I take some notes on the subject but also think of some moves I could use against Bakugo when we fight. And lastly, my costume. Mom did get me the jumpsuit but I told her that I could use this as the base. She agreed. She knew I needed more protection. I needed a costume that could handle my quirk. I decided to ask All Might. Flashback. You need help with the costume. All Might asked through the phone. Yeah, I want to be sure that it can handle my quirk and I also want to add a little something to it. A support item. I spoke as I sat on my bed. Do you know a good support company? I asked. Ah, yes, I know someone who would be happy to help. But it'll take quite a while. Just send me the papers and I'll send it to him. I had a feeling that I knew who this person was but I wasn't gonna get my hopes up. Thank you All Might, I really hope I'm not bothering with this. Haha, not at all young Midoriya. I smiled and hung up the phone. Flashback end. The costume should be ready today. I really hope it comes out the way I expected it to come out, especially the support item I asked for. English ends. Time for lunch. I sit down with Iida and Ochako. We meet the pro hero lunch rush and I take a bite of the best food I ever tasted. Wow, this is amazing. I complimented him as I took another bite of my chicken. Thanks, always love to see people enjoying my cooking. Lunch rush leaves and Kami comes over sitting next to me. Hey Deku. I blush as she smiles at me. Hey Kami. I tried my best not to stutter. Mina and Kirishima sit down with us setting their trays down. So who do you think will be teaching hero basics? Mina asked as she ate some of her beef. I heard that All Might be teaching. Kirishima answered. I chuckled and ate some more rice. We finished lunch and walked to the classroom. I sat down at my desk and waited. I then smiled. Hearing the familiar catchphrase, I am here. I looked to the door seeing All Might coming into the room. Coming through the door like a hero. His booming voice filled the room then was replaced with the excited chatter of my classmates. I watched my mentor march into the room and stand behind the desk. Welcome to the most important class of UA High, think if it is harrowing 101. He announced, here you will learn what it means to be a pro and fighting in the name of good. I bit back a laugh from how over the top it sounded. Let's get into it. He then pulled out a card with the words battle on it. In this class you will pull no punches. I could feel Bakugo grinning in front of me, fight training. He was clearly excited to fight. One of the most important things of being a hero is looking good. All Might points to the wall as the suitcases come out of the wall for us to take. Suit up and meet me at training ground beta. I get up and take my suitcase and All Might pull me aside. I hope the costume is good enough. My friend had his daughter work on it as a project. He whispered to me. Also Melissa did this. I made my way to the locker room and sat down. I opened the suitcase and saw my costume. The jumpsuit was dark green and black. I see a small letter and take it. I opened it and read it. Mr. Midoriya, my name is Melissa. My dad asked me to help with your hero costume. Your request was simple enough. The support item though was hard to make, but I love a challenge. It's almost indestructible, I assure you. I would like to talk to you about it more. I put my email here so we can talk. I hope that the costume serves you well. Melissa Shield. I smiled and seized the email underneath. I put the letter in my bag and took out the suit. I put on the jumpsuit and metal boots. It was similar to Deku's original costume Gamma. I had the steel boots, the white arm-length gloves, but on my right arm was a armguard, my support item. I look around seeing I was the only one there. I activated it and a black circular shield expanded around my arm. It was similar to Taskmaster's shield in the Black Widow trailer. I had some practice but now it was time to put this to the test. I deactivated the shield and put on my utility belt, my respirator around my neck and pulled on the steel boots. I left out the hood because I'll be honest, it looked ridiculous. I replaced it with a green visor that matched with the respirator. I ran out of the locker room and out into the opening. I saw everyone ready and waiting on me. Sorry I'm late. I told everyone. I looked around and smiled. I was here with these amazing heroes. I knew the potential they all had. I could push them further with the right nudges. Whoa Deku, awesome costume. Ochako complimented me. I turned to the anti-gravity heroine. Her costume was the same as the anime at this time. Thanks, you look amazing. I returned the compliment making her blush and rub the back of her head. This bodysuit is skin tight, not really my style. Well maybe it helps by pressing the pressure points to help with the nausea. I chimed in, Ochako owed, I didn't think of that. And what about mine? Kami asked as she came up to us. I looked at her and blushed. She was wearing the cat suit she was wearing in Shiketsu but instead of her cap she had a respirator with tubes connected to it that lead to 2 gauntlets. Wow you look great, but what's that for? Ochako looks at the gear Kami had on. You'll see when it's my turn. She winked at me. I knew her quirk and what she could do. This was a good idea. She kinda reminded me of Mysterio. I held back a laugh as I imagined her with a fishbowl head. Alright listen up everyone, now that you're all ready, let's get started with combat training. All Might announced as everyone looked at the number 1 pro hero. Iida in his Ingenium costume raised his hand. Sir, this is the fake city from our entrance exam, does that mean we will be conducting urban battles again? Iida asked. Not quite, I'm gonna move you 2 steps ahead. Most of the villain fights you see take place outside, but in reality, the real battles take place indoors. All Might explained. Backroom deals, home invasions, secret underground lairs. The pro listed out, the most intelligent criminals stay hidden in the shadows. I think back to the Shihisaikai raid and chewed on my lip. What was I gonna do about Eri? I needed to find a way to save her before something bad happens to her from meddling in the timeline. For this training exercise you will be put into teams of good guys and bad guys and fight 2-on-2 indoor battles. Isn't this a little advanced? I looked to the side to see Suyu Asui in her froppy costume. The best training is what you get on the battlefield. But remember, you can't just punch a robot this time, you'll be dealing with actual people now. I took a deep breath, hoping for the same team as in canon. My classmates start to ask questions, but I stay quiet until All Might stops the questions and start to read from his script. Classic All Might, #1 hero but a rookie teacher. Time is limited and we'll choose teams by drawing lots. I see All Might hold up a box. Isn't there a better way? Iida asked. Well, life is unpredictable. You can't always choose who you work with on the field. This will help us prepare for that scenario. Iida nodded. Ah yes, that makes sense. Excuse my rudeness. Iida bows. I rolled my eyes. All Might waved him off. No sweat, let's roll. I stepped up and took a ball with the letter A from the lots. I waited for everyone else to draw from the box. Ochako came up to me holding a ball with A on it as well. Look, Deku, we're on the same team. She cheered. I smiled and nodded. Yeah, I'm glad. I looked to see Kami and Momo in the same team. So no Mineta, good. I didn't want to deal with that grape. I looked to All Might, who was drawing lots from the hero and villain boxes. He then drew 2 balls. I inhaled sharply, seeing that me and Ochako would be against Bakugo and Iida. Well, at least I was planning on it. Everyone can head to the monitor room to watch. Everyone agreed and I looked to Bakugo, who was staring at me. Not glaring at me, but staring. Like he was trying to figure me out. I blinked as he turned and went with Iida into the building. That was odd. The heroes will wait 5 minutes and then will be let loose and the battle will start. All Might gave us a pair of earpieces along with the layout of the building. I put mine on and took the building plans. Bakugo. Bakugo was deep in thought as Iida knocked on the weapon. Fake, of course. Those words filled his head. Deku wasn't the same as before. He was different, too different. He had a quirk. He was showing confidence. He was fighting back. Bakugo, are you listening? Iida asked. The explosive teen scoffed. What is it? He asked. We need to come up with a plan. I suggest, but Bakugo cut him off. You stay here and guard the weapon. I'm gonna blast Deku to hell. He marched to the door. Wait, Bakugo. But he left before Iida could stop him. Bakugo growled. That's not Deku. He's a fake. Midoriya. I looked at the layout and hummed. A plan started to form in my head. So you have a plan? Ochako asked. I looked at her. Yeah, listen up. Ochako turns to me with her full attention. Once we get inside, Bakugo is gonna come after me right away. I know how he thinks. He probably wants to blow me up to hell. I sighed. So once he reaches us, I need you to go and find the weapon. So it's like a rivalry? Ochako asked with a tilt of her head. No, we were friends a long time ago, but not anymore. Anyway, as you find the bomb, I'll try and take Bakugo out of the fight as fast as I can, then we can confront Iida together. Why not take Bakugo together? He seems really tough. She suggested. I shook my head. He'll be focused on me. He'll just push you aside. Let's use that. Besides, no offense, but he's a very good fighter. Ochako nodded. I understand that. Okay, let's do this. Start. All Might announced through the speakers. Ochako and I run into the building and keep an ear out for explosions, my respirator over my mouth and visor over my eyes. As we make a turn, I hear rushing footsteps. I instantly push Ochako back and expand my shield, blocking the explosion, wasting no time. I shield bash Bakugo, hearing him fall with a grunt. I swing the shield, blowing away the smoke. I look behind me. Are you okay, Uraraka? I asked. Ochako was already standing. I nod towards the hallway. She looked at me for a moment before nodding and running past the recovering Bakugo to search for the bomb. I knew you would be after me, Bakugo. I collapsed the shield and walked towards him. He gave me a hard stare as he rubbed his nose. I must have hit his nose. I looked at his gauntlets. I needed to break them, minimize collateral damage. Who are you? I raised an eyebrow at his question. What are you talking about? He glared at me. You're not Deku, so who are you? My expression soured. The Deku who let himself be your punching bag. I tightened my fist. The Deku who you always called useless. Vermilion lines started to form around my body. One for All was responding to my emotions, years of buried resentment and anger. The Deku who you told to give up his dreams of being a hero. I glared. No, I'm not that Deku. I changed. I got into a fighting stance as teal lightning covered my body. Deku is the name of a hero. I declared. Bakugo growled and charged at me with his famous right hook. I took a hold of his arm and pulled the grenade gauntlet off while elbowing his stomach hard, stunning him. I threw the gauntlet away and ran towards him. Bakugo shook his head and tried to blast me, but I expanded my shield and raised it in front of me. Bakugo grabbed the shield and tried to blast me, but he was surprised when he saw that I wasn't there. He turned just in time to see me ready to strike. Detroit smash. I punched him across the cheek, sending him flying to the wall. I dashed towards him and pinned him to the ground. Sorry, Bakugo, I can't afford to let our past get in the way of our academics at the moment. I punched the back of his head, knocking him out. All Might. All Might stared at the screen as Midoriya knocked out Bakugo with ease. Whoa, he just took out Bakugo like it was nothing. Kaminari exclaimed. Yeah, and did you see his moves? Ojiro commented. I couldn't predict what he was gonna do next. I believe that was the point. Momo replied. Bakugo was expecting Midoriya to block his explosion and attempted to hold the shield in order to attack, but didn't expect him to remove his arm from the shield and move to attack from behind. He also ended the battle without any collateral damage. Correct. Remember, students, when fighting villains, attempt to subdue them before they can cause any harm to civilians that may be watching. All Might lectured. He then looked at Midoriya. What was young Bakugo talking about? Midoriya. I got up after wrapping the capture tape around Bakugo's wrists and picked up my shield that was connected to my glove. Bakugo was expecting me to be predictable, so I fought unpredictably. Thank you Naruto for teaching me to be unpredictable. Bakugo has been eliminated. Okay, now Iida knows we're coming for him. I press the earpiece. Uraraka, have you found the bomb yet? I collapsed the shield. I found it. It's on the 3rd floor with Iida guarding it. I'm waiting for you. Uraraka whispered, on my way. Go in and distract him. I started to run up the stairs until I reached the 3rd floor and I started to hear talking from a room which I suspect is where the bomb is. I can't just go in without a plan. Hey, time to do a little stealth. I go into the room next to the bomb room and open the window. I took a deep breath stealing my nerves and crawled out and held onto the ledge. I shimmied to the other window. Thank God for my training or else I would have fallen. I stopped at one of the windows, which was open and heard Iida monologuing, a villain's greatest downfall. I peeked in to see Iida in front of the bomb and speaking to Uraraka. I quietly crawled inside and met Uraraka's eyes. With full cowling I grabbed the bomb. Hero team wins. Iida froze and looked behind him, but how did you? I pointed at the window. It was easy but let's go back and I'll explain. Iida slumped down. I failed. I pat his back. Don't worry, failure is a part of learning. Learn from your mistakes and you'll be fine. I assured him. Uraraka ran to me and hugged me tightly. We won. I blushed and hugged her back. Let's go and meet everyone else. Iida, can you please go and wake up Bakugo? He's on the 2nd floor. I looked at Iida who nodded and ran out of the room. Once Iida woke Bakugo, who looked to be in shock. I can't really blame the guy, the weakest person he knew just beat him in a mock battle. We all made our way to the monitor room. Kirishima offered his fist for me to bump. Nice one bro. I smiled and bumped fist with him, thanks. All Might clapped his hands getting everyone's attention. Good, you're all here. Now tell me who is the MVP of this round. Probably Iida since he stuck to the exercise. Momo raised her hand. It was Midoriya sir. I blinked and turned to the rich girl. Midoriya came up with a plan to take down Bakugo while Uraraka searched for the bomb, divide and conquer. Okay, that was my plan. I'm surprised she was able to come up with that conclusion. Okay, now I'm just underestimating her. He also took out Bakugo quickly and efficiently, without causing any damage to the building and knocked him out in order for Bakugo to not follow him should he try to escape his bounds. He also sneaked into the room holding the bomb without Iida noticing and disarmed the bomb quietly. Everyone stared at her for a few minutes. Why yes, that is exactly what I was thinking. The MVP is Midoriya. I chuckled and looked at Iida. Hey Iida, a word of advice, don't monologue so much. Iida looks at me. Villains monologue but they also pay attention. I explained. The engine hero nodded. Yes, I will keep that in mind. Since I wasn't in the nurse's office this time, I was able to watch the next battles. It was almost the same as the anime but I could see more. When it came to Momo and Kami, they won in a landslide. Kami was able to redirect Kirishima and Shiro away from the bomb room long enough for time to run out. Todoroki froze the whole building and touched the bomb. I frowned at his actions. He was still in his daddy issues phase. I needed to fight him in the festival. One step at a time. The heroics class ended and we all went back to the locker rooms to change. I was praised by my actions in the battle against Bakugo, and said boy was glaring at me, as usual I suppose. We were all in the classroom in math class. I thank whoever sent me here for letting me keep Izuku's knowledge. I was able to listen and take notes without getting lost in the numbers. At last it was time to get ready to go home. Hey dude. I looked up from putting my books in my bag to see Kaminari. I need to ask you something. Are the 2 girls you were talking to on the first day single? I gave him a sour look. Dude, I wouldn't know but I think you're barking up the wrong tree. I looked to the other side of the room to see Jiro talking to Momo. Beside, I think that's more your type. Kaminari looks at Jiro then back at me. Why do you think that? I put my bag on my back. Well, because you two seem to have a good vibe going in battle training. If you want my advice, just go slow and be friends first, get to know her and see if you two can hit it off. Kaminari smiles. Well, thanks man, I'll do just that. He walked away. Yes, I shall have my Kami Jiro. I walked out of the classroom and to the gate. I saw my friends talking to our other classmates so I didn't bother them. I stopped at the gate to see Bakugo waiting. We need to talk. I narrowed my eyes. Bakugo, we have nothing to talk about. He growled. Who are you? I rolled my eyes. Are you still on that? I'm not an imposter or anything like that. Bakugo, so stop assuming such. You're not Izuku Midoriya. I was surprised to hear him say my name without the Deku in it. Bakugo. No, you act way too different to be him. He always mumbled when he had too much in his mind. He fanboys about heroes. You don't mumble at all. You didn't even bat an eyelash when we met the other heroes here. Bakugo screamed. I couldn't take it anymore. And how would you know if I'm not the real Izuku? All you did was push me down like I was nothing. I screamed at him with tears streaming down my cheeks. I changed. You don't like it. I don't care. I panted and took a deep breath. I want us to be friends again. I don't see you as weak nor am I trying to pull you to my level. I just want us to be friends like we used to. I never looked down on you. You were always my symbol of victory, Kachin. Bakugo's eyes widened as he stepped back. I'm telling you this because I respect you. If you don't want to be my friend then just stop bothering me and I won't bother you. Let's have a working relationship and get through high school together. We stared at each other for what seems like eternity. I decided that we were finished and walked past him. I was walking away from the gate until I felt a big hand on my shoulder. I turned to see All Might looking at me. You heard. I simply said. The hero nodded. Are you okay? I took a moment to think about it. I don't know, but that depends on Bakugo. If he wants to be friends, he has to make the effort. If he doesn't, I tried. I wanted to tell you I'm proud of how you handled the situation. I could tell you two had history and yet you pushed it aside for the mission, even if it was fake. All Might praised. I couldn't help but smile at his praise. Thank you All Might, that means a lot coming from you. What did he mean when he said you weren't the real Izuku? Alright, All Might must have heard from the battle training. I changed All Might. Bakugo always expected me to be the weak and defenseless Deku, but I won't always be that. All Might nodded. Alright, I suppose that makes sense. Now go home and get some rest. You have a new day tomorrow. I grinned and started to walk home. He was right. Tomorrow, no, this week entirely was gonna be eventful. Chapter end notes. Here is a new chapter of Remastered. I hope you enjoy this chapter. Sorry about the fight scene, but it really isn't my forte. Chapter 4. I was on my computer typing an email to Melissa. I thanked her for the costume and the shield, nothing too long. Hopefully she and I could be friends. I sent it and opened a new tab downloading music from my old time, well whatever I could find. Surprisingly there were some songs that didn't exist. Sadly Marvel didn't exist, neither did DC, not many superheroes I know from my world. I leaned back on my desk chair, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow would be the day that Shigaraki infiltrated UA. I can't do much about it, I don't even know where he would be. I got up and started to lift some dumbbells. If I kept this up I could maybe use 10% full cowling, maybe I could even make a new move. I took out my notebook, the same one Bakugo burned. I opened a page for myself. Okay, I had full cowling, a state where I can use OFA at 5%, then I have the smashes, Manchester, Street. Lewis. Delaware, Air Force. I needed to get Hatsume to work on the gloves. Maybe I could also ask Melissa if I could get the two to work together. I shivered remembering the manga where the two met. Okay, next one. Harlem Smash, a clapping attack based on the Incredible Hulk movie. I could probably use Delaware Smash at a certain percentage to let me fly from recoil, like Bakugo's explosive flying. I also had my shield but I'm not really reliant on it. I need to make a fighting style for it, defender style. I'll work on the name. Overdrive, a state where I'm pushing my limits to 25-30% but I can't hold it for so long. Then there is 100%. I can't use it yet until my body is stronger. I also need to think of the quirks that will come with it, float, black whip and danger sense. I wish I could have found out the other quirks. I looked at the pages and realized I wrote a lot. Well, at least I don't have to worry about losing my analytical mind. I erased the parts that are confidential and put the notebook away. I lay on my bed and closed my eyes, welcoming sleep. The next day I was walking with headphones on. Music always calmed me down. I stopped when I saw the wave of reporters outside of UA, looking for All Might. I just walked forward the crowd and the vultures turned to me. They started asking me questions about All Might. At least I thought they were. I had the headphones on, the volumes all the way up. I made it to the gate to see President Mike and Mr. Aizawa. Aizawa looked at me, then his eyes landed on my headphones. He made, "Get inside," gesture. I gave a nod and walked inside. I put the headphones away and made it to my classroom. I waved at Uraraka and Iida. Kami winked at me and Kirishima offered me a fist bump which I accepted. Bakugo walked inside and stared at me for 3 minutes before sitting in front of me. No insult, no Deku, nothing. Maybe there was hope. Class will be starting momentarily. Take your seats. Iida ran inside the classroom. I laughed a bit. We're all in our seats already. You're the only one standing. Sue bluntly stated. Iida sat down embarrassed. Aizawa walked in. You're all seated and quiet. Good, you're learning. Mr. Aizawa stepped behind his podium. I went through yesterday's heroics class. I just want to say, Bakugo, stop looking down on people and learn the value of working with others. You're in a hero school, act like it. Bakugo growled but stayed silent. Iida, you were too focused on one person. Pay attention to your surroundings, there might be someone to sneak attack you. Iida nodded. Yes sir. Okay, now onto business. Our first task will decide your future. I stopped myself from rolling my eyes as everyone tenses up. You will be picking a class representative. Everyone sighs in relief. I stay quiet as everyone raises their hand wanting to be picked for the leader spot. I tune out Iida's speech about voting. I remember it because it was so corny. It was class president, not Congress. I got handed a paper and Momo would be a good pick. I wrote her name down and handed it to Mina who took it. I waited until they wrote down the end results. I looked at the board and blinked in surprise. 5 votes, Momo had 3, everyone else had 1 or 0 votes. Momo and I stood next to each other. Okay, Midoriya is your class president and Yaoyorozu is your vice president. I looked at Momo and gave her a smile. I look forward to working with you. Momo stared at me for a good minute as if she was trying to read my expression, then smiling back, same. We go to the cafeteria for lunch and I get a bowl of beef ramen, one drool at the sight and sit with my friends. Momo joins us this time. Congrats on the election, Deku. Kami sat down to my right with a smile on her face, while Uraraka sat on my left and looks at me with a beaming smile. Yeah, you'll be amazing. I blush. Geez, these girls. I honestly didn't want the position. I replied. Kirishima looks up from his meal. What, no way bro, you're perfect for the role. Iida nods. I agree, your tactical mindset makes you perfectly suited for the role, that's why I voted for you. You voted for him? Mina asked. I thought you wanted the position, with you wearing glasses and all. Oh, Chaco blunt as ever. I don't think that's a reason. Momo mumbled. I chuckled. Well, do you know of Ingenium? I look at him, of course. Iida smiles proudly. He is my elder brother. He confessed. Whoa, so you come from a long line of heroes. Kirishima exclaimed. That's so lit, being a family of heroes. I remember The Incredibles and stifled a laugh. I thought I recognized your hero costume. I suppose it makes sense that you would take inspiration from your older brother. Momo stated, taking a bite out of her salmon. I was about to speak until the alarms blared. I looked around as everyone started to panic. Damn, it's happening. Security level 3 has been broken. All students please evacuate in an orderly fashion. The automated voice in the speakers announced. Security level 3. Iida asked another student. It means that someone has infiltrated the building. An older student explained as he ran past. We all got up and started to leave also, but soon the hall was filled with people trying to leave but no one could move. It's the press. I heard Iida yell. I grunted and looked around for Uraraka. I pushed past more students and found her being squished against other students. I grabbed her hand and pulled her close. Uraraka, I need you to make me weightless. Ochako just stared at me with a more detailed blush on her cheeks but nodded and activated her quirk on me, making me float into the air. I angled myself towards the exit sign and put my hands behind me. 10% burst, Delaware smash. I flicked both of my middle fingers, shooting me towards the exit sign. I adjust my body so that my shoulder hits the wall. Damn, need to work on that. I look to the crowd of students. Everyone stop. I screamed at the top of my lungs, my voice cracking. All the students stopped and looked up at me. It's just the press. No need to panic. We're heroes in training. Stop acting like children and get a grip. I shouted, harsh, yes, but it was necessary. I saw the ashamed looks on some of the students' faces. It took 5 minutes for everyone to leave the hall. I was still floating. Don't worry, I got you. Uraraka put her fingers together, making me drop. I was able to land easily. I brushed my uniform. Thanks for the assist. I thanked her. No thank you. You were able to calm everyone down. Even if your words were harsh, they were true. Iida assured me. But you were the one who found out about the press. I argued, but you were the one who took action. As I said before, you are a suited candidate for the position of class president. Iida gave me a genuine smile. I couldn't help but blush at the praise and smile. Thank you. Soon we were back in class and I decided to stay as the class president. I knew that things were gonna take a turn once we started our rescue training. I honestly forgot when it took place, maybe tomorrow or the day after. I can't do anything until it happens. Katsuki Bakugo. Bakugo laid in his bed in his room, the moon shining through the window. He was staring at the ceiling in deep thought. Deku was different. When the nerd took the UA entrance, he was different. He had confidence. He stood up to him. That wasn't Deku. But who else could it be? It couldn't be a villain. A villain wouldn't know the stuff Deku knew if he hadn't stalked the nerd for years. He shook his head and got up, walking to the window. He gritted his teeth. Who is this imposter? Toshinori Yagi. All Might rubbed his face after finishing some paperwork, who knew being a teacher was so hard, he would prefer fighting villains instead. Thinking back to the battle trials, young Midoriya was amazing during the battle. His use of one for all was perfect, no backlash or anything. But something did stick with him. Young Bakugo accused young Midoriya of not being who he says he is. He remembers when he first met the young man. Midoriya was a fanboy and as thin as a stick. During the 10 months he was determined to clean the beach and finish the training. The day of the entrance exam, he noticed something was different with his successor. He wasn't as shy as before, he seemed to be more confident and outgoing. Did something happen during the week he left young Midoriya to his own devices? Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was nothing. 2 days later. Today, we'll be having a special class, one where All Might, myself and one other will supervise. Aizawa announced. Zero raised his hand as everyone mumbles to themselves, what will we be doing exactly? Aizawa took out a card, with the words rescue on it, preparing you for disaster relief, from fire to floods. It's rescue training. Everyone screamed in excitement. I gulped in nervousness. Maybe the USJ incident won't happen. I wasn't done. Aizawa glared, silencing everyone. Everyone quieted down. Aizawa continued while pressing a button. The walls extended with our hero costumes. It's up to you whether or not you want to wear your costumes, as some of them are not suited for this sort of activity. He explained. The training site is a bit remote, so we'll be going by bus. That is all. Get ready. I got up and took my suitcase with a heavy heart. I put on my costume and walked out with everyone in tow. We walked to the bus. Everyone had their costumes on. Bakugo didn't have his gauntlets. I was tempted to tell him that he might need them, but I didn't want to raise any suspicion. Midoriya, do you have a seating plan for the class? Iida asked. I gave him a look. Iida, I don't believe we need something like that. It is open seating. I replied. Iida looks at the bus more closely. Ah, you are correct. Apologies. Always so earnest. We all entered the bus. I took my seat with Sue and Kirishima. I rubbed the collapsed shield on my arm. I normally say what's on my mind. Suyu spoke up suddenly. I looked at her. Your quirk is really close to All Might's. She gave me her blank stare. Okay, her stare was kinda creepy. Is it? I asked. Well, strength enhancement quirks are really common. I rubbed the back of my neck. But All Might doesn't have lightning surrounding him when he uses his quirk. Kirishima stepped in. It's really pro material, not like my hardening. I frowned. Kirishima, your quirk is perfect for hero work. You can defend people with your body. We all need some defense with our offense. One of the reasons I have this shield. I raised my arm, expanding my shield and then collapsing it. Kirishima looked at me with a grin. Wow, I never thought of it that way, thanks. Aoyama sitting across from us joins in the conversation. My naval laser is the perfect mix of flair and offense. He spoke in his flamboyant tone. Mina put her hand on his shoulder. As long as you don't blow up your own stomach. I snickered as he gave the pink-skinned girl the stink eye. If we're talking offensive quirks, we have to mention Todoroki and Bakugo. Kirishima pointed at the two mentioned. But Bakugo is unhinged, he won't ever be popular. Su bluntly stated, what did you say, frog face? Bakugo screamed, standing up. I sighed, he's always been a bit rough around the edges, but his heart is in the right place. I attempted to defend him. You know, we've only known you for a while and we already know that your personality is flaming crap mixed with garbage. Kaminari roasted the explosive teen. I wanted to facepalm at how calm Kaminari was, especially when Bakugo was close to beating the hell out of him. Quiet down, we're here. Aizawa declared as the bus stopped. We exited and I looked up at the dome structure. I took a deep breath. Whatever happened, I would make sure that no one died. We stepped inside and I saw 13 standing by the stairs. Whoa, it's the space hero 13. I instinctively fanboyed. Uraraka fangirled next to me. I stopped and blushed. I still had some of Midoriya's old personality in me, I guess. The space hero spread her arms. Welcome to the unforeseen simulation joint. Or the USJ. As 13 introduced herself, I took a look around, my analytical mind working overtime. I had to get Iida out of the USJ as soon as Kurogiri tried to separate us. I tuned back into 13's speech about using our quirks in rescue situations. The students clapped at the end of 13's explanation. Aizawa walked up to the space hero. Where is All Might? He whispered, he's resting in the lounge. 13 raised 3 fingers. Crap, I forgot to tell All Might to not use up his time. Great. Alright. Aizawa sighed. Let's get started. I heard a strange sound. I had a feeling I knew what it was. I looked towards the fountain and saw a swirling purple portal manifesting. Mr. Aizawa. I got his attention and pointed at the portal. The 2 teachers looked at where I was pointing. Aizawa narrowed his eyes. I grit my teeth seeing Shigaraki with the hands of his family gripping his body. I couldn't help but shiver as I remembered his origin story. Is this part of the exercise? Kirishima asked. Stay back, those are real villains. Aizawa put on his goggles. Shouldn't there be alarms going off? Momo asked. Yeah, there should be. 13 replied. Kaminari, use your headgear to try and contact the outside. 13 commanded. 13 take care of the students. Aizawa then jumped into the fray of villains. We all ran to the door and were stopped by Kurogiri. Greetings, we are the League of Villains. I glared and put my mask on, ready to activate 10% of One for All. I turned to the side. I saw Iida and grabbed his arm. Iida, this is an order from your class president. On my signal I need you to go and run back to UA, bring back help. I whispered to him. I couldn't tell but I knew that he was giving a look of shock. I can't simply leave you all. Iida protested. Iida, we'll be okay, please trust me. As Iida was about to reply, Kurogiri started to use his quirk. 13 aimed her fingers but I acted faster. I activated full cowling and ran to the front of the group. Kami, give US cover. Harlem Smash. I gave a huge round of applause, sending a huge gust of wind towards Kurogiri, sending him back, dispersing some of his smoke. Kami got out of her shock, putting on her rebreather and breathed into the mask. The gloves let out her illusion smoke and covered the whole area. I turned to Iida. Go now. Iida looked at me for a moment before he ran full speed towards the door. Midoriya, that was reckless. 13 came up next to me. 13, I'm sorry but your quirk isn't right for this scenario. His quirk gives him the ability to create portals, if he makes one while you were using your quirk. He could use it against us, good call. 13 put her hands down. Iida was trying to open the doors. I could see Kurogiri recovering. I gritted my teeth, digging my feet on the floor and dashed towards the door. Midoriya. I ignored Iida's words and pulled the door open. Go. Iida slipped through the door and started to run back to UA. I grinned but it fell immediately. You won't get me again. Kurogiri yelled. I felt my body become weightless. My surroundings turned black. Next thing I know, I was falling towards the water of the aquatic rescue zone. I took a deep breath and straightened my body, diving feet first with my eyes closed. I dived and opened my eyes. I could see a shark villain coming towards me. I was about to kick to the surface but Su intercepted, kicking him away and grabbed me, taking me to the surface. Su threw me to the boat and I landed on my feet. I see Su come up with Zero. You two okay? I asked. Zero nodded. Yeah, I'm good, cold, but good. Zero was shivering a bit. I'm fine. Su replied. I got up and looked over the aquatic zone and glared at the villain swimming outside of the boat. The battle of the USJ has begun. Chapter 5. Chapter Notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. I was on the boat as I looked over the flood zone. The lake was filled with villains. Same as canon. With me was Zero and Tsuyu. Without Mineta, Zero took his place. Do you really think these grunts can beat All Might? Zero asked. I knelt next to the two. Maybe, I have a bad feeling with those 3 villains. I replied. Ribbit, you mean the ones with hands all over and the mist guy? Su asked. I nodded. And the big bird guy? Zero made a disgusted expression. The big muscly guy. I gave another nod. They give me a bad vibe. Su croaked. We just need to wait until Iida gets help. I shake my head. We can't just sit and wait. If we just wait, someone might get hurt, we have to fight. I told them. Zero's face morphed into one of determination and nodded. Su put a finger on her chin. So what do we do? The two looked at me for a plan. I blinked. Well, first things first, our quirks. I bet the villains don't know what they are. If they did, Asui, Su wouldn't be here. I explained, with a brief interruption from Su. Kiro, you're right. She looks at the city covered in flames. If I was thrown into that zone then I would have been in a disadvantage. Okay, if we're talking about quirks, I can make tape from the dispensers on my elbows. I look at his elbows. Can you control how sticky it can be? Zero nodded. Well, I have the abilities of a frog, I can stick to walls, my tongue can stretch to a maximum of 20 meters. Sue listed, I can also spit up my stomach to clean it and I can secrete some mucus, it's not poisonous but it just stings a little. Zero and I exchange looks before looking at her again. The last two aren't useful in this situation, so forget about them. Well, my quirk gives me super strength and I can regulate how much power I can use. If I use too much, my body won't be able to handle it. I explained. Ribbit, how much power can you use right now? Sue asked. Right now I can use 15% safely. I replied after giving it some thought. Zero blinked, but you're so strong already. I gave a short laugh. Yeah, I have an idea. I get up. Zero, if I can get all the villains in one spot, can you bind them together? Zero nodded. Yeah. I look at Sue. Sue, I need you to catch me after I gather all the villains. Sue got up. Got it. I grinned. Okay, wait for my signal. I clenched my fists. Overdrive. I activated one for all at 35%. I could feel my body straining from the pressure of my quirk. I looked at the two. Zero got ready, as did Sue. I jumped high and performed a front flip, Manchester smash. I axe kicked downwards, pressurized air shot through the water and just like in the anime, the water spreads and rushes back into the center. I feel pain in my leg. I gritted my teeth as I feel something wrap around my stomach. I look behind me to see Sue grabbing me with her tongue. I also see Zero swinging from his tape, binding the villains that were forced together. I smirked. Sue pulled me close and we landed. Zero landed next to us. That was awesome. Zero and I high-fived. I tried to stand and groaned. Sue looked at my leg. I waved her off. I'll be okay. I could walk. We walked back to the plaza. We need to check on Mr. Aizawa. Sue stared at me. I don't think that's a good idea. I looked back at her. I trust our teacher but I just want to go and make sure he's doing okay. I explained, making my two friends nod. Making our way to the plaza, we hid out of sight of the Eraserhead fighting villains. Shigaraki and Nomu were watching. I knew Shigaraki was waiting for the right moment. I looked up the steps to the door and saw my classmates trying to hold back Kurogiri. I could see Kami's mist was covering the area. I nodded in approval. I saw Shigaraki getting ready to run. I growled and got up. You two go and help 13 and the rest of our classmates. I didn't wait for a response as I kicked into overdrive and jumped into the fray. I intercepted Shigaraki and threw him away. I see Nomu running towards me. I jump back and dash towards Eraserhead and knock out a thug that was too close. Damn it, Midoriya, what are you doing here? I knew I was gonna get a lecture later on. Sorry Mr. Aizawa, but I knew you needed help. I see Shigaraki getting up. I expand my shield. Please trust me. I looked at Eraserhead's goggles. He growled but nodded. Fine, but stay behind me. Shigaraki screamed. Nomu, kill the green brat. He points at me. Nomu runs towards me. I raise my shield, one for all being pushed to 30%. I could feel the strength behind Nomu's punch as he struck my shield, sending me flying across the plaza. I rolled into a kneeling position and saw Nomu jumping towards me. I rolled to the side and threw a punch. I could feel his skin absorbing the shock and jumped back. I couldn't do any damage. I knew that. I had to wait until All Might arrived. I see Eraserhead was dodging Shigaraki. I needed to help him. I then heard a loud boom coming from the entrance. I looked up to see All Might looking furious. I only had one moment to say this. Laughing, I looked at Shigaraki, Kurogiri appearing by his side. Aha, you guys are so screwed now. All Might came down and grabbed me. Young Midoriya, are you alright? He asked as he placed me with the rest of my classmates. I nodded. Yeah, the bird guy is called Nomu. I think he has shock absorption. I told him. All Might nodded and gave me a thumbs up. Thanks for the information, just sit back and relax. All Might jumped back to the plaza and grabbed Aizawa. As soon as Aizawa was set down, he gave me a hard look. I turned to watch the battle as All Might fought the Nomu. The battle was intense and jaw-dropping, way different from watching it through a screen. I kept an eye on Kurogiri and Shigaraki. I could see the handy guy's giddiness. I needed to make sure. I felt two pairs of hands grab my shoulders and I was pulled back by Ochako and Kami were giving me stern looks. What were you thinking? They both asked me with rage and worry in their voice. I gulped and gave a weak grin. I wanted to help Mr. Aizawa. I tried, but the stares they gave me made me shut my mouth. We'll talk about your recklessness after we get out of here. Aizawa told me, making me nod. Being in trouble was way better than having him wrapped in bandages. I heard a loud crash, shifting my gaze. I saw All Might send Nomu flying through the ceiling and into the stratosphere. I grinned, but it soon faltered as I saw the steam coming off of All Might's body, more than in the anime. Thankfully the smoke from the lift-off covered him somewhat. Did me sending Iida early make All Might push his limit more than necessary? If Iida escaped later, then All Might would have more time. Crap, I didn't think of that. Where were the other teachers? My eyes widened as Shigaraki put his hand through one of Kurogiri's portal and, behind All Might. I stood up, activating overdrive at 35% and lunged towards my mentor. He won't hurt All Might. I won't let him. I needed to grab him. I felt power building in my left arm and black tendrils came out, ripping my glove to shreds. The tendrils shot towards All Might, wrapping around him. I landed on my feet and pulled hard, getting him out of reach of Shigaraki's decaying touch. I gritted my teeth as I could feel Black Whip slipping out of my control. No, not now. I needed to control it. I dialed 1 for all to 2%, hoping that the lack of power would make the quirk easier to control. Cheater. I expanded my shield just in time to see Shigaraki close to disintegrating me with his quirk. He grabbed my shield, which started to crumble. I slipped my hand out of the gauntlet, kicking him back, sending him flying with Kurogiri catching him. Black Whip vanished and I could feel my body aching, tiring. I locked eyes with Shigaraki. I could feel the hate in his glare. I heard explosions but I collapsed, slipping into unconsciousness. All Might. All Might was pushing past his limit as he fought Nomu. He couldn't move his body so much without reverting back to his true form. He saw the leader reach into a portal and was suddenly pulled to the side. Looking up, he was shocked to see his successor handling black whips coming from his arms. Midoriya pulled him away before the leader's hand could touch him through the portal that appeared right where All Might was standing. He didn't even notice until it was too late that the leader tried to grab Midoriya. Luckily he raised his shield and was glad for being pulled away as the shield decayed at the leader's touch. The black tendrils vanished and Midoriya collapsed. Mustering up the strength, he ran and caught his student before he hit the floor. Bakugo arrived. Trying to land a hit, but the leader and the warper left. Your days are numbered, All Might. The leader spoke as the two disappeared. Bakugo screamed, damn it. All Might looked down at his successor. Thank you, young Midoriya. He whispered. He would need to ask him about the black tendrils. The other teachers arrived too late. Thankfully no one was really hurt. Cementos was able to keep him covered as he turned back into his true form. Midoriya needed a hospital. Bakugo. After being thrown into one of the disaster zones with Shitty Hair, they both fought hard until they won. Shitty Hair wasn't so bad, he could fight good. But that didn't matter, he wanted a piece of that warper. Damn that Deku, he was always trying to take the spotlight. The real Deku wouldn't have done this. The real Deku was meek and shy, not confident and strong. Bakugo made his way to the plaza and was surprised to see All Might fighting that big bird guy. All Might punched the big guy out of the USJ. Like a real hero, winning against all odds. Kirishima was grinning ear to ear saying how manly it was. What was with this extra and manly? But what shocked him to his core was Deku lunging towards All Might using some black tentacles to pull All Might out of the handy fucker's reach. What the fuck? Deku never had tentacles. Now he knew that this was an actual imposter. He blasted down and tried to kill the handy fucker, but they teleported away. Damn it! He screamed in anger. He looked at All Might holding an unconscious Deku in his arms. He growled and the other teachers arrived. He would get his answers. Question mark. I opened my eyes and all I could see was black. I looked around. I couldn't see anything for miles. I recognized this place. Was I in One for All? I remember saving All Might and using Black Whip. Then passing out. You got it on the first try. A familiar voice said. I looked up and was shocked. In front of me was the 7th user of One for All, Nana Shimura. My jaw would have been to the floor if I had one right now. She was beautiful. She gave me a teasing smile. Thanks for the compliment. I blinked and then paled in horror. She can read my thoughts. Could she go through my memories too? Her smile became a smirk. Oh God. I covered my face embarrassed as Nana laughed. I am so sorry. I whispered as she patted my head. Don't worry, I know I'm attractive, but I'm surprised you have a thing for muscular women. I could feel my face becoming redder. Kill me. I moaned. Nana flicked my forehead, making me look up at her. Her expression was serious, so I stood up straight and paid close attention. We don't have a lot of time here. I know that you have knowledge of the future, since you already know about Black Whip and have some idea on how to use it, but you're making need to gain better control of One for All before you gain the next quirk. Nana explained. I nodded then blinked. Wait, then how did I manifest Black Whip then? The only reason you were able to manifest Black Whip was because of your anger and desire to protect. She smiles, patting my head. By the way, thank you for protecting Toshinori, but next time, do it with a smile. I gave her the best smile I had. Will do, Nana. Try to not get yourself killed. You have the advantage, but be sure to not lose it as you continue to change things. Nana poked my nose. Then her hands started to fade. I gasped as she stared at her fading arm. Huh, looks like my time is up. Good luck, Izuku. She gave me a thumbs up as she faded and the world turned black. I opened my eyes again to find myself staring at the white ceiling of the nurse's office. I looked to the side to see All Might in his true form laying in the bed next to me. He turned and waved. This was familiar. Good to see you awake. Sorry I was late. He apologized. I gave him a worried look. Is everyone else okay? I asked. All Might laughed. I should have expected that. Yes, everyone is fine. Besides us, no real casualties. I sighed in relief. Thank God. I mumbled. It's a good thing you came as soon as you did. Thank you. Haha, I should be thanking you. If you haven't pulled me away, I would have been dust. I flinched, imagining the image in my head. His expression turned serious. When you pulled me away from the leader, what was that? Those black tendrils? I thought you said you were quirkless. He asked. I should have expected that. The door opened with Recovery Girl and Naomasa Tsukauchi. I gulped. I needed to be careful with my words here if he used his quirk on me. I looked at All Might in fake panic. He waved me off. Don't worry, he's a friend of mine. He knows about our secret. I slowly nodded. Then my head exploded in pain. Recovery Girl hit me in the head with her cane. Your entire skeleton has cracks from you overusing your quirk. Your left arm and right leg is fractured. And you nearly got yourself killed. I cowered at the veteran heroine's wrath. Geez, she's terrifying. I looked at All Might for help, who was giving me a sympathetic smile. Traitor. I healed most of your injuries, but you need to take it easy for a while. Number. Training. Recovery Girl waved her cane, making me flinch and nod. Yes, ma'am. Tsukauchi cleared his throat, making the old lady back off. Sorry to interrupt, but I do need to ask. According to some of your classmates, you suddenly manifested tendrils. I looked through your medical records. You were quirkless before All Might gave you One for All, so what exactly happened? The detective asked. I might as well be honest. Well, I just need to hide certain stuff. Well, The best way I can explain it is that One for All is evolving. The quirk I used was Black Whip, the 5th user's quirk. I also met your master All Might, she's really pretty. Oh, and she told me I was gonna get 6 more quirks. I explained. All Might coughed up blood. Sukauchi looked at me shocked and Recovery Girl looked like she was getting a headache, which I probably was giving her. Well, that was the end of the USJ. No one got hurt and I was able to end the battle early. Pat on the back. Well, bad news is that I got myself stuck on Shigaraki's shit list for life probably. Omake. Shigaraki's shit list. Chapstick salesman. Lotion saleswoman. Green-haired boy. AN. 3 guesses on why it's so short. Chapter end notes. Sorry if there wasn't much action. I hope you all enjoyed this chapter. Chapter 6. Chapter summary. A fun afternoon with friends with a twist. Chapter notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. After explaining what was happening with One for All, Recovery Girl healed me until all I was left with was soreness. I was released and went home. My mom was worried and started to fuss over me. I smiled and told her I was alright. I got an email from Melissa. She was upset that I damaged the support gear, but was thankful for me saving her uncle. She said she could make a new shield but it will take a while. I sent her a thankful reply. We got 2 days off from school so that they could check up on their security. I was in my room, laying in bed reading a magazine. My phone rang on my nightstand. I picked it up and took a look. It was from Kirishima. Are you free to hang out today? I blinked and got up. Hey mom, can I go hang out with some friends today? I called as I found her in the living room. She stayed quiet for a moment before she burst into tears. My baby has friends. She cried. I waved my arms frantically. Mom. I was able to calm her down after 5 minutes. She said yes with a happy smile, glad I was hanging out with friends. I understood how she felt. I sent a text back to Kirishima. Sure, send me the details. After Kirishima sent me the location of the meeting place, I took a shower and put on some blue pants, white shirt and a light blue hoodie, along with my signature red shoes. I left after saying bye to mom and made my way to the meeting place. The place where we were meeting was a park that was close to a mall. I forgot the name, sue me for forgetting, not perfect. I waited by a fountain as I checked the time. I was 10 minutes early. I sighed. Yo. I looked up from my phone to see Kirishima walking towards me. I waved him over. So first one here. We bumped fists. Who else did you invite? I asked. Oh, I invited Ishido, Uraraka, Iida, Kami. He listed. I also tried to invite Bakugo but he said no. I understood why Kirishima wanted to befriend Bakugo. He was hardcore and Kirishima was inspired by that. Mina arrived next. Iida arrived right on time. Ochako and Kami arrived at the same time and when they saw me. You didn't need to fight. Why did you try to think about your own safety? They screeched as they pulled on my ears. Iida was trying to stop them. Kirishima and Mina were staying out of it. Okay girls, give him some space. Mina slowly pulled the 2 girls away. Thank you Mina. I sighed, rubbing my ears. Ochako crossed her arms. Her expression was one of worry. Deku, we were really worried. I bit my lip. Sorry. I apologized. I did feel bad about worrying my friends, but I needed to do something about future events. Kami put her hands on her hips. Deku, we're still heroes in training. It was admirable to take charge but you nearly got yourself killed. She spoke in a serious tone. I was surprised since she was so laid back in the anime and manga. I rubbed the back of my neck. I couldn't help it. My body moved on its own. I explained. Mina gave me a smile. Well then you're in the right course. I looked at Mina and grinned. Yeah. Hey, come on, we're here to hang out and have fun. How about we go to the arcade? Kirishima stepped in. We all agreed. Walking to the nearest arcade, I took a good look around. I've been to Japan in my previous life. In this superhuman society, it was beautiful. I looked at my friends. My first battle with villains. They put their trust in me. I was able to save Aizawa and 13, no casualties. There was still a lot that was gonna happen. I needed to prepare everyone. Kami poked my cheek, snapping me out of my thoughts. Hey you okay? She asked with a frown on her face. I gave her a smile. I'm alright. I assured her, but for now, I just wanted to have fun with my new friends. We made it to the arcade. I was surprised by how modern it looked. Sure there were some futuristic looking games. Well I guess quirks became the forefront of technology. I saw kids using their quirks during certain games. Guess it was allowed. We got 10 tokens each. Iida got 5 since games weren't his forte. Okay, we'll meet back here in. I looked at the clock. 11:14 a.m., 12:20, then we can go to get lunch. I told my friends. We split up. I walked around, not sure what to play. I tried my luck on a shooting game. I grinned, still got my good aim. I put the plastic gun down. I continued to walk around. I ran into Kirishima watching someone on an All Might themed punching game. I walked up to him. Hey bro. He greeted me staring at the game. I looked at the game. The scoreboard was different from the one back home. Instead of 3 digits, it was 4. The highest score was 4,291. I whistled. You wanna give it a shot? I asked. The redhead nodded. Yeah, I don't think I'll be able to get a high score like that. He points to the high score. I nudged his shoulder. Don't sell yourself short. The kid up front got a score of 1520. Kirishima went up next, inserting a token, rolling his sleeve up and hardened his arm. He threw his hardest punch and the score went up to 642. Well, Kirishima's quirk only gave him defense, not much offense. He shrugged. I kinda expected that. He shook his hand. What about you? Kirishima looked at me. I hummed. Okay. I inserted a token and powered up my arm with 8% one for all. Alright. I cocked my arm back. Detroit smash. I let the punch fly, hitting the machine. Everyone around us stopped as they felt the wind from my punch. The machine processed my strike and showed my score. 4,722. I smirked, shaking my hand. The other teens around us looked at us shocked. Bro, you beat the high score. Kirishima shook my shoulder. I gave him a smile. Well, I do have a good punch. I commented as we left. We found Iida watching Ochako as she tried her luck on the claw machine. She was trying to get a Kirby plushie. I stifled a laugh. Everyone called Ochako Kirby because of how similar they were. How long has she been going at this? Kirishima asked Iida, right after we split up. We almost finished our tokens. I flinched hearing this. Ochako hit her head against the glass after losing. I put a hand on her shoulder. Hey Uraraka. Do you need help? I asked. She slowly nodded and moved aside. I inserted a token and started to move the claw to the plushie. I slowly positioned it over the plushie. I pressed the button and the claw descended. It missed. My eyebrow twitched. I tried again. Miss. I took a deep breath and slowly moved the claw. I pressed the button again, lowering the claw. The claw closes around the plushie and pulls it up. The plushie drops into the rewards hole and I take it out. I smile. Tada. Ochako hugged it smiling with a blush on her face. Thanks Deku. Kirishima laughed leaning in. She kinda looks like Kirby. I nodded. We walked around and found Kami and Mina on Just Dance machine. We watched as Mina decimated Kami. Mina wins and hops on her tiptoes. Woohoo. I win. Mina cheered. Kami pants pouting. You just have more practice. Mina sees us. Hey guys, you finished with your tokens. I held up the only one I had left. Kirishima had none. Ochako blushed embarrassed nodding as she held her Kirby plushie. I gave mine to Uraraka. Iida replied. Mina smirked at me. Oh crap, Midori, you, me, now. I sighed, slipping off my jacket and handed it to Ochako who held it close, blushing. I stepped onto the platform. I stretched. Mina hummed as she looked through the list of songs. Aha, here we are, I'll go easy on you. Mina winked at me, appreciate it. I looked at the song. Chris Brown, turn up the music. I gulped and got ready. The song started and I followed the moves on the screen. I tried my best to keep my movements fluid and bury any embarrassment. The song picks up. I kept my full attention on the screen. I followed the rhythm. I looked at Mina who was way ahead of me. I tried to keep up but I kept making mistakes. Before I knew it, the song was over. I stopped panting. Mina won, but I was close behind her. Whoa Midori, you didn't tell me you could break down. Mina got in front of my face. She had an excited grin on her face. I blushed and took a step back. I can't. I replied. I was surprised myself. Well, maybe you just have a talent for it. Kami suggested with a smile. You looked hot dancing like that. Ochako's blush made it clear she agreed. Kirishima gave me a small rag. I took it and wiped the sweat away. Thanks. I sighed. Mina stepped up behind me. Another round. I shook my head making her pout. We left the arcade feeling hungry. I put my hoodie back on. So where do you guys want to go? Oh, how about a McDonald's? Mina suggested. I sweat drop. Even in another world, McDonald's is a thing. Everyone agreed. We made our way to the closest McDonald's. We arrived at a McDonald's, gave our orders and got a table for 6. So Deku. I looked to Kami, back at the USJ, what was with those black tentacles? I felt my eye twitch, the others look at me with interest. I must admit, I myself am curious about it, was that a new aspect of your quirk? Iida asked, but it has nothing to do with super strength. Ochako interjected. I sighed, my quirk isn't really super strength. I told them, my quirk is stockpiling. I raised my arm and let one for all flow through it at 2%. I just have to be careful not to let anything about one for all slip. Ah, so your quirk stockpiles power, then you can use that power to enhance your strength. Iida deduced. I nodded. Correct, Black Whip, which I named the Black Tentacles. I gave a pointed look to Kami. From what I gathered as a result of the power reacting to my thoughts, I wanted to save All Might, I wanted to pull All Might away from danger. My power reacted and manifested Black Whip. I tried to explain the best way I could. Ochako looked at me in wonder, so your quirk knew what you needed and gave it to you. I slowly nodded. Yeah, I answered. After a few moments of silence Mina spoke up, your quirk is bullshit. Mina stated bluntly, Aceto. Iida was about to reprimand her for her language but I raised my hand and made a settle down gesture. He sat back down blushing as he realized he almost caused a scene. I mean admit it, you basically have another quirk, besides your super strength. Mina pouts. I'm so jealous. Your quirk is so versatile. I chuckled. Did anything like this happen before? Kirishima asked. Our food arrived. I took a bite of my burger before I shook my head. Not that I know of, I got my quirk a few days before the exam, I'm a late bloomer. Ochako did a spit take, soaking Iida, sorry. She took the napkins and tried her best to dry Iida. Kami looked at me in shock. You are a late bloomer. She asked the question in everyone's mind. I slowly nodded, but. How? You're so strong. Kirishima spoke. I blushed and rubbed the back of my neck. A lot of training and trial and error. I said taking a sip of my juice. Iida gave me a blank look before he clenched his fist. You proved once again, that you are a better hero than I am. I sweat dropped, that is so manly Midoriya. Kirishima said vowing to work harder than before. I sighed as the girls giggled. You know I kinda agree, you worked so hard to be here, I'll do my best. Ochako pumped her fist. Kami smirked. I can't really lag behind can I? She and Mina high-fived. Preach it sista. Mina cheered with a wide grin. I laughed. Well, I take that as a challenge. I lift my drink as did my friends and we all clink our glasses together with a cheers. We left McDonald's and went walking. I couldn't be luckier to have friends like these. I smiled as I walked next to Ochako as she talked to Mina and Kami about fashion, something I won't be able to understand. Kirishima and Iida were on the same boat with me. I stopped as I felt something small bump into my leg. I looked down and my heart stopped. It was a little girl, with silvery white hair, bright red eyes and a small horn. It was Eri. If she was here, the Yakuza wasn't far behind. I kneeled and helped her to her feet. Hey, sorry about that. She clung to me as I held her. I could feel her shaking. I wanted to take her then and there. I looked at my friends and they looked at Eri with worried looks. I picked her up. She whispered, "Don't let them take me, please." Her pleas made my heart ache. I looked at the alley she came from and saw two men looking around. They had plague masks. I immediately stepped to the side out of their line of view. Midoriya, what are doing? Iida asked. I gave him a stern look. I have a feeling the ones looking for her aren't her caretakers. I looked at her bandages. Iida stiffened and nodded in understanding. We couldn't use our quirks, but we could take her to the police station. I had to hide Eri. I looked at Kami and an idea came to mind. We were in an area that was somewhat empty. Kami, glamour. I put a hand on Eri's head and horn. Kami's eyes widened and she immediately blew some of her illusionary smoke and Eri's white hair changed to green. Her horn was gone. She was now wearing a red dress and her bandages were gone. I whispered to Eri, "Stay still and close your eyes." I nodded at my friends who returned the nod. We started to walk as the Yakuza men came out of the alley. Eri gripped my shirt as she buried her face into my chest. Kirishima and Iida stepped up to my side. "Hey, you kids seen a girl with white hair, a little horn?" One of the men asked. I shook my head, no. The other man looked at Eri in my arms. "Your sister?" He asked, pointing at her. I held her protectively. "Yeah, sorry, she's sick." I explained. Mina stepped up. "We just came from McDonald's, she has a stomach ache." She chimed. I nodded. The two men just brushed past us as they continued their search. We all walked quickly to the police station. Who would do something so cruel to a little girl? Ochako asked with a sad look on her face. I sighed. The world can be ugly. I said, but there is also beauty in it, you just have to know where to look. I looked at the little girl in my arms. I did it. I saved her. I needed to call All Might. I took my phone out and dialed his number. Who are you calling? Kirishima asked. Someone who can help. I put the phone to my ear. Eri was clutching my shirt like a lifeline. Young Midoriya, what's wrong? All Might's voice came through. I'll explain it later, please come too. I stopped and looked at Iida. Where's the closest police station? I asked. Musudafu. Police station. He replied. Musudafu police station, bring Tsukauchi. I whispered the last part. Quote. Okay, but you better explain as soon as we arrive. He hung up. I could hear the seriousness in his voice. I sighed in relief and put my phone away. Kami's glamour faded as Eri's real form was revealed. I stroked her hair. Ochako looked at Eri. What's your name? She asked as carefully as she could so she won't scare the girl. Eri didn't move, but she answered, Eri. She whispered. I smiled. Well, it's nice to meet you, Eri. Ochako waved the Kirby plushie. I almost forgot she had that. We arrived and I saw All Might in his true form along with Tsukauchi. They spotted us. You can't stay out of trouble for 2 days, can you? All Might asked as he looked at Eri. Tsukauchi narrowed his eyes. What happened? The detective asked. I sighed. We were taken inside. I placed Eri on a chair. Kami, Ochako and Mina were trying their hardest to not gush at how cute she was. I got up and Eri grabbed my hand. Don't go. She begged. I knelt in front of her and gave her my best comforting smile. I'll be right over there. Don't worry, my friends will keep you company. She looked at the girls and slowly let go. I got up and walked towards my mentor, young Midoriya, that girl. All Might looked at the girl, more precisely her bandages on her arms and legs. I sighed. I found her running from her captors. We slipped past them. I couldn't let her go. I looked up at the skinny man. He shook his head with a smile. Sounds like something I would do. He pats my head. Tsukauchi walked over. The other kids said it was men with plague masks. I nodded in confirmation. I'll look into it. The detective gave me a smile as he put his hat on. You did good work. You didn't fight and you saved that girl. We need to bring her to a hospital. I looked at Eri who was looking at an illusion that Kami blew out. It was a pink elephant with a purple hat in fascination. I don't think that's a good idea. I think we should let recovery girl look at her. The two adults looked at the scene and eyed the bandages. All Might nodded. We can take her to Ua right now. I nodded. I'll see if I can find something on these people. Tsukauchi left. All Might looked at me. She seems to be attached to you. I nodded. You may have to come with. I nodded again in understanding. I walked over and looked at Kirishima and Iida. Man, that was intense, but I'm glad we were able to get that girl to safety. Kirishima grinned. I agree, but I must ask, who is he? Iida asked, pointing to All Might. Oh crap, he's my trainer. He had a friend in the force. I explained to them. That seemed to satisfy their curiosity. All Might came up to us. Okay kids, you all need to head home. Young Midoriya and I are gonna take her to a place to get her checked out. Since young Eri is attached to him, he will be coming with me. The girls looked sad to have to leave, but complied. Let us know what happens. Ochako whispered to me as they left. Eri held my hand as soon as I came close. I picked her up and took her with me to All Might's car. I put Eri on my lap as I sat on the passenger side of the car. All Might drove us to Ua. He looked at her. Once we arrived, we went straight to the nurse's office. We entered the office. Recovery girl saw and was about to ask, but her words died in her mouth as she saw the little girl in my arms. Oh dear, put her on the bed. I did as told and Eri snatched my hand. What happened? She asked, All Might annoyed. The man sighed. We need you to check her injuries and do a checkup on her. The old lady nodded. She came up to Eri. Eri looked at me with a fearful expression. It's okay, she won't hurt you, just need to do some stuff. I stepped back letting recovery girl remove her bandages. I tightened my fists as she removed the bandages, showing her scars. I could hear the old lady mumbling about the bandages being left for too long. Eri started to freak out as recovery girl was about to take some blood. I held her hand as the old lady took some blood. After her checkup, recovery girl handed Eri a lollipop. Why didn't I get one when I was here? The old lady looked at us. The poor girl is traumatized. I took some blood so I can run it by the database, maybe I can find her family. I understand her intentions but I don't think Eri's mom wanted to be found. I suggest that the girl stay with Midoriya. All Might blinked at recovery girl's words. Why? He asked. The old lady looked at the little girl licking her lollipop. I have seen this before. Kids are very impressionable. She sees Midoriya as someone who will keep her safe. The cuts on her arms and legs were incisions. Done by a professional. I gritted my teeth thinking of ways to kick Overhaul's ass. All Might clenched his fist. Who would do something like this to a child? He asked. I looked to the side. I'll call my mom. I told them as I took out my phone and dialed her number. I needed to protect Eri. Overhaul was obsessed with her. Once I got my provisional license, I could join Sir Night-Eye. I needed to get stronger. Izuku, honey, is everything alright? I heard my mom's voice as she picked up the phone. Hey mom, I need to ask you something. Can I bring someone over to stay for a couple of days? I asked. Oh, is it a friend of yours? She asked. I bit my lip. You can say that. I looked at Eri who was looking at me, probably scared. Well, I would like to see this person first. Mom replied. Okay, I'll bring them over then. I hung up and walked over to All Might. I need your help to explain to my mom about Eri. The skeleton nodded. Okay, let's go. I walked over and picked up Eri, who clung to me like a koala bear. I couldn't help but smile. Thank you. I thanked the older heroine. Recovery girl returned my smile. You're welcome, sweetie. All Might and I walked to his car, driving back to my house with Eri in my arms. I'll admit, I felt very protective of this girl, even if she did smell like she hasn't showered in a while. We arrived at my place and All Might inflated into his hero form and knocked the door. Should I have told mom All Might would be with me? Inko opened the door and froze. All Might. I flinched. Maybe I should have explained beforehand. After calming her down, we went to the living room. All Might stood up as mom was sitting down on the couch. I sat down on the dining table, some sliced apples on a plate in front of us, Eri nibbling on one. After explaining it to her, Inko looked at Eri. Of course she can stay. She got up and pet the girl's head. She frowned when Eri flinched. Until you find her parents, you say. She looked at All Might who nodded. Correct. If you are worried about expenses, do not worry, I will provide. All Might announced. I smiled. Oh, you don't have to. Inko tried to reject but he was persistent. Eri tugged my shirt making me look at her as she held an apple slice towards my face. My heartstrings tugged as I took it into my mouth, muttering a thank you. This wasn't so bad. 3 hours later. We gave her a bath and fed her, letting her wear one of my shirts, acting like a dress. I even put a hoodie around her so she couldn't be recognized. We took her out and bought her some clothes. At the end of the shopping trip we had 5 bags of clothes for Eri. I never liked shopping trips in all honesty, but it was worth it in the end. That night, my mom dressed Eri in a unicorn onesie. Mom thought it would look cute on her and she was right. Eri was adorable as she sat on the couch munching on apples. I put the hood up and I couldn't stop myself from taking pictures. My mom giggled as she watched me taking pictures. I sat next to her sending the pictures to my friends and my phone blew up. Acid Queen. Oh, so cute. Why do you get to keep her? Gravity Girl. She's adorable, so kawaii. Madam Mystery. Hashtag kawaii hashtag unicorn girl she's so adorb. Rocky. Glad to see that she's doing okay. Acid Queen. Where do you live? I need to see her. Engine. Ishido. Please get a hold of yourself. Acid Queen. No, she's too cute. Deku. She's doing better. We got her some new clothes and will be staying with my mom and I. Until they can find her parents. I'll see you in class tomorrow. Gravity Girl. Okay Deku, tell Eri we said hi. Madam Mystery. CYA Deku. Rocky. Alright bro. Engine. Have a good night Midoriya. Acid Queen. I expect more pictures. Rocky. Mina. I put my phone away. I looked at the time. It was getting late. I got up. Come on. You need to brush your teeth. I told Eri as she dropped from the couch and walked beside me with her holding my hand. We brushed our teeth together. I never had a little sister, or any sibling in my previous life. This was gonna be a challenge. I helped Eri into my bed and she held my hand. I looked at my mom who was standing at the door giving us a smile. I mouthed a good night as my mom did the same and went to her room. I laid next to Eri. You won't leave me, right? She asked. I looked at her. She had no one to comfort her and show her love. I pulled her into a hug. No, I won't. I replied. They will try and take me back. She started to shake. I held her tightly. I won't let them. I said. Eri shook her head. He'll hurt you. I shifted to a sitting position and showed her my hand. I pumped one for all at 1% into it until lightning started to spark from my hand. She gasped looking in fascination. I promise you Eri, I won't let anyone take you. I whispered, shutting off one for all. Eri stared at me with her red eyes. Okay. I laid back down, letting sleep take me. I never had any siblings, no brothers, sisters, no one close to consider as such, but now. I understand what it means to want to protect someone close to you. Inko, All Might, Ochako, Kami, Iida, Kirishima, Mina, Class 1A, Eri, I want to protect them. I will be the greatest hero. Chapter End Notes. I was thinking, would they allow to use certain quirks for certain games and how would games be like in My Hero Academia? Also Eri is a princess, no one can say otherwise. Chapter 7. I woke up feeling a bit groggy. I tried to wipe my eyes but I couldn't move my arm. I looked down to see Eri sleeping, clutching my arm. I smiled and used my free arm to stroke her hair. I reached for my phone to check the time. 5:20. I have to be at school by 8. I looked out the window, watching the rising sun. It was beautiful. I felt a rustle from the girl holding my arm. Eri opened her eyes and looked up at me, her eyes wide. You, real. I felt an arrow pierce my heart. This girl was gonna kill me with her cuteness. Who would harm such an angel? Kai Chisaki. You're on my shit list. I gave her a smile. Yeah, I'm real. I assured her. Tears started to build in her eyes as she hugged me tightly. I put a hand on her head letting her release her emotions. Are you hungry? I asked. She looked up at me and nodded. I got out of bed. I'll make you some pancakes. I picked her up and took her to the kitchen. Mom was still asleep. I'll make her some pancakes as well. I placed Eri on the chair. I took out the ingredients and pan for the pancakes. I had a talent for cooking. Doing it now, it made me feel calm. Eri watched, fascinated by how I was adding ingredients and mixing the batter so well and not making a mess. I looked at her. Do you want some fruit? I asked. She slowly nodded. I went through the fridge and took out a mango. I sliced the mango and put the slices on a plate. I placed it in front of her. She looked at it curiously as she took one with her fork and put it into her mouth. Eri's expression brightened as she started to eat more. I chuckled as I flipped the pancake. My mom walked in. Oh Izuku, when did you learn how to make pancakes? I flinched. Well, I looked it up and did some practice. I explained. She slowly nodded and took her seat as I put a stack of pancakes in front of Eri and started making more for mom and me. We ate together with me helping Eri when she had trouble cutting her pancake. Mom was smiling at how I acted like a big brother. Eri loved the pancakes. But she didn't smile. I was determined to make her smile, one way or another. Mom kept Eri company as I took a bath and got ready for school. I put on my uniform and my red shoes. I got a message on my phone. Opening it, I saw it was from All Might. I got the results from Recovery Girl. Eri doesn't exist in the database. Principal Nezu wants to meet the girl. I frowned. I knew that Eri didn't exist in the database, but what did Nezu want with Eri? I put on my tie. Nezu was really smart. High specs was a powerful quirk. I had to be careful if he figures out I'm not the real Midoriya. I walked out. Mom. I walked into the living room to see Mom dressing Eri into a dress similar to the one in the anime. I was glad that we got the dress. Mom, Eri is gonna come with me. Mom looked at me. Oh really? I nodded. Eri ran up to me holding my hand. Well, I don't think she wants to leave your side anyway. Inko giggled. I smiled. Okay, we're gonna go. I said as we walked to the door and Inko waved at us from the door. The trip to UA was quick. Eri stayed close to me, holding onto me like a lifeline. The train ride was quiet as there weren't so many people yet. We arrived at UA. All Might was waiting by the entrance in his true form. He gave me a wave. Young Midoriya. I picked up Eri as we went inside and All Might guided me to the principal's office. We stepped into the office and I saw the chimera that was sitting on the desk, the most intelligent person in My Hero Academia, the rat who wanted to rule the world, Nezu. Ah Izuku Midoriya, it's so nice to finally meet you. I am Principal Nezu. The rat introduced himself. I gave a light bow. It's nice to meet you. I spoke politely. Nezu looked at Eri, and this is little Eri. She held me tightly. Nezu offered me a seat. I took the seat with Eri on my lap, so it's true. He hummed. What is sir? I asked, her clinging to you. He stated. Well, you do realize that you can't keep her with you all the time, do you? Nezu asked me. I didn't want to say anything but I did. Well then, from what All Might told me, you took her from Yakuza, is that correct? I nodded. Well, if it is all right with you, you could leave her here with me. I would be happy to watch over her. I blinked in surprise and by All Might's look, he was on the same boat. Sir, I don't want to burden you with something like this. Nezu gave a light chuckle. It's no trouble at all. He spoke in a happy tone. I could also teach her what she is missing. I knew there was something else to this. He probably wanted to observe Eri. He wanted to see why she was important to the Yakuza. They don't know her quirk. I do. I trust Nezu. I just hope nothing bad happens. I looked at Eri, who was staring at Nezu curiously. I guess she's never seen anything like him. I remember when I first saw him, I couldn't figure out what he was. Eri, I need to go to class. Eri looked up at me and whimpered. You can stay here with Principal Nezu until I finish. You will be learning new stuff also. I'll come back once I'm done. She looked at the chimera for a moment then back at me. Promise. Eri asked. I promise. I held out my pinky. She blinked. What's this? A pinky promise. I hooked her pinky around mine and she looked at me nodding. Okay. I got up setting Eri on the chair and rubbed her head. Behave. I told her. Okay. She gave me a hug which I returned. You better go. Your class starts soon. Nezu spoke up. I looked at the clock. I panicked putting Eri down. Thank you for watching her. Gotta go. I ran out. Nezu pointed at the couch and table. On top of the table was a coloring book and crayons. Now Eri, you can go and draw until I finish. We will start our lessons soon. Eri nodded and hopped down the chair walking to the table. Nezu looked at All Might. Now about your request. I ran fast to my class. I made it to the classroom just 4 minutes before classes started. I made it to the door and got a hold of my breathing. I straightened myself out and walked inside. I saw my classmates jump but then relax when they saw it was me. Hey Midoriya, sorry we thought you were Mr. Aizawa. Mina commented, it's fine. I replied and smiled at everyone. It's good to see everyone doing okay. I'm glad to see you doing well Midoriya. Mina was just telling us about you and your quirk. Sue said. I looked at the pink girl who gave a lazy smile. Well, she was the queen of gossip. At least it wasn't about my love life. I hoped it stayed that way. I took a seat as Mr. Aizawa walked in. Morning. No mummy man, good. I hope you enjoyed your break because your fight isn't over. Straight to the point. Everyone tensed. The UA Sports Festival is coming up soon. Aiza, that's a super normal school event. The class shouted. I grinned. Wait, is it okay to have the sports festival after villains sneaked in and attacked? Kaminari asked. Yeah, what if they attack again? Ojiro asked. Apparently, they think of it as UA showing that our crisis management system is solid as a rock by holding the event. Security will also be strengthened to 5 times that of previous years. Above all, our sports festival is a huge chance. It's not an event to be cancelled because of a few villains. Aizawa explained. I tuned out the rest of the explanation. I had more control over One for All, so I don't think I needed the training of Gran Torino. I also had to think about the Stain incident. Homeroom dismissed. Smintos walked in as Aizawa left. The rest of the day class was normal. At free period everyone started to chat. I'm so pumped for this. Kirishima grinned. Yeah, we have to put on a good show and stand out. We'll take our first steps of being pros. Siro agreed. I smiled. Everyone is so excited. I told Iida, don't you feel the same? Iida asked. I gave him a nod. Kami grinned. I'm so poo, but she stopped and looked at Uraraka. I looked at the bubbly girl and was met with an intense look. Deku, Iida. I could feel the edge in her voice. Let's do our best at the sports festival. She declared. Oh, I forgot about this. Whoa, so intense. Mina commented. I'm gonna do my best everyone. Uraraka pumped her fist. I said I'm gonna do my best. After that display, we stepped out into the hallway. Hey Uraraka, why do you want to be a hero? I asked. Ochako stopped and looked down. I could tell that she felt embarrassed by her reason. It's for money. She mumbled. Oh, for money. I clarified. Ochako nodded. Wanting to support your own livelihood is an admirable goal. Iida commented. Kami nodded. Yeah. She agreed. Uraraka sighed before explaining. My family owns a construction company, but we haven't gotten any work at all, so we're flat broke. This isn't really something to tell other people, though. Ochako played with her hair. Oh, you could help with your quirk, right? Kami asked. She could make any raw material float. They wouldn't need any heavy equipment. Iida agreed. Right. That's what I told Dad when I was little. Uraraka blurted out, sighing, but, I want to give my parents a chance to live a comfortable life. She said, determined. Iida clapped yelling out bravo. I remember the flashback from the anime, who wouldn't Ochako was so adorable. I put a hand on her shoulder. Uraraka, wanting to help your family is a noble goal. Others want fame or fortune for themselves but you're different, believe me when I say. Your goal is not selfish but selfless. She blushed and smiled. Thank you Deku. I smiled back at her. I didn't notice Kami's jealous glare, Mina watching with Toru squealing a bit from their hiding spot. Young Midoriya is here. All Might came out from around a corner. All Might, what are you doing here? I asked. Lunch, wanna eat with me? He asked, holding a bag. I chuckled as Ochako laughed. He's like a maiden. I left with All Might and we went into a lounge room. I took a seat and All Might placed a bowl of katsudon in front of me. You didn't have to. I said. All Might waved his hand. It's my treat and I needed to talk to you about the festival. Okay. I replied. I started to eat my meal as All Might deflated and drank his tea. My limit is shortened. I can stay in my form for only 2 hours. The battle with that Nomu took more than I thought. All Might explained. Okay, All Might has more time now, that's good. Will you be able to teach the class with that time limit? I asked. Don't worry, I'll manage. All Might clasped his hands together. Now onto more important matters, the sports festival. I don't have much time left as the symbol of peace. I have made you my successor and the time has come for you to show that. The UA Sports Festival is something pro heroes know, the whole country is watching closely. A big event. That is what I brought you here to talk about. The next All Might, the fledgling symbol of peace, Izuku Midoriya. I want you to tell the world, I am here. All Might declared. I stared at him as he spoke. I knew that I had to make an impression, a big one. I will All Might. I raised my hand letting One for All course through it. I'll show the world that the next generation will be a bright one. I gave him a determined smile. Everyone who supported me so far, I can't let them down. My mentor matched my smile. I'm sure you will make everyone proud. I put my hand down and finished my food. I need to ask you something. I looked up as All Might had his eyes narrowed. When we first met, you were a shy, nerdy fanboy, now you're confident and sure about yourself. I tried my best to not freeze. Bakugo, I can handle but All Might. What happened? All Might asked. I took a sip of my tea. I wanted to be a good successor. I had to show others that I wasn't gonna be pushed around. I wanted to be strong, but kind. It took a while to get into the swing of it but, I was able to change, I explained looking at him in the eye. All Might stared at me for a moment before nodding. Okay, well, as long as you're not causing any trouble. He said. I nodded and got up. Thank you for the food, I have to get back to class. All Might smiled. I'll see you around. He said as I left. The rest of the classes were uneventful. The last class ended, I had to go pick up Eri. I put my books in my bag and got up. I stopped seeing my class standing in front of the door. Oh geez. They want to get the scope of the class that survived a villain attack. Bakugo spoke with arrogance. They are probably scouting the competition before the sports festival. I needed to defuse the situation before he made the other students hate us. Bakugo pushed past the other students, out of my way extras. He ordered. A student with purple hair and dead eyes pushed his way to the front. I came to see what the famous Class A was like, but you seem pretty arrogant. Are all the students in the hero course like this? He asked. I stepped forward. Excuse our classmate's behavior, he's a brash one. I spoke calmly. I saw Bakugo stop and give me a glare. I ignored him and set my sights on Shinso. No, our class isn't arrogant. I said. Shinso narrowed his eyes at me, so you say. I raised an eyebrow. Why would we be? I asked with a tilt of my head. Because you fought villains and won. I scoffed, making Shinso glare. What? I shook my head. You say that like it's a privilege. I spoke. I looked behind me, my classmates who were at the mercy of villains. If I got something wrong, one of them would have died. I looked back at Shinso. We didn't win, we survived. I said, emphasizing on the survived. You think we wanted to be attacked? No, we were targeted. We didn't want to fight, but we did. I stepped closer, making Shinso step back. We don't want the spotlight for something that could have gotten us killed. I spoke. I let my eyes sweep the room. I could see some of Class 1B standing outside of their classroom, listening to me. But excuse me, you have something to say, right? I apologize. I stepped back, letting the purple-haired teen have the floor. Shinso crossed his arms. There are quite a few people who enrolled in general studies or other courses because they didn't make it into the hero course. Did you know that? He asked. I hummed. Yeah, I do. You're one of them, aren't you? I asked. He nodded. The sports festival is a chance for me to be transferred into the hero course. Shinso explained. So if someone is gonna be transferred in, someone is gonna be transferred out. I narrowed at his words. I could hear my classmates mumbling to each other. I'm here with a declaration of war. If any of you slip up, I'll sweep your feet and take the position. Shinso glared at me. I stared at him. I smiled. Okay, I accept. May the best win. I offered a hand for him to shake. His expression changed to one of surprise. He grunted and walked away. The rest of the crowd dispersed. I turned to my classmates. We have some competition class, looking to take our spots. What do you say we give them a challenge? I grinned ferociously. Everyone looked at me in shock. Well, I'm not gonna give up my spot easily. Kirishima got out of his shock and pounded his fists together. I agree, we should give our best. Iida spoke up. Jiro huffed. I'm not gonna just let them take my spot, that wouldn't be rocking, would it? She gave me a smirk. Kami smriked as well. I'll make them work for it. Kaminari crossed his arms. They're not gonna take my spot. I worked hard to get here. Ochako pumped her fist. I'll do my best. The rest of my classmates agreed. I grinned wider. I took Shinso's declaration of war and made it into a challenge to encourage my friends. If that wasn't a leader, I don't know what is. Everyone left wanting to get right to training. I was about to leave as well. You have a way with words. I looked behind me to see Kendo, the orange-haired girl from Class B. I smiled. Well, I am class president. I need to have a way with words, and you are. I asked, offering my hand. Kendo hummed. Kendo Itsuka, class president of Class B. She introduced herself, shaking my hand. Midoriya Izuku, class president of Class A. I introduced myself. You know our classes are supposed to be rivals. Kendo said. I frowned. Well, I think that we can learn from each other. A rivalry is good, but I don't want us to be enemies. I rubbed the back of my head. I agree, but one of my classmates has a superiority complex. I chuckled. Our class has someone like that also. Kendo laughed. Yeah, I heard. I looked behind her to see Monoma walking over to us. Kendo, what are you doing with the enemy? Kendo sighed and rubbed her temple. I see that as the one with the superiority complex. I asked. She nodded. Well, I'll leave you now. I have to be somewhere. I turned to leave. May the best class win. I tossed back before I made my way to the principal's office. I stopped as Bakugo was waiting at the staircase. Great. I sighed. What do you want, Bakugo? I asked, not in the mood for his crap. I challenge you. He declared. I blinked as I stared into his glaring red eyes. What? You heard me. At the sports festival, if I win, you have to tell me everything. Also, that's what this is about. And if I win? I asked as I crossed my arms. He growled, so he didn't think of it. Okay, how about this? If you win, I'll tell you everything you want to know. I spread my arms. If I win, you drop this whole thing, be less of a dick and more social. What the fuck did you say, you nerd? He looked ready to pounce but stopped himself and settled for growling. Fine. He grumbled. I offered my hand. He looked at it as if it was infected. We have a deal then. I smiled at him. Bakugo took my hand reluctantly and we shook on it. You're going down, you nerd. He snarled. I wouldn't expect anything less from my rival. I chimed. He took his hand back, stomping away. I'm not your fucking rival. He shouted. I shook my head. This was gonna be an interesting sports festival. Wonder what else is gonna happen. I walked to Nezu's office and found her writing on a notebook. With Nezu sitting next to her. Nezu looked at me. Eri looked up and immediately ran up to me, hugging my legs. I smiled and picked her up. I walked over. I hope she wasn't a bother. I said, taking the notebook she was. Writing in. Nezu laughed. She was a delight. Bring her back tomorrow. I nodded. Eri waved. Bye Mr. Nezu. Goodbye Eri. I took Eri home. A lot has happened. I needed to train, make new moves, take care of my new little sister. I never thought I would be like this when I fell asleep on my desk. I frowned. Did I fall asleep on my desk? I tried to remember but, it wasn't right. Eri looked at me concerned. Are you okay? She asked. I looked at her. I gave her a smile. I'm alright, I told her. I couldn't remember what happened before I was sent here. I remember everything else just fine but the last bits were blurry. I shook my head and got on the train. Maybe it was nothing. Chapter 8. Chapter Summary. Training for the sports festival, helping friends, meeting new people. Chapter Notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. I stood in the forest of Ua with all might. I wore my gym uniform. We were working on my control over Black Whip. Eri was with Nezu working on her lessons. There was 2 weeks till the sports festival. I needed to gain control over Black Whip as fast as I can. Time isn't on my side. I was able to use full cowling with ease due to using it continuously. I just had to use Black Whip as much as I can until it comes to me like breathing. I took a deep breath and charged one for all to 15%. I shot out a black tendril towards a tree. The tendril cut right through the bark. I flinched at how strong it was. All Might in his true form flinched also, rubbing his torso where I grabbed him. You probably subconsciously toned it down when you grabbed me. All Might commented. I pulled the quirk back before I lost control. I couldn't use it for more than 40 seconds before it started to get out of control. Probably. I replied with a sigh. All Might put a hand on my shoulder. Don't worry, you just need practice. I looked up at him. I know but it's really taking a toll when I try to hold it for longer than a minute. I rolled my shoulder. All Might hummed, maybe you should try to use it at 5%. I looked at him, but I can only summon it at 15. I frowned. When you summon it, it shoots out. At 5% you need to force it out. All Might instructed. I looked at my hand. I dialed it down to full cowling. I raised my arm and closed my eyes. I could feel Black Whip inside me. I just needed to pull it out. There you go. I opened my eyes at All Might's words and saw small tendrils of Black Whip forming at my wrist. Well, it's a start. I said and shot it towards a fallen branch. I pulled it towards me. I tried to catch it but it was too fast, hitting me right on the nose. Ouch. I took a step back holding my bleeding nose, tears threatening to spill. All Might took out a handkerchief and moved my hand holding the fabric against my nose. Well, that'll be bleeding for a bit. Good news, you can catch stuff without breaking them, now you need to have a faster reaction time. All Might says enthusiastically. I gave the handkerchief back to my mentor and cracked my knuckles. Let's get started then. I summoned Black Whip again shooting it towards a tree. Ojiro delivered a high kick making me block with my forearm. I retaliated with a grapple sending him flying. Ojiro landed with a roll and got up. 12 days till the sports festival. You saw what I did there. He said. I hummed, your footing. I asked, rubbing my arm. Yeah, you see when fighting, footing is an important aspect of fighting. Your fighting style is solid. I'm surprised you taught yourself. Ojiro went to the bench where Eri sat drinking a smoothie. He took a bottle of water and threw me one. I immediately shot my hand out summoning Black Whip and let it wrap around the bottle in midair, pulling it towards me. I was able to catch it and sighed in relief. You're getting the hang of that. Ojiro commented with a smile. It's taking me a while. I walked up to Eri and ruffled her hair making her pout with the straw in her mouth still. When the class first met Eri, everyone, except Shoto and Bakugo, called her cute. The girls were fawning over her. Eri was scared but she was getting comfortable around them. I normally watch fights online and try to implement the good stuff. I spoke drinking my water, that can only get you so far. Ojiro replied, I could teach you some stuff after the festival if you want. I raised an eyebrow. After? I asked. Ojiro shrugged with a smirk, can't show you all my tricks. I laughed, well I'll hold you to your offer. I put my water down. I see Eri playing with Ojiro's tail, sorry. I tried to apologize but Ojiro shook his head. It's okay, this is more common than you think. He assured me, so fluffy. She whispered as she hugged his tail. My heart clenched at the cute sight. We walked back to the center of the gym, full cowling flowing through my body. Ojiro shot towards me, jumping into the air spinning around. I jumped back dodging his attack. I landed and shot black tendrils towards the blue rubber balls that were fired from the automatic tennis ball launcher. Momo, Eri and I were out at Beta Field. Momo provided me the rubber balls for me to practice with. In return, she wanted to play with Eri. She was smitten with the little girl. Currently she was brushing Eri's long silver hair, looking very bubbly. If I didn't know any better, I would have assumed that Momo was a doting aunt who spoiled the child. I tossed the ball into a net. A red rubber ball shot out and I caught it with the black tendrils. I threw it into a red bucket with other red balls. 11 days until the sports festival. Stop the machine. I called to Momo. Momo took a remote and turned off the launcher. I walked over and took a towel drying my sweat. Eri sniffed the air and her nose scrunched up, stinky. She mumbled. Momo giggled and I gave her a pout. Well, I am training, I'm bound to be sweaty. I said. And Momo, thank you for the rubber balls. I sat down, it's no problem. She smiled at me. We sat in silence. Momo was braiding Eri's hair. After a while, Momo looked at me. I never really saw myself making a lot of friends here in UA. Momo said as she looked at the sky. I have the power to create anything from my lipids. People try to get close to me because of my quirk. She made a hairpin and placed it on Eri's silver locks. I wasn't social with others my age. I didn't want to have friends that only used me for their own gain, but coming here, meeting you all, I feel like I can finally have real friends. I looked at her. Where's this coming from? I asked. She sighed. I don't know how to act with the others, some of the girls are easy to get along with. Momo then made a doll, one that looked like me in my hero costume. Eri looked fascinated by it and took it. But the others? I don't know, but with you, you talk with confidence. When that boy from general education declared war, you turned it into a challenge and everyone followed you. How do you talk so freely? Also, she was asking for advice on how to socialize with the rest of our class. Momo was smart, but had confidence issues. Well, I'll let you in on a secret. She leaned in. I poked her nose. Momo frowned. What was that? I laughed. Momo, it's all about being yourself. There is no secret. I explained. Momo looked down in thought. Eri continued to play with the doll. You just have to adapt to the atmosphere, but stay as yourself. I said as I got up. Turn it on. I walked in front of the machine summoning Black Whip. Momo blinked and grabbed the remote, turning on the tennis launcher. A red ball shot out and Black Whip shot out to catch it. I stood on a platform of training ground Gamma. I was there alone. I was able to convince Nezu to let me train here. 9 days till the sports festival. I took a deep breath, overdrive 15%. I felt the power surge through my body. I could feel my body getting used to the strain, getting stronger. I shot out Black Whip towards a pipe. I pulled myself into the air. Just like Zero, I shot another tendril, latching to another pipe and pulled myself towards it. I landed on a water tower. I panted as I grinned. A light. I jumped, shooting a tendril hooking to the side of a building. I ran across the wall and continued to swing through the ground Gamma. I felt so free. I smirked as I ran on a pipe. I jumped, swung, parkoured. I stopped shooting 2 tendrils to act like a slingshot. I pulled back, grunting at the effort. I then flung myself into the air. Woohoo. I twirled in the air and took a good look around. As I started to fall, I shot a whip towards a pipe, catching myself. I swung around before hanging by a whip against a building, catching my breath. I panted with a smile on my face. I was about to start swinging again. Wow, you seem to be having fun. I froze and looked at the wall. There was a face with black beady eyes sticking out with a smile. Hi. Gah. I screamed in shock. I lost my focus. Black Whip dissipated and I fell. Crap, crap, crap. I aimed my finger at the ground below me and flicked at 20%, the strong wind stopping my momentum. I landed on my back with thud instead of a splat. Whoa, sorry about that. A voice apologized. I looked to the side to see a blonde man wearing the gym uniform. Mirio Tagata, Lemillion, wait, how did he change into his pants and shirt so fast? I sat up. It's fine. I reassured. I shouldn't have lost focus. I rubbed the back of my head to dull the pain. Still, quite the quirk you have there. Super strength and those black whips. If my guess is right, you're from class 1A. I sighed in relief when he didn't say tentacles. Yeah, wait, how do you know? I looked at Mirio confused. Rumor mill. Tagata shrugged. Damn. I cursed. I got up. So who are you? I asked, brushing myself off. Tagata Mirio, I'm a 3rd year. He grinned with a thumbs up. Midoriya Izuku. I introduced myself, cracking my neck. So you're here training as well? I asked. Yeah, but I saw you here and thought I would watch. He explained. I hummed. So what do you think? You're a senior, any tips? I gave him a grin. Haha, well, I don't have much advice on your swinging, though my friend might have some tips. Mirio cupped his chin in thought. I could imagine Tamaki Imagiki trying to teach me with his quirk manifest. So what's your quirk? I asked. Mirio smiled wide and pushed his hand through the wall. Permeation. I can phase myself through solid objects. I watched in fascination. I already knew what his quirk was, but seeing it was a whole different thing. Well, my quirk is stockpiling. I started to explain. I can use the stockpiled power to enhance my body. I said, and the black whips. Mirio asked, it's something I'm not so sure of yet. I said, I didn't want to explain everything. Well, I look forward to seeing how you do in the sports festival. He poked his own forehead. I smiled. I'll try and impress you. I'll see you around. I started to make my way back to the locker rooms to take a shower. I sat on my desk with my headphones on. Around the World by Daft Punk was playing. I looked for all the songs I remembered and found new ones that I haven't heard of before. But Daft Punk was one of my favorite artists. 6 days until the sports festival. I was the only one in the classroom. I was 30 minutes early. Eri was with mom today. Eri wanted to spend time with her. I smiled. Eri was getting used to talking to other people. She was becoming open to trying new things. She just needed positive influence in her life. I felt someone tap my shoulder. I looked up to see Kaminari. I saw Iida already in his seat. I took off my headphones. Hey man. I greeted. Hey, I need your help. Kaminari sat on the desk next to mine. Oh sure man, what's going on? I turned to face him. I need help with my quirk. I tilted my head. Okay, I've been trying to control where my electricity goes once I let loose. He explained, rubbing his hands together, unintentionally conducting some electricity. But it keeps flying. Everywhere. Okay, I can see the issue there, but why are you asking me? I asked. Kaminari stared at me as if I asked a stupid question. Dude, you're the one of the strongest in this class. You have an amazing handle on your quirk, even that whip stuff you got just a while ago. He exclaimed. I blinked at that. Now I could see why he would come to me. Okay, I guess it wouldn't hurt to try. Meet me at Gym Gamma after school. I'll ask Mr. Aizawa if we can train there after class. I said. Kaminari grinned and bowed. Thank you, thank you. He went back to his own seat as the rest of our classmates started to come in. After homeroom, I walked up to Mr. Aizawa. Mr. Aizawa, Kaminari and I need to use Gym Gamma after school, Quirk training. He gave me a look that made it obvious he hadn't slept in a few days. Sure, it's free that time, just fill out the form. He took out the paper from his desk and gave it to me. Submit it to the faculty room once you're done. I went to my desk and started to fill it up. So how are we gonna do this? Kaminari asked me. We were in our gym uniform in Gym Gamma. I need you to show me how you're trying to control your quirk. I said as I walked behind him and pointed at a dummy I set up in front of him. Try to hit that dummy, and not me. Kaminari looked at me nervously then at the dummy. Okay, he pointed at the dummy with his pointer finger. Activating his quirk, lightning started to fly everywhere. I stepped back as he stopped. What were you trying to do? I asked. I pointed at the dummy hoping the electricity would come out of my finger. Kaminari said. I gave him a blank look. Quote. Okay, I know what to do here. I walked over and gave him a firm slap on the head. Ow, what the hell was that for? Kaminari looked at me angrily. That was to make your brain work. You can't control lightning, you dimwit. I glared at him. His expression changed to one of confusion. I can't control it, but then what do I do? He asked. Kaminari, what is electricity? I asked. In layman's terms. It's the flow of charge. Kaminari asked. I sighed, rubbing my face. Patience. It's energy, wild energy. I looked at him. You don't control it, you'll only fail. What you need to do is guide it. I activated full cowling. Kaminari watched me. I have energy, I have a battery inside me and my body is like a network of wires. I can guide the energy inside me to a certain part of my body because I can move the energy through the wires. I explained, shutting off OFA. What you are, is a generator battery. I poked his chest. You have no wires to guide the energy. Sure, you can have a support item to control where you want it to go, but what happens if you don't have it? I poked him on the chest. I closed my eyes. How can I show him? I suddenly got an idea. I took a few steps back. Kaminari, I want you to hit me with your electricity. I ordered. What? He looked at me like I was crazy. No way, I'm not gonna do that. He shook his head. Just do it, and not enough to fry your brain. I shouted. The blonde looked at me and sighed. He then let loose. I watched as the lightning flared around. I took a stance and activated full cowling once again. I saw the lightning come towards me. I shot my hand out and let the electricity course through my arm. I used my other arm to guide it through my body, just like in Avatar: The Last Airbender, redirecting lightning. I pointed my index finger in the opposite direction and the lightning shot out of it, hitting the wall. Kaminari stopped looking at me in awe. Dude, what? He tried to speak. Quote. I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I didn't think that would work. I said, trying my hardest to contain the grin trying to emerge from my face. I failed. Dude. Kaminari looked at me. How did you do that? He asked, running up to me, looking me over. I did what you should have done, guide the lightning. I said, smiling. You have the power, use your body to guide it to where you want to go, don't control it, let it flow. I spoke in a sagely tone. Kaminari looked at his hands. Can you show me what you did? He asked. I nodded and started to go through the movements that helped me redirect lightning. You have to be fluid with your movements. I said as I put my arms down. Kaminari nodded and looked at the dummy. Taking a deep breath, he starts to charge his body with electricity, moving his arms in a fluid motion. He guides the electricity through his body and thrusts his fist towards the dummy. The electricity shoots out of his fist, hitting the dummy. Kaminari smiled and jumped in the air. Hell yeah. He cheered. I clapped, smiling. Good work, now you just need to experiment on movements similar to that. I said. Kaminari looked at me and gave me a grateful smile. Hey man, thanks, I owe you one. I smiled back. No problem, what are friends for? I offered my fist for a fist bump, which he returned. I laid on the roof of the main building of UA campus. It was free period. I decided to do some relaxing. 3 days until the sports festival. I always liked to go on top of buildings and take in the view, it was so peaceful. I had my headphones on, I listened to Maroon 5 payphone. I let my leg hang from the ledge, I had my eyes closed, the song drowning the sound of my surroundings. I opened my eyes only to meet 2 bright blue eyes staring right into my own. I nearly jumped in surprise. I patted my pants for my phone and turned the volume down once I found the button. Hi. I greeted awkwardly. The girl above me smiled brightly. Are you Izuku Midoriya? I recognized her voice. Now that she's leaning back, I could see her whole face. Nejire Hato, the only girl of the big 3. I sat up and turned to face her. Yes, that's me. I answered. I wish I didn't. So you're the one Mirio was talking about. I heard the rumors, but I wanna hear it from you. Does your quirk only enhance your body, or does your mind get enhanced as well? Are you super smart? How strong are your black whips? Oh, you're cute. Are you single? What were you listening to? Do you always come up here? Can you fly? She started to ask me questions at high speed, so she always was the bubbly chatterbox. I couldn't catch that. Who are you and how long were you hovering over me? I asked, trying to follow her questions. I looked down and saw that she was hovering, literally with her quirk. Nejire stopped. Oh, I'm Nejire Hato, in just about 5 minutes. She replied, taking a seat next to me. So you mentioned Toga, you're a friend of his. She nodded. Rightio, he told me and Tamaki about meeting you and I wanted to meet you myself. You're so interesting, someone who can use super strength and black whips. How do you do it? She asked. As I said to Toga, I'll tell you another time. I answered. Ah, she pouts, damn, the anime didn't do her cuteness justice. I blushed and looked away. Anyway, why are you up here? She asked me. Well, I just wanted some peace and quiet and up here. I took a deep breath and exhaled slowly. Up here, it's like I'm the only person who exists, I can think. Nejire smiled softly. I can understand that, when I fly, I feel so free, she exhaled relaxing. Silence filled the atmosphere, the only sound was the wind blowing. Quote. So you can't fly? She asked. I laughed. No, I can't fly. I shook my head, yet. Mirio told me he found you swinging with your black stuff. She poked my cheek, so you can somewhat fly. Not the same, I said. But it's close. She said and blinked. She reached for her bag and took out her phone. Oh, gotta run. I have to get to class. Bye Midoriya, good luck. She got up and used her quirk to descend to the ground. I took out my phone to check the time. I got up realizing that it was almost time for history class. Crap. I ran to the staircase and made my way downstairs. One day until the sports festival. I was eating dinner with Eri and Mom. We were having beef curry. I looked at Eri who was eating slowly. I reached over and stroked her hair. Eri looked at me confused. I gave her a smile, but Eri didn't return it. She hasn't smiled since she was saved. I tried to make her smile. Maybe one day. So All Might gave me 2 tickets to the sports festival. That means we can watch you up close. Inko smiled happily. I blushed. Guess that means I have to try my best to not embarrass myself. Eri looks at me. You're gonna win, right? She asked. I looked at her. Her big red eyes bore into mine. She looked hopeful. I pat her head. I'll win for you, Eri. I declared and gave her cheek a light pinch, making her whine. I stopped and looked at her growing horn. No incident. Needed to make sure she didn't rewind anyone by accident. You'll be safe, right? I looked at my mom. Mom, you know that I can't really promise that. I frowned. I know, but I can't help but worry. Inko fussed. Izuku ni is strong. Eri said, holding my hand. I looked at her shocked. Izuku ni. I looked at my mom, who was just as shocked, and teared up. Eri squeaked as I scooped her up and held her in a tight hug. Yes, Eri, you big brother is strong. I cried silently, thanking whatever God is there for this girl. Eri's lips quivered as she let the ghost of a smile slip past her lips. After dinner, I put Eri to bed and laid next to her after turning the lights off. Tomorrow was gonna be a big day. I closed my eyes, letting sleep take me. Chapter end notes. I tried my best for this one. The next one is gonna be the sports festival arc. I have plans for that. Also, if you don't like how I write, don't care. I am doing this for fun. Why did I add Mirio and Nejire? Because I can. I was watching Avatar when I came up with the Kaminari section of the chapter. I hope you all enjoyed the chapter. Chapter 9. Chapter summary. Sports festival start. Chapter notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. I walked down the hall to the waiting rooms where my class was waiting. I opened the door. It's almost time, everyone. I announced. I saw some of my class getting nervous. It was natural, since we were gonna be on live TV. Midoriya. I looked at Todoroki. Yeah. I stepped forward. I think objectively, I'm stronger than you. The bicolored boy stated. I narrowed my eyes. He was declaring war on me. But, All Might has his eye on you, doesn't he? Todoroki asked. I kept my expression narrowed. Todoroki continued. I'm not trying to pry about that. But I'm going to beat you. He declared. Hey, what's all this about? We're about to start. Kirishima placed his hand on Todoroki's shoulder. Todoroki shook him off and walked to the door. We're not here to play at being friends. So what does it matter? Todoroki spoke coldly. I let him brush by me. Todoroki, if you think that it's gonna be easy, then go ahead and try. Todoroki stopped and looked at me. I was glaring. Kaminari whispered to Shiro, man, these two are so intense. Shiro nodded. Yeah. Todoroki matched my glare with his icy one. I continued to speak. I accept your declaration of war. I just have one request. Todoroki continued to glare at me. What's that? He asked in his icy tone. You come at me with everything you've got. I said as I started to walk to the door. Come on, everyone, they're waiting for us. I left the locker room. I walked to the end of the hall. I could feel Class 1A walking behind me. I saw Iida and Ochako come up beside me. I gave them a smile. Show time. Inko Midoriya. Inko was feeling anxious as she sat down in the seat that the ticket was assigned to. Eri held her hand tightly. They were sitting in a special VIP box. Wow. She mumbled to herself and helped Eri onto her seat. Where's Izuku? Eri asked. He'll be out with his class soon. Inko replied. She bit her lip. Her son was different. He was confident, assertive, he even had a quirk. Yet she couldn't stop seeing him as that crying boy asking her if he could be a hero. She wanted to make up for that by supporting him, but she didn't want him to get hurt. She shook her head. He'll be fine. Hello, Mrs. Midoriya. Inko jumped and looked at the source of the booming voice to be All Might. Ah, hello, All Might. She greeted. Eri shyly waved. Inko looked behind him to see 2 people. Let me introduce you to my old friend and his daughter. They come from my island, America. David and Melissa Shield. All Might introduced the brown-haired man and blonde teenage girl. Oh, it's nice to meet you both. My son loves your work, Mr. Shield. Inko got up and bowed. It's nice to meet you too. Your son is Izuku Midoriya, correct? David asked in perfect Japanese. Inko nodded. My daughter is the one who made his support gear. The man put a hand on the blonde girl's shoulder. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Midoriya. She bowed, speaking in Japanese. Inko smiled. I should thank you. Your gear helped him when he needed it the most. Melissa smiled. You're welcome. I should be the one thanking him. He saved my Uncle Might. Melissa replied. Eri looked at Melissa, oh this is Eri. Inko introduced the little girl who waved. Ah she's so cute. Melissa knelt in front of the girl, I'm Melissa. Eri bit her lip, Eri. The little girl spoke quietly. She's shy. Inko explained. Melissa nodded and got up. Well I have to go, hope you enjoy the festival. All Might left, look it's starting. David noticed present Mike starting to talk in Japanese. Melissa sat next to her father and Eri held onto Inko as she sat down. Izuku Midoriya. I walked out with my class as Mike introduced our class. I looked around and I could feel my nerves acting up. Geez this is nerve-wracking. I whispered to my friends. Iida looked at me. I admit, I too am nervous, but we will be facing the spotlights once we become pro heroes. This will serve as our first taste. He answered. Kami bumped her hip with mine. Don't worry Deku, you look fine. She winked. I rubbed the back of my head. If you say so. We stopped as Mike introduced Midnight. I blushed at Midnight's outfit. Seeing her in history class was different from when she's acting seductive. Now for the athlete's oath. Midnight snapped her whip. Should she really be teaching? Tokiyami commented. Midnight's eyebrow twitched. Pipe down, now your student representative is. She points her whip at me. From class 1A. Izuku Midoriya. I jumped as she announced my name. Since I got first place in the entrance exam, I had to give the oath. I wasn't prepared. I slowly walked to the stage in front of the microphone. I froze as everyone stared at me, damn it. Being confident is a lot harder when it's in front of the entire world. I closed my eyes. Opening them I see everyone waiting. I'm gonna be honest, I'm shaking, but not just out of nervousness, but excitement. I grinned wobbly, I see around me the future generation of heroes. Looking at the other classes, their surprise was apparent. We have a chance to show the world what we are made of, I'm telling everyone to give it their all. Go beyond. I raised my fist. Plus ultra. Everyone screamed with me. I stepped off the stage, my hands shaking. Amazing speech from Midoriya. Midnight cracks her whip. Now let's get this show on the road. I returned to my class. Iida did his normal air chopping. Great speech Midoriya. Kirishima smirked. It got my blood pumping. These are the qualifiers. It's in this stage that so many are sent home crying every year. Midnight points to the electronic board that was randomizing the events. And for this year. The board settles on obstacle course race. The first event will be an obstacle race. Midnight announced. The doors on the side of the stadium opened up. The course is a 4-kilometer lap around the stadium itself. It's a race between every member of all 11 classes. Midnight explained. I made my way to the starting line and cracked my neck. Our school preaches freedom in all things. Midnight giggled. So as long as you don't go off the course, it's fair game. I smirked and looked at my friends. Good luck, I said. Racer, to your position. Midnight ordered. I activated full cowling 10%. I stayed in the back and waited for Midnight's word. The light on the top of the gate turned orange. I let Black Whip build up in my arms. Start. The light turned green and everyone tried to squeeze through the small entrance, perfect, and opening over the wave of people. I launch Black Whips to the side of the wall making a slingshot. I smirk. Time for me to announce myself to the world. Sorry everyone but I made a promise. I stepped back. Whoa what's he doing? Nejire asked. She, Mirio and Tamaki were watching with the rest of the third years. Mirio grinned. Thinking outside of the box, if you want to get to the top. You gotta work your way from the bottom. I then let myself be pulled by the whips and I shot over the crowd. I winced as I almost hit the ceiling. I made it out to the other side. I gave a wave as I passed some of my classmates. See ya. Bakugo watched me pass and his anger reached its limit. Deku. He blasted his way out of Todoroki's ice and chased after me. Todoroki ran after me. I won't lose. He thought. I landed with a roll and started to sprint. I saw the zero-pointer robots in front of me. It's the Robo Inferno. Mike announced. I stopped and jumped back dodging a fist of the robot. This is my chance. I recognized that voice and not in a good way. I turned to see the great midget Minoru Mineta about to use his balls to stick to a Kami's back. She didn't notice him. Hell no. I jumped on the robot arm and jumped into the air and used Black Whips to grab the grape. Huh. He looked confused. I spun around making him spin with me. Ah. He screamed like a girl as I growled. Have a nice flight. I released the whip sending him flying back to the stadium. I landed next to Kami who looked at me with a confused look. What was that? I waved it off. Nothing important. Suddenly a wave of ice covered the robots as they were mid-step. Crap. I wouldn't. Todoroki said as he ran under the robots. I couldn't hear the rest due to the robots falling. I looked under them and saw Kirishima, Tetsu and another student about to be crushed. I let Black Whip fly, wrapping around the 3 students. I pulled them back before they could be crushed. Whoa, thanks Midoriya. Kirishima thanked me as he got up. Tetsu got up and hardened his arm. Yeah thanks but I would have been fine. He said. Kirishima hardened his arms. Hey copycat. Kirishima pointed at Tetsu. I used Black Whip to pull myself up one of the fallen robots, letting the 2 similar quirk users bicker. Bakugo followed me after growling, Shiro and Tokiyami followed suit. Using full cowling I ran after Todoroki, I wasn't gonna lose. Todoroki made it to the second event. A huge hole with pillars acting as platforms and rope connecting the pillars. This here is the next event. If you fall you're out, you gotta crawl if you wanna make it. This is the fall. Mike introduced the next event. I see Todoroki using ice to skate on the tightrope. I ran to the ledge and jumped off. I smirked shooting a tendril at one of the pillars and swinged from pillar to pillar. I passed Todoroki and he looked at me surprised. I winked and pulled myself onto the other side of the hole and started to dash to the next event, Todoroki hot on my heels. I looked back, I saw Todoroki but where was Boom? I saw Bakugo blasting his way towards us, his eyes filled with rage, yup he was pissed. I pushed OFA to 15% and ran faster. The last event, the minefield, don't worry, the mines aren't dangerous, except they can make you crap your pants. Classic Mike. I hope Eri didn't pick up on his language. I saw the minefield and slowed down. Okay, I didn't have a plan for this. I stopped and looked at the minefield. Okay, how to do this? I don't have the slab of metal, I don't have much control. I muttered and sighed, screw it. I activated overdrive and took a step back. Todoroki was closing in, so was Bakugo. It was now or never. I ran towards the start of the field and leapt. I flew through the air like All Might would. I started to fall and was about to hit one of the mines. I got ready to jump again. I landed hard and pushed against the mine as it exploded with pink smoke. I flew through the air and looked behind me. Todoroki was making an ice path for him to run through and Bakugo was next to him screaming. I couldn't hear him though. I looked back front and was way past the minefield. I landed with a roll and kept running. I was first. I made it back to the stadium. I made it to the finish line. I stopped panting, releasing OFA, letting my body relax. We have the winner of our first event. Midnight announced raising her whip. Izuku Midoriya of Class 1A. I panted and looked up at the teacher's box, All Might giving me a proud grin. I returned it with one of my own. I looked around and spotted another box. I saw Mom, David and Melissa Shield were here. I'll ask later, where was? I found Eri and our gaze met. She looked at me in awe, her ruby red eyes sparkling. I smiled at her. The others slowly arrived. Deku, you got first place, that was amazing. Ochako came over tiredly. Well, you made it as well, don't forget. I poked her forehead making her pout. I looked over at Iida who looked disappointed at his position, poor Iida. I turned around and locked eyes with Bakugo. He glared at me and I returned the glare with a determined stare. He scoffed and turned away. I looked around at the people who arrived. I saw familiar faces all around. I grinned, hopefully I didn't change too much. It's finally over, let's check the results. I looked up at the screen showing the 42 participants. I was first, Bakugo, Todoroki, Ibara, Juzo, Iida, Tokiyami, Shiro, Kirishima, Tetsu. Top 10. I racked my brain trying to remember who else was in the 42 last time but I couldn't. The top 42 from this qualifying round will be moving on. Midnight said, but don't worry for those placed lower. We've got another way for you to show your stuff. I turned to face Midnight. Now the main selection really begins. Midnight licked her lips, the press is going to be jumping out of their seats, give it everything you got. I watched the screen randomize the events. I knew what the next event was gonna be, it's gonna be a cavalry battle. Midnight shouted. She started to explain the rules and premises of the game, I tuned it out. Until she spoke of my score. The first place winner will be worth 10 million points. I suddenly felt the weight of the world on my shoulders with everyone staring at me like hungry animals. I looked around as everyone stared, I felt intimidated, like prey cornered by the hunter. Melissa was surprised by how Midoriya was able to win the race. He got first and didn't look tired. His use of his black tendrils gave her so many ideas, his gloves would need an opening for them. Inko started to cry like a fountain. Izuku, my baby. Wow, what a proud ma'am. After calming her down, Melissa took out a notepad and wrote down the necessary changes she needed to make for the suit. David smiled and pats her head, inspired. He asked her, Melissa nodded, yeah, this is amazing, the way the other students use their quirks so fluidly. Inko wiped her tears looking at Melissa and smiled. She reminds me of Izuku when he fanboys about heroes. She commented, well, this one likes to gush over heroes and inventions. David laughed, making Melissa blush. Papa, she shouted in English. The first place winner will be worth 10 million points. Midnight announced. Melissa watched as everyone stared at Midoriya, they were targeting him. He was the number one, just like All Might, people wanted his spot. Is Izuku gonna be alright? Eri asked worriedly. Melissa looked at Eri, he'll be fine. She assured the little girl, he's just in a tight spot. Melissa whispered to herself. David watched and crossed his arms, he's getting a taste of what it's like to be on top. He told Inko who watched biting her lip. Izuku Midoriya. I took a deep breath, closing my eyes, well that's how it's gonna be then. I channeled OFA 4% through my body, the electricity coursing through my body, some of the students around me backed off. My lips curled into a feral grin that could put Bakugo's to shame. Bring it on, I declared, my eyes shot open, shining with power. The sports festival had just begun. Chapter end notes. Yes, I added Melissa Shield into the story OFFICALLY. I always wanted her to have a bigger role than just her role in the movie. If you don't like it, don't care. I did this in 2 days. I was inspired. I will keep writing until my hands bleed, enjoy. Chapter 10. Chapter summary. Start of the second event. Chapter notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. I watched everyone move to find their teammates after Midnight announced that they had 15 minutes to form our teams. I looked around, should I intimidated my future teammates? I sighed and rubbed my forehead. Great job, genius. I mumbled as I thought on what to do next. Deku. Let's team up. Ochako came running up to me with a bright smile on her, yeah. I gave her a bright smile. You really saved my bacon, Ochako, thank you. I thanked her, not realizing that I called her Ochako. Ochako blushed as she heard me call her by her first name, anytime Deku. She smiled. I turned away. Okay, who else can join us? Ochako's blush went down. Iida. She asked. I looked around and found him talking to Todoroki. No, he's already on a team, plus, I get the feeling he wants to compete against, know that I mind. She followed my gaze. Oh, Mina. I looked to see her, Kirishima and Shiro talking to Bakugo. Nope, Kirishima is out as well. She looked at the two, she pouted. Kami. She muttered, not wanting to partner up with her love rival. I perked up. Oh yeah, Kami. I looked for her until I saw her talking to Sue and Shoji. Damn, I sighed and shook my head. There you are. I turned around and was face to face with crosshair goggles. Team up with me first place. I took a step back. Mei Hatsume, the crazy inventor that I needed to get in touch with. I honestly forgot who was in Team Izuku before. Do I know you? I asked nervously. Mei Hatsume, from the support course, and I want to use you to show off my cute babies for big industries. Hatsume took off her goggles, revealing her yellow eyes with crosshair pupils. I crossed my arms, looking at Ochako, who looked weirded out by Hatsume's forwardness. Okay, what can you contribute to this team, Ms. Hatsume? I asked, making her grin widely. Hee, I present to you. She takes out a box out of nowhere and dumps them on the floor. I looked at them, I smiled. Ms. Hatsume, this is the start of a beautiful partnership. I took the jetpack and looked at Ochako. Yup, this was gonna be fun. Okay, we have to get one more. I looked around and found Tokiyami. Izuku did make a good choice when he picked this team. I walked over and put a hand on his shoulder. Hey Toko, wanna ride with me into battle? I asked. Tokiyami stared at me before nodding. I would be honored. He accepted. We walked back. Okay, we have our team. What's the plan, Deku? Ochako asked me. I gave her a wicked smile. Melissa Shield. Melissa watched in interest as Izuku picked his teammates. He has a solid team. David nodded. The support girl interests me. I would love to see her inventions. David spoke as he watched Mei dump her inventions. Eri watched. Is he gonna be okay? She looked worried as everyone looked at her big brother in a certain way. Inko nodded. He will. She assured Eri. Melissa hummed. That student's quirk allows him to create a separate entity. She analyzed Tokiyami. The brown-haired girl can remove gravity from objects and they have a support student with a jetpack. She smiled. I like where this is going. Izuku Midoriya. Your 15 minutes are up. Midnight announced. I stood on Ochako and Hatsume's shoulders. Tokiyami was my front horse. I had the jetpack on my back. The girls had the hover boots, just like in canon. Get ready. I let OFA surge through me. Ready everyone? I asked. Yeah. Ochako nodded. Yup. Hatsume with her goggles on, grinned. Of course. Tokiyami spoke as dark shadow emerged from his stomach. Start. Midnight shouted as the timer started. Every team started to run towards us, so is the fate of the pursued. Tokiyami spoke. What's the plan? He asked me. Tactical retreat. We have what they want. Keep them away from us with dark shadow and I'll use my whips to provide support. I ordered as we started to move, but I could see the ground turning to quicksand. Hatsume, Uraraka, were taking off. I instantly activated the jetpack. With Uraraka's quirk, we flew into the air. Dark shadow repelled Jiro's earphone jacks. Good job. Keep watching our blind spots. I complimented. We're landing. Ochako spoke up. I gave a light finger flick, sending a small gust of wind to stop our descent from being too rough. So what do you think of my babies? Hatsume asked with a manic grin. Cute aren't they, just how I made them. She giggled. I smiled. Your inventions are amazing, Hatsume, they really help. I looked at Uraraka, and thanks for enduring our way to Uraraka. She looked surprised but nodded with a smile. I'll push through. I blinked as I sniffed the air. Peppermint, guys, do you smell that? I asked. Dark shadow suddenly attacked a random team that got too close, but it passed through. Wait, I charged OFA. Nice try. I exclaimed as I used a Harlem smash to blow away Kami's illusion mist, revealing Kami and Sue on Shoji's back. Huh. Kami looked shocked, but we were already running. Whoa, how did you know? Ochako asked as we ran. Her mist has a certain smell. I recognized it and saw that Dark Shadow's attack phased through the illusion. I explained. I needed to add that to the Class A notebook. I had a notebook for people and their quirks. It became a habit as I had the knowledge. Also a nuisance. Flashback. I was on my desk as Eri napped on my bed. I had my headphones on listening to Maroon 5, Maps. I was doing some homework for English. My mind wandered to my classmates. If I helped Kirishima reach his unbreakable mode before he was meant to, how could he improve even more? Todoroki needed to learn how to control his fire quirk, but that's something to think about after the festival. I continued this train of thought until I noticed that my hand was sore. Looking down, I froze as I had a notebook out, writing down everything about my classmates, their quirks, their strengths, weaknesses, possible new moves, stuff that I shouldn't know, and even theories. I flipped through it. All of my classmates had entries here. I shut the book and wrote down, Class A on the cover. I needed to buy a safe. Information is power, and the knowledge I had could cause problems. Wait, why were there more notebooks on the side? Villains, pros, Class B, oh. This was gonna be an issue. Flashback end. I shook my head to focus on the battle. I let Black Whip loose as it repelled Sue's long tongue. Nope. I immediately lifted us into the air to avoid the other teams. Okay, now. I was cut off by the sound of explosives. Dekui. Ochako warned, and I let Black Whip loose before Dark Shadow could do anything, hitting Bakugo, who was propelling towards us with his explosions. Gah. He started to fall, but Shiro caught him with his tape. Okay, We need to be careful, we're not safe in the air or on the ground. We landed again, I smiled, we're gonna. I'll be taking that. I looked up front to see Todoroki with his team giving me a glare, damn you canon. I glared, come and get it. I challenged him, okay plan. What was his plan in canon? Shock and freeze. I saw them coming towards us, what's the plan? Tokiyami asked, we can't fly, Bakugo will catch us. Ochako commented, baby needs a few seconds to recharge even if we wanted to. Hatsume commented, damn we can't fly. I looked at Kaminari, did he remember? Team Todoroki started to run towards us. I looked at Tokiyami. Toko, keep Dark Shadow in for a bit. My team looked at me, do you have a plan? He asked, an idea, just bear with me. I ordered. Kaminari let out a huge blast of electricity right after Momo made the insulation sheet. Now, I activated full cowling, the electricity stuck me, damn. I gritted my teeth, this was more power than that time, I needed to push through the pain, I pulled the surrounding electricity into my body, I grunted as my body shook. Todoroki looked shocked but growled as he thrust his pull down trying to freeze us. I crossed my arms and swung my arms downwards, arcs of electricity striking the ice before it could reach us. Ladies and gentlemen, I have never seen something unnatural. Izuku Midoriya absorbed and used Team Todoroki's lightning. Present Mike freaked out as the crowd cheered. I leaned to the side, Ochako tried to put her hand on my side to help but yelped as the electricity shocked her. Are you okay Deku? She asked. I nodded, yeah. I shut off full cowling and stared at Todoroki. Kaminari looked shocked, did you know he could do this? Momo asked Kaminari. I did but I didn't think he'd do it with 1.3 million volts. Kaminari responded. Todoroki clenched his fist, damn now they can't trap them. I have an idea but we will only have one shot. Iida spoke, get ready. Todoroki looked at Iida then at Midoriya who was recovering. He then looked to the stands to stare at his father. Alright. Todoroki held on tight to Iida. I tried the jetpack, it sparked with electricity. Baby needs more adjustments. Hatsume looked at it, the electric shock shorted it out, sorry. I apologized. That was quite the risk. Tokiyami spoke up, worth the risk. I said, Kaminari would have rendered Dark Shadow useless if it wasn't for you, thank you. Tokiyami thanked me. I smiled, you're welcome. I said and looked at Todoroki and around us, too many people close together, if we wanted to win we would need to wait out the time. I looked at the scoreboard, we were first. Monoma was second, Tetsu was third, Kendo was fourth, Todoroki was fifth and Bakugo had no points, okay. I looked back to Todoroki who was now coming towards us at high speeds. Midoriya. Tokiyami shouted but it was too late, Team Todoroki passed us with Todoroki snatching the headband from my head. Team Todoroki stole the headband, they're in first place. Mike announced. Got it. Todoroki looked at the headband and was surprised to see that it was tied to a cord, what? But the headband was ripped away from his hands and back into mine. In a shocking turn of events, Team Midoriya regained their headbands. I smirked, not this time. Flashback. I took the grappling belt from the pile of inventions and removed my jacket. Ochako blushed as she saw me with a white sleeveless shirt. Hatsume hummed, muscular indeed. She giggled. I paid no attention to it as I put the belt on and pulled on a cable. Hatsume, can you tie the headband to this? Tokiyami hummed, good idea Midoriya. Can do. Hatsume got to work. This can only work once, so we need to be very careful. If we reveal this too soon, they will try and cut the cord as soon as they have the headband. I explained. Ochako nodded. Okay, what do we do if our trick is revealed? She asked. What we have to do, survive. I replied. Flashback end. I tied the headband back on my head. Okay now we just need to wait it out. Iida was out since he used the Recipro burst, we had the advantage. Defense mode Tokiyami. I ordered as Dark Shadow came out ready to fight. 1 minute. Mike screamed. I narrowed my eyes as Todoroki's team ran towards us. Kaminari. Todoroki screamed as Kaminari shot a bolt of lightning towards us, damn. Dark Shadow blocks the attack screeching in pain. I let out Black Whip and cracked in front of us to stop the team in their place. Todoroki gritted his teeth, out of desperation, his left side started to ignite. Hand it over Deku. I heard Bakugo blast his way towards us, just a little longer. I smirked, 3.21, time's up. Bakugo fell on his face, Todoroki stopped. I got off and Uraraka jumped up and down in glee. We did it Deku. She exclaimed. I smiled at her, I looked at Hatsume who was working on her jetpack, which she took from my back without me noticing, typical Hatsume. Thanks for the assist Tokiyami. I turned to the last member of my team, it was my pleasure Midoriya. Tokiyami nodded, yeah. Dark Shadow cheered. In first place is Team Midoriya. Present Mike announced. I could have sworn the box where my mom and Eri were was starting to flood, must be mom. Second place is Team Bakugo. I could see Bakugo punching the ground out of anger. He really needs to learn how to take a loss. Third place is Team Shinso. Where did they come from? I found Shinso walking away from Ojiro and the other two students Shinso used his brainwashing on. We locked eyes and he smirked. I returned it with a narrowed stare. In fourth place is Team Todoroki. While Momo and Iida looked really down, Kaminari's brain was fried in Todoroki. He looked at his hand and was shaking. He used his fire to get the headband. Endeavor won't like the fact that his son lost to me. We will proceed to the afternoon portion after an hour lunch break. Mike said. See you then. Hey Eraser wanna grab some food? No. Aizawa replied. Todoroki walked up to me. We need to talk. I wanted to go see my mom and Eri but, I sighed, lead the way. We walked to a place where there was no one around, the emergency exit. We stood there and Todoroki stared at me with his cold eyes. I rolled my eyes. Are you gonna just stare at me? I asked, or should I just leave? Quote. You outsmarted me, made me resort to breaking my pledge. He glared. Your quirk is very strong, no one else notices but I could tell there's a similarity between you and All Might. Oh boy, here it comes. So tell me, are you All Might's secret love child? He asked with a straight face. There was silence, my face twitching, trying so hard to not laugh. Why is it always funny? I burst out laughing, ha 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 ha. I laughed for a good 2 minutes before calming down. Oh boy, that was hilarious, Todoroki. I wiped the tear from my eye. That wasn't a joke. He glared. I know it wasn't, and no, I'm not the son of All Might, I just have a similar quirk. I explained as I calmed my breathing. Even so, you and him are related somehow. If you're aware, my father is the number 2 hero endeavor. With those 2 facts it gives me more reason to beat you. He clenched his fist. He went on about his past, quirk marriage. All of that. I listened, I already knew this and I knew there was more to the story, I just wish I could say. I will rise to the top without using his quirk, I will deny him everything. He finished. I sighed. Okay, 1, you're an idiot. He looked surprised by my words. 2, if you wanted to deny him you should have picked a different career path. I crossed my arms, I understood his pain, where he was coming from but I wasn't gonna sugarcoat this. And 3, what you said pissed me off. My expression was one of controlled anger. I'm sorry you had to go through something like that, I can only give my sympathy but you are using half your power to win a competition. All to spite your father, your goal is skewed. I said, if you're not gonna give it your all here, I suggest you forfeit. I started to walk out. I made a promise to win, and I intend to keep it. I want to show the world that there are heroes that they can rely on, that they can trust with their lives. If you want to become a hero with half your power, you'll fail. I walked back to the cafeteria, leaving Todoroki to his thoughts. Was I too harsh? Yes, but he needed to get it out of his head that denying your father wasn't a goal of being a hero. I made it and saw my mom coming over with Eri and Melissa was with them. Hey mom. I greeted with a hug. Oh, you were so amazing out there, I'm so proud of you. Mom hugged me with all the strength she could muster. I pulled away and smiled at Eri. Hey, hope you're enjoying the festival. I picked her up and she nodded. You're winning. She gave me a small smile. I grinned, just a little closer. Well, I made a promise, didn't I? I poked her nose. Ehem. I looked at Melissa who smiled. It's nice to finally meet you, Izuku Midoriya. I put Eri down, and you too, Melissa Shield. I spoke in English. She looked surprised. How did you know? She replied in English. I switched back to Japanese. I saw you with David Shield in the booth as I looked for my mom and Eri. I just put the pieces together. Melissa hummed, strong, smart and perceptive. She crossed her arms. I look forward to working with you more when I transfer here. Now I was surprised. Transfer? I asked. Yeah, when I got the remains of the suit I made for you, I realized that working far from each other is inefficient. She explained. I wanted to see what UA had to offer. That's why I'm here, and I have to say, I'm not disappointed. Wow, thanks. I blushed. Let's get something to eat. Inko interjected with a smile. Yeah, I'm starving. We got a table and ate. Melissa was gonna be studying here in UA, another asset, maybe with her help I can help my friends. Soon it was time to return to the field and what I saw. What are they doing? I stepped into the field and saw the girls in cheerleading costumes. I blushed and covered my nose to stop the incoming nosebleed. Oh hey Deku. Ochako waved at me. So that business student lied about the other girls having to wear these outfits. She asked blushing. What business student? I asked confused and then my eyes widened. Wait, I narrowed my eyes. Was he short and had balls for hair and purple? The girls nodded. Mineta, I was gonna punish him for taking advantage of my classmates later. You girls look very nice though. I complimented. Ochako blushed harder and smiled at me. Really? I nodded. Really? What about me? Kami asked, coming over. Shit, she was hot, the outfit was showing a lot of skin. I blushed harder. Oh, and me. Mina smiled lewdly. Damn it, why were my classmates so hot? I looked away. You might want to change before anything else. I mumbled. Ah, don't you like the show? Kami asked before leaning in, or maybe you want to be the only one to see this, she whispered. Kami. Jiro screeched. Let's go. Momo sighed. The girls left making me sigh a breath of relief. What the hell, come back? I glared at the purple menace. You were the one who told them to wear that. I asked, making him freeze and look at me. I grabbed the back of his gym uniform. I'm gonna take that as a yes. I dragged him to the business course students. Does this belong to you? I asked, keeping the anger from seeping through. One of them saw me and groaned. So you were the one who did that, have you no shame? The male student sighed. Sorry about him, we can't control him. I kicked him over to them. Keep him on a leash or else I'm reporting. I said. You're just protecting your harem, you selfish. He stopped as I glared at him. Understood. The student nodded, not saying anything about me kicking his classmate. When I got back the girls were in their gym uniforms. Momo looked distraught. I walked over and put a hand on her shoulder. Next time, don't listen to perverts like that, come to me if something like that happens again. Momo blushed and nodded. Thank you Midoriya. She said. Now then, on to the final event. Midnight announced. Between the 16 member of the 4 winning teams, we'll have a formal tournament. I gulped. This was it. A series of one-on-one battles. Midnight declared and took out a box with the word lots on them. The matchups will be decided by drawing lots. Once that is settled, we'll move on to the festivities and then the tournament itself. I hummed, would I be against Shinso or someone else? Then Ojiro raised his hand. Excuse me, I'd like to drop out. Oh, damn, I forgot. I could have done something to prevent this, sorry Ojiro. As the others dropped out, I couldn't help but stare at Shinso, he didn't even care, did he? Once we drew the lots, the matchups were shown on the board. It was the same as before. Ochako against Bakugo. I really hated that fight. I sighed as Shinso walked up to me, Izuku Midoriya was it. He asked. I looked at him, Ojiro's tail covered my mouth. Don't speak to him, Shinso simply walked away. I looked at Ojiro, come on, we need to talk. I decided to follow him, I knew what to do, just scared of Shinso saying something he might regret. I stood in the hall just waiting to be called, I just needed to beat Shinso and not lose my temper. Easier said than done. Ah young Midoriya, glad I caught you. I turned around to see All Might in his true form, walking towards me. Hey All Might. I turned to face him. You've been doing great, first place for every event. He gave me a thumb up, I made a promise, I also really want to win this. I said rubbing the back of my head. There's nothing wrong with wanting to win, just do your best and you'll be fine. All Might put a hand on my head. I gave him a warm smile. Thanks All Might. I thanked my mentor, for everything. He ruffled my hair, I gave you the tools to make it here, you did all the hard work. He said, well that was true. So no issues with Black Whip? He asked, I shook my head. No, I'm able to use it freely, I just need to keep working if I want to use 100% of One for All without issues. I explained as I looked at the exit to the arena. If you feel nervous. I turned to see All Might buffing up giving me his signature smile. Just handle it by smiling. I gave him a smile of my own. Right. The intercom went on, that's my K. Good luck. I smiled and walked out into the arena. From the hero course. He has taken first in all the events, he is unstoppable. He is Izuku Midoriya. The crowd cheered as me and Shinso walked to the arena. Versus. Sorry this guy hasn't done anything to stand out yet, from general studies, it's Hitoshi Shinso. We stood on opposite ends of the arena, he gave me a blank stare as I gave him a curious look. Time for the third event to start. Chapter End Notes. Melissa is joining the Hero Academia. I have plans for the story. But first. Hero names. I was thinking on Izuku's hero name, should I keep the name as Deku or maybe give him a new name? Same with Aoyama and Shoto, I honestly find their names lackluster, no offense but can't stop twinkling. No just no. Suggestions are welcome. Chapter 11. Chapter Summary. Round 3 Part 1. Chapter Notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. I stared at Shinso, he hasn't heeded my advice on doing some training, he relies too much on his quirk, I can beat him since I'm stronger, but I do need to be careful, I couldn't respond to his taunts. Midnight started the match, the crowd was quiet, waiting for us to make a move. So most of your class made it to the finals, there are no such pushovers after all. Shinso commented, I felt my brow twitch, this guy. Nothing, Hussa that monkey told you about my quirk. Shinso smirked, well at least he was useful to you as he dropped out. I gritted my teeth as I started to walk towards him, I needed to end this. You know, I saw you and that brat with the horn. I stopped dead in my tracks. He better not. She's not that cute. Oh hell no. You, my mind blanked. Damn, I win, now turn around and walk out of the arena. Shinso ordered me, my body robotically moved, it turned and started to walk to the edge. That ass. Jiro screeched, whoa Jiro what's got you so mad? Kaminari asked, he just insulted Eri. Everyone in Class A met the little girl. They were attached to her and hearing Jiro's words, everyone, minus Bakugo and Todoroki had one thought. He's chosen death. I continued to walk, I couldn't control my body, my mind was foggy, I should have kept my emotions in check, okay easier said than done. Well I thought you wouldn't fall for the same trick twice but, considering it's because he insulted Eri, I guess that's fair. A familiar voice echoed in my head. Nana. I asked mentally, yup, since Shinso brainwashed you, I am able to speak to you, don't ask how, but I can also do this. I felt a sharp pain in the back of my head. I blinked and shook my head, I could move. What? I turned around and glared, Shinso glared back, how did you do that, answer me. I ran towards him, I didn't even need full cowling for this. I drove my fist into his gut, he almost lost his lunch. Should have taken my advice. I whispered as he tried to retaliate but I stopped his fist, I laid another punch on his cheek. He stumbled back and I walked up to him, sorry about this. I pushed him off the white line, Shinso is out of bounds. Izuku Midoriya is the winner. The crowd cheered. I ignored them as I offered Shinso my hand. He glared at me and got up. I don't need your sympathy. He spoke with venom in his voice. Really are you pissed at me for winning? I asked as he walked away, I followed him. You beat me, you didn't even need your quirk. We entered the hall, because I trained to fight, you on the other hand rely on your quirk too much. I told him. Shinso turned to me, glaring, what does that have to do with it? He asked, isn't the hero course about fancy heroic quirks? I sighed and rubbed my face, this boy. No, it's about training to save people, sure, sometimes quirks are a factor but if you don't have the muscle to back it up you won't get anywhere. Also, there is no such thing as an evil quirk, only people who use it for evil. I explained. So what do you suggest? Shinso crossed his arms. I smiled. Train, do exercise, find different ways of activating your quirk, taunts are good but don't go overboard. I then punched him hard in the stomach making fall to his knees. Why? He asked weakly. Don't ever insult my little sister ever again, or else. I threatened. He nodded. Clear. I helped him to recovery girl's office and went to where my class was sitting. Hey. I smiled. Hey, good work on beating that Aizawa look-alike. Jiro gave me a thumbs up. Oh shit, he does look like Mr. Aizawa. Mina screamed out laughing. Kaminari joined her. I laughed also. So who's fighting next? I asked Uraraka and Kami. It's Todoroki and Siro. Kami replied. I looked at the arena. Oh no. I took the ones who were up front and moved them to the back. Why do you want us to move here? Uraraka asked. Wait for it. I sat down. Start. I watched as Siro taped Todoroki, swinging him and then. Shing. Instantly half of the stadium was covered in ice, everyone was leaning back. Geez. He was pissed. I looked at Todoroki and frowned. Things were gonna be difficult with him, but first I had to watch the other students. Next was Kaminari and Ibara. This was bound to be interesting. With Kaminari's new tricks, he probably won't be as easily defeated. I watched Ibara and present Mike's interaction and sighed, a little much Mike. I mumbled. Start. Midnight started the match. Kaminari took a deep breath and let the electricity flow through him. He shot a bolt of lightning at Ibara who blocked with her vines. He shot another one again but yelped as his leg was grabbed by one of her vines and he was thrown out of the arena. I sweat dropped at that, that was anticlimactic. He needed more practice. The next match was Hatsume versus Iida. I watched with an amused smile, Hatsume presenting her inventions, using Iida as a mannequin. I bet Melissa is liking this. Melissa looked at the match with a blank face. On one hand she liked the inventions that Hatsume was presenting. But was this really the best time? David laughed next to her. Well, she's really making a splash. Weird. Eri whispered. I chuckled as May forfeit and walked out with the crowd booing at her. I rubbed the back of my neck. Typical Hatsume. Next was Ishido and Aoyama. I saw Ochako get up and walk to the prep room. I looked at her as she left. I frowned. The match went on as I expected. Mina won with her athletics, needed to help her get stronger also, just needed to figure out how to do so. I watched Momo's battle with Tokiyami and he bested her easily. I remembered that Momo started to have confidence issues after this. I got up and immediately ran to meet her. I ran down the stairs and I stopped as I heard light sniffling. I slowly turned the corner to see Momo crouching against the wall. This must have hit her hard. I walked over. Hey. I greeted as she looked up at me and quickly wiped her tears. Midoriya, what are you doing here? She asked. I ignored her question. You don't have to act, I can tell that you're devastated about the match. I spoke. Momo flinched and looked down. I crouched next to her. Come on, talk to me. I nudged her, her eyes watered once more. Do I deserve to be here? She asked me. I frowned. Of course you do. I told her, you're one of the best students in our class. I praised her, intelligence-wise. She snapped at me, when it comes to power I'm useless. She cried. I bit my lip, that's not true. I denied. The match was proof. She sniffed. I took a deep breath. Momo. I spoke softly, when it comes down to it, which is better, brawn or the brains? I asked her. Momo looked at me, her eyes puffy, wiping her nose she answered. Brawn. I shook my head. No, the brains, when I fight, I don't just rely on my quirk. I explain, sure I have a super strength quirk but what good is that when I don't have the smarts to use it? In its core, brawn is nothing without the brain to guide it. I poked her forehead. You have the brains, you can make plans and create the tools to make those plans a reality. I continued. But Tokiyami beat me. Momo said, because you were slow. I replied, I couldn't sugarcoat. This, she needed to know. You were slow on strategizing, you were slow in your creation. I listed out as she flinched. You lost. Okay, we have that out of the way. I got up and walked in front of her. So what are you gonna do about it? I asked. Momo looked up at me. You can sit here and cry, think about your loss or. I offered her my hand. You can rise above it, you can be faster, and train to cover your flaws. I smiled. Loss is a part of life. If there was no loss, the world wouldn't be as it is today. Momo stared at my hand for a few moments. I was scared that I made it worse but she took my hand and got up, a wobbly smile forming on her face. You're right, I can learn, I can be better. She declared. I smiled wider, that's the spirit. Mission accomplished. Ochako. I have somewhere to be Momo, sorry. I instantly ran off to find the prep room. Momo watched me leave with a hand over her heart, it was beating wildly. Izuku. She whispered. I hope I got through to her, things like that needed time but hopefully I sped it up. I found the room and entered it. I saw Iida talking to Ochako. Oh hi Iida, sorry about Hatsume. I apologized. It's fine, it's not your fault. Iida sulked. Ochako looked at me confused. Deku, shouldn't you be watching the matches? She asked. Well, the two matches have already ended. Mina beat Aoyama, Tokiyami beat Momo, the next one is Kirishima and Tetsu. But I think it'll take a while. I explained. I looked at Ochako, nervous about going against Bakugo. I asked. She looked down and slowly nodded. I can't imagine Bakugo going all out on a female opponent. Iida said. Iida, this is Bakugo we're talking about, he won't go soft with her. I interjected. Ochako gulped and bit her lip. Uraraka, I have strategies on how to beat him, I spoke, but. I get the feeling that you don't want that. I said. Iida looked surprised. Ochako looked up at me just as surprised. I laughed. I could tell that something was up with you, you're taking this very seriously. Ochako blushed. Well, it is Bakugo. She commented, thanks for the offer but as you said, I won't take it. She got up. In the cavalry battle, I was putting my faith in you, I want to be able to fight on my own, to stand on my own. She walked up to me and gave me a warm smile. Thanks for supporting me but I need to do this myself. I couldn't help but smile back at her. I can understand that. I put a hand on her shoulder, win or lose, it doesn't matter, you did your best and that's what we're here to do, give it our all. She nodded. Right. Iida looked on awkwardly and gave a cough, Ochako then blushed and pushed right past me. I gotta go wish me luck. She ran out, her face was hot as she put a hand on her shoulder smiling. I blinked, well let's get going then, I don't wanna miss this. I said to Iida as we walked back to the rest of the class. I sat down and watched as Ochako and Bakugo walked into the arena. I never liked watching this. Ochako Uraraka. Ochako took a deep breath as Present Mike shouted their introductions, the one about her filling her up with a bit of confidence. Bakugo stared at her with heated eyes. You're the floaty one right, round face. Her face scrunched up at the nickname, if you're gonna back down then do it now, giving up halfway won't do anything. Midnight cracked her whip. Start. Ochako started to run towards him, her body low with her arms wide, not gonna happen. She screamed. Bakugo swung his right arm as she tried to dodge but was too slow, the blast sent her back. She ran again, just need to touch him once. Ochako thought as she tried to touch him again but was once again blasted away. Inko gasped as Katsuki was going all out on her, she held Eri close who whimpered at the sight, she covered Eri's eyes. So ruthless. Melissa watched as Bakugo blasted Ochako over and over, she saw Ochako's plan and was surprised by how far she was willing to go. David was reminded of Toshinori's determination when they worked in America. He was also surprised by how merciless the blonde boy was. Izuku Midoriya. I watched biting my lip, man he's not holding back. Kaminari said. Jiro nodded. Yeah. I sighed and looked up, Kami tore her eyes from the battle to look at me, confusion was forming on her face. What are you looking at? She asked me. I pointed up, Kami looked up and gasped, everyone did the same, now it was clear, I smiled, at a girl. I whispered in English. Ochako Uraraka. Ochako was panting, she was tired, her body ached, she fought her hardest and not a scratch on him, she wouldn't give up. She stood up, thank you Bakugo. She had one more ace. Thank you for not dropping your guard. She put her fingertips together. Meteor storm. Present Mike shouted, Ochako ran towards Bakugo, hopefully as he was distracted with her attack, she could get a hit in. But Bakugo let out a huge blast, destroying all the debris falling and the shock wave sent her back again. She fell on her stomach and slowly got up, no. She glared at Bakugo who looked at her with something she hasn't seen before. Come on Uraraka. He acknowledged her. No not yet. In her body, pink sparks started to manifest, her hand slowly started to glow pink. I blinked as I felt something, I looked for the source and saw Ochako's body sparking pink lightning, I withheld a gasp. I could feel a small part of one for all steering inside her. But when? The cavalry battle. When she tried to touch me after I redirected Kaminari's blast, some of it must have seeped into her, but I don't feel anything missing. I needed to talk to All Might about this. Ochako felt stronger, she raised her arm, Bakugo suddenly found herself floating, what the hell? He screamed as he waved his arms around. Ochako felt her stomach getting upset, she was past her limit. No. She fell face first, passing out. Bakugo fell back to the ground face first. He got up and stared at her. Ochako Uraraka is no longer able to continue, the winner is Katsuki Bakugo. Midnight announced. I got up and immediately went to Recovery Girl's office to check on her. Okay, Uraraka's quirk evolved, she couldn't control gravity from a distance, now she can, OFA was a stockpiling quirk, it stockpiled power, when she touched me as I was electrified, some of the power must have transferred to her, not a lot but enough to boost her quirk to evolving. Was it permanent? Deku. I stopped and looked to the side to see Bakugo coming towards me, you gave her that plan didn't you? He asked, I narrowed my eyes. No I didn't, she did that all on her own. I spoke as I started to make my way to the nurse's office. Now if you'll excuse me, I need to check on my friend. I said leaving him to his thoughts. I found Uraraka sitting down, oh hey Deku. She waved with a weak smile. I guess I lost. She rubbed the back of her head. I knew she was hiding her disappointment, I walked over and sat across from her, you know, I understand that you don't want to show your frustration. I looked at her seriously. Ochako blinked, what are you talking about? She bit her lip, I sighed, I reached over and held her hand, you didn't disappoint me. I said. She stared at me before whispering, you're not. She asked. I shook my head, I'm actually proud of you and I bet that your parents are proud also. I smiled as she started to tear up. You may have lost but you fought tooth and nail, that is something that shows who you are, people will want someone like that interning under them. I squeezed her hand. If it helps you feel any better, I'll kick Bakugo's ass for you in retaliation. I winked. She laughed as she wiped her tears. Deku you don't have to promise that. I got up, letting go of her hand. I made a promise to win today, I intend to keep it, I can make the same promise to you. I heard my name being called. Well I better go, I said as I walked to the door. Sorry I wasted your time. Ochako tried to apologize. It's okay, I wanted to talk to you before anything else. I gave her a smile and walked out. I walked down the hall. I couldn't stop the smile on my face, that girl was gonna be big. I was stopped by Endeavor, who stepped in front of me. There you are. He spoke, his voice deep and intimidating. I looked at him. What can I do for you, Endeavor? I asked as I kept my cool. I didn't have much against him. Well, future him, this him was a jerk. I saw what you did out there. Those black tendrils and super strength, that strength that could be close to All Mights. The number 2 hero spoke. I raised an eyebrow. And what does that have to do with anything? I asked. Endeavor's gaze hardened. My son Shoto has a duty to surpass All Might. He said, your match with him will be a great stepping stone, so give it your all, put up a good fight. I felt anger build up inside me. He started to walk past me. That's all I have to say, sorry for bothering you. I unconsciously activated full cowling. Endeavor stopped to look at me, my body covered in teal lightning. I'm not All Might. I spoke in an angered tone, of course you aren't, and Todoroki isn't you. I finished, our gazes met, he was surprised by how much hatred I was radiating. So don't push your ideals onto him, let him pick his own path, you're only making him hate you. I walked away without another word. I deactivated FC, I sure hoped I didn't make an enemy of the number 2 hero. I walked out of the hall and towards the stage. This was it, my battle with Todoroki. I had a mission, a goal, help Todoroki, but I also had a promise to win. I was gonna do both. Todoroki glared at me from across the arena, my stare unwavered. Are you ready? Midnight asked. Yes. I answered. Todoroki nodded. Midoriya versus Todoroki. Mike announced. The tension was high, I needed a strategy that didn't involve breaking my fingers. Start. Midnight cracked her whip. Todoroki sent a wave of ice at me. Chapter end notes. Okay, yes, I understand that this may seem rushed, but I was doing this from my phone and didn't have much to show about the canon matches. Kaminari needs more practice, Momo got help with her confidence issues, and Ochako's quirk evolved. I hope you enjoyed this chapter. Chapter 12. Chapter summary. The last round. Chapter notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. Everyone watched as an iceberg covered the other half of the arena. Eri whimpered, worried about her big brother being covered in ice. Inko gasped as she covered her mouth. Todoroki stared at the ice and was sure victory was his. But his thoughts were interrupted by a whistle. Everyone looked at the top of the iceberg and I was crouching on one of the spikes. I was giving him a dull stare. Is that all you got? I asked. Whoa, how did he get up there? Mike asked in shock. He jumped the last second. We were too focused on the ice to notice. Aizawa answered dully. Todoroki gritted his teeth as he sent another wave of ice over the iceberg. I glared and jumped again, using Black Whip to swing around. Still staying in the arena, I landed on the spikes of the newly made ice. I can do this all day. I called. I didn't want to do this, but I had to push him to use his fire. Todoroki glared and looked to the stands to his father, whose expression was one of anger. I growled and pushed off the spike towards my opponent. Where are you looking, Todoroki? I yelled as I prepared a kick. His attention shifted back to me and he skated out of the way. I landed with a hard crash. I groaned and looked around. The arena was almost covered. I needed to fix that. I tapped into AFA and turned it up to overdrive. Black Whip. Rampage. I screamed as Black Whips shot out of my hands and started to destroy the ice. Todoroki dodged the lashing whips and I pulled them back as soon as the arena was clear again. I spread my arms. I'm still waiting, Todoroki. I announced as he once again sent a wave of ice. I let out Black Whip again. It destroyed the ice. I felt my body straining, but not as bad as before. My body was getting used to the percentage. Todoroki shivered as he was getting cold. What's wrong? Getting too cold? I asked as I walked closer, making him send another wave of ice, but it was smaller than the others. He was reaching his limits. I shot out Black Whip, breaking the ice again. I kept walking towards him. Ochako Uraraka. Ochako was surprised by how Deku seemed unfazed by Todoroki's attacks. He was even taunting him. If Deku spreading his arms was any implication, now he was blowing away those waves of ice like it was nothing. What's he trying to do? Kami asked just as amazed. Don't know, but this is so manly. Kirishima said in awe. Bakugo watched and growled. Deku, he was acting so smug, he couldn't wait to put him in his place. Ochako watched. Todoroki's quirk was ice and fire. Was Deku trying to make him use his fire? Don't do anything stupid, please. Ochako whispered. Momo gulped, feeling worried about her new crush. He was so confident but was playing a dangerous game. Please be okay. She whispered. Izuku Midoriya. I growled as Todoroki looked at Endeavor again. He's not your opponent, focus. I screamed as I ran towards him and was able to land a blow across his cheek. Midoriya delivered the first blow. Mike screamed. The crowd cheered as I pulled him from the edge and threw him to the middle. Stop thinking about him, it's just me and you. I said angrily. Todoroki growled and sent another wave. This time I jumped over it and pushed off the spikes. The ice slowed his reaction as I punched him in the stomach. He stumbled and tried to attack me, but I jumped back before he could do anything. You're shivering, you could heat yourself up if you used your fire. I prodded as I cleared the ice behind me with a wave of Black Whip. Todoroki got angry. Did he put you up to this? He asked. No, he didn't. I just see that you are still not giving it your all. I exclaimed. I pointed at myself. Your tricks may have worked for others, but you haven't laid a scratch on me yet. I screamed. Why are you going so far? Todoroki asked as he tried to send another wave of ice at me, but it stumbled as he was getting close to freezing over. Not good. I frowned, because I know that you're hurting. I can tell. I don't want to be a hero to beat the bad guys. I want to be a hero to save people. I said. Todoroki's eyes widened as he heard my words. So what kind of hero do you want to be? I asked. I could see the look in his eyes, and in a flash, Todoroki's left side was set aflame. I shielded my eyes and smirked. Finally. I'll be a hero. Todoroki said with a wild smile on his face. The ice covering his body was melting. This was great. But how was I gonna counterattack? Oh. I could hear Endeavor's shouting at his son. I ignored it as I moved my hand away from my eyes. You're crazy for helping your enemy. Todoroki said. I laughed. You're not an enemy, Todoroki. I charged OFA to 40%. He then raised his arm ready to fire. I gritted my teeth, pushing it to 50%. Midoriya, thank you. Todoroki let loose a huge wave of ice. I jumped into the air again, dodging the sea of frost. I gasped as Todoroki blasted a strong torrent of fire at me. Harlem smash. I clapped my hands together, blowing the flames back and enveloping Todoroki. I landed and dashed towards him. I blew past the steam and smiled at his surprised look. You welcome. I mouthed as I punched him in the stomach, sending him flying through his newly made barrier into the wall. I pant as I winced in pain. I looked down. Yup, I needed to see Recovery Girl. Todoroki is out of bounds. Midoriya is the winner. The crowd went wild at Midnight's announcement. Weird, they didn't try to stop us this time. Was it because of me not breaking my bones? I limped over to Todoroki and saw him on the floor, unconscious. His shirt was burnt off. I used my good arm and grabbed his arm, helped him up. Let's go. I grunted as I took him to the nurse's office. We entered and I flinched at Recovery Girl's glare. I smiled sheepishly and yelped as she hit my shin with her cane. Sit down on the bed. She ordered. I sat down and let her heal any wounds I had. You're lucky that you have a good hold of your quirk, but next time don't push it for something like this. She scolded. I apologized as I got up, stumbling. Is he gonna be okay? I asked her, looking at the unconscious Todoroki. RG waved me off. He'll be fine after some rest, just some bruising. She walked to attend to him. I left through the door and was surprised to see all of my classmates running my direction. Midoriya. They stopped in front of me. Dude, that was crazy. Kaminari exclaimed. You and Todo really destroyed the stage. Smintas is fixing it, so it'll be a while. Kami explained. I blushed in embarrassment. I may have gotten carried away. I chuckled, rubbing the back of my head. No kidding, bro. You were going at Todoroki like a pro, hopping around. Kirishima smirked. Very manly. I smiled, bumping fists with the redhead. So how is he? Zero asked. He's unconscious. Recovery Girl is looking over him. I replied as we all walked back to the seating area. Soon, it was time for Kirishima versus Bakugo. I was gonna go against Iida and I had a viable strategy already, but what was on my mind was Stain. I couldn't do anything to help Tensai, Iida's brother. I swallowed the lump on my throat. Bakugo won and glared right at me, but I paid him no mind. I got up as did Iida and we went to our respective rooms. I passed a hall and saw Shoto walking away from his father, who looked really displeased. I continued walking. I was useless. I couldn't help the people I knew needed it. I sighed. No. I needed to focus. Sorry, Tenya. I stood in front of my friend. So, no hard feelings? I asked with a weak smile. Iida smiled back, replying. No hard feelings, just give it your all. I took a deep breath as Midnight started the match. Iida ran towards me, probably hoping to push me out. I activated FC and rolled to the side, dodging his kick. I smirked as I retaliated with a kick of my own. Iida blocked my attack with his arm and jumped back. So it won't be so easy, he said, wiping the sweat from his brow. I shook my head, getting into a stance. Iida launched at me again. I used Black Whip to grab him. I pulled hard and spun him around. I let go, sending him flying to the wall. I winced as he hit it. Iida is out of bounds. Midoriya is the winner. I walked off the stage and offered Iida a hand. Sorry about that. I gave him an apologetic smile. Iida laughed and took my hand. Don't be, I should have seen it coming. He got up and we went back to the stands. I bit my lip and looked at him. Iida looked at me confused. Is something wrong? He asked me. No, just nothing. I walked faster, leaving him confused. I gritted my teeth. Next was Bakugo. Tokiyami was a bad match for Bakugo. I watched as Bakugo blasted his way to victory. Without Dark Shadow, Tokiyami couldn't defend himself. Wow, I thought Tokiyami would win. Ochako frowned next to me. He was a bad match. Dark Shadow is weak to light. I replied as I looked at her. By the way, what was that at the end with Bakugo? I asked. She shrugged. I just felt power and then passed out. She raised her hand and levitated a drink. I can still do it, but the drink suddenly drops as I catch it. So you need practice, I said, making her nod. Don't worry, that's what we're here for, to train. I smiles at her. You're up, she said as they announced the next round. Good luck. She gave me a smile. Yeah, kick his ass. Mina and Toru cheered. If you win, you'll get a kiss. Kami purred. I blushed and got up. Gotta go. I ran off. Ochako pouted. Why do you have to do that? She asked Kami, who shrugged. He's cute and single, how can I not? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the final round. Present Mike screamed, making the crowd go wild. At the left side, we have our explosive contender whose temper is shorter than his fuse. Katsuki Bakugo. The crowd cheered as Bakugo stepped onto the stage, his face focused, ignoring the jab from Mike. And in the right side, Master of the Whip. Hey! Midnight screamed angrily. Second, Master of the Whip, the icebreaker. Izuku Midoriya. The crowd screamed louder as I stepped onto the stage, sweat dropping at Mike overhyping me. I stared at Bakugo, who stared back with intensity. You better remember our deal. Bakugo reminded me. I raised an eyebrow. Ms. Midnight, before you start. I interjected. For this round, I want us to have no ring outs. I raised my voice loud enough for everyone to hear. I looked at Bakugo. What do you say? I asked. He gave me a savage grin. For once, I agree. He replied. Midnight looked surprised. She then pressed her fingers against something against her ear, a communication device. Midnight nodded. Understood. She said and raised her whip. Principal Nezu has allowed it. I stared at Bakugo as I activated FC. Bakugo positioned his hands behind him. Midnight raised her whip. We tensed. The whole audience was silent in anticipation. The whip came down. Start. Bakugo blasted off towards me. I dashed towards him in a flash of teal lightning. The moment we were about to make contact, Bakugo tried to hit me with a right hook. I immediately grabbed it. My eyes widened as Bakugo used his other hand to try and blast me. I pushed him back and stumbled before he could blast me. Nice try, Deku. I won't fall for the same thing twice. Bakugo grinned and blasted towards me again. I growled and jumped over him and grabbed his collar. I spun and threw him to the wall. Bakugo used his explosions to stop himself and propel himself back to me. Stay still. He raged as I landed and used my arms to block a blast to the face. My arm stung in pain as I jumped back. Bakugo has landed the first blow. Mike commented as I unleashed Black Whip trying to grab him. Bakugo dodged and weaved through, using his explosions to repel the whips. Die. He let loose a huge blast in my direction. I yelped and jumped off the arena onto the grass. I fell on my back as the explosion shot over me. I rolled over as Bakugo landed with a blast where I was laying seconds ago. I shot up uppercutting his jaw and kicked him back. As he was stunned, Black Whip latched onto his leg and I pulled hard slamming him against the ground. He recovered quick aiming his hands at me. I jumped back as he tried to blast me again. I jumped back into the arena and aimed at him, my hands in a flicking position, Delaware smash. I shot 2 unstable air bullets at him. Bakugo's eyes widened as he dodged and blasted into the air. I shot 2 more before I flinched. My fingers weren't used to this. Bakugo took the opportunity and sent a huge blast towards me. I jumped back and gave a powerful clap that blew away the explosion. Bakugo growled and ran towards me with his hands popping with explosives. Stop dodging. I narrowed my eyes. I was holding back because I didn't want to end it too quickly, but I didn't have a choice. I charged OFA to 20%. I gritted my teeth and made a bring it gesture with a smirk. Bakugo got angrier. Fine, this will be the big finisher. He blasted into the sky and started to spin as he descended. Looks like Bakugo is becoming a living missile. Mike screamed. I stood my ground. Howitzer impact. Bakugo screamed as he was getting closer. I jumped high as soon as he landed. I was blown back by the explosion but used a Delaware smash to propel myself towards him through the smoke. Bakugo panted as he got up, his hands aching from the overuse of his quirk. I started to spin as well, pushing the smoke away. His eyes widened in shock as I slowed down and aimed a kick right at his face. Sorry Bakugo, but I'm winning this. I screamed. Las Vegas smash. The attack landed, sending him flying to the wall. I landed and stumbled. Too much spinning. I looked at Bakugo and waited for him to get up but he didn't. Katsuki Bakugo is unconscious. Izuku Midoriya is the winner of the first-year sports festival. Midnight announced. The crowd screamed in approval. I won. I raised my left arm in a victory pose, just like the one All Might did in Kamino. The crowd became louder after that. I looked at the box where my mom and Eri were and I was happy to see Eri jumping up and down with a huge smile on her face with mom crying tears of pride. I walked off the stage and lifted Bakugo's unconscious body up to take him to Recovery Girl. I was on cloud 9. I won the sports festival and got a big smile out of my little sister. That lasted until I made it to the nurse's office where RG started to hit me with her cane. Reckless. You could have killed him if you didn't hold back. She continued to hit my kneecaps with her cane. Ow, I had to give him a fight or he wouldn't take the lose. Ow. I sat on the bed rubbing my sore kneecaps. RG huffed and started to tend to Bakugo. The door opened and Eri came running in. You won, you won, you won. She jumped in my arms, repeating the same phrase with an adorable smile on her face. I laughed and hugged her tightly. Of course, I made a promise, didn't I? I saw my mom running in, crying. Oh my baby Izuku. She hugged me and Eri tightly. I'm so proud of you. She cried and I couldn't help but tear up and hug her back with a wide smile. Thanks mom. I whispered. For believing in me. She pulls away, wiping her tears. I will always support you Izuku. She said shakily. Eri tugged my jacket. Is he okay? She asked as she pointed to Bakugo. I looked at my rival and nodded. Yeah, he's okay. Then the doors swung open again, with most of my classmates coming in. Midoriya. Quiet down and one at a time. RG screeched as she pushed some of them out. Ochako, Kirishima, Mina and Kaminari came up to me, smiling. You won. Ochako cheered and I returned her smile. Yeah, it was hard but it was worth it. I gave her a thumbs up. I kept my promise to you. I said. Ochako blushed and smiled shyly. Yeah. Mina and Kaminari looked at her with teasing smiles. I looked behind them. What happened to Iida? I asked, but I already knew the answer. Mina frowned. Oh, he had to leave because of a family emergency. Ingenium. I nodded. I understand that. I looked at my mom and was surprised to see her crying again. Mom, what's wrong? I asked. My baby has so many friends. She wailed and hugged me tightly. I blushed in embarrassment. Kaminari and Mina were grinning mischievously. I gave them a, don't you dare, look. Thankfully before they could say anything, Bakugo woke up with a groan. I won our bet, I didn't have to tell him anything, but then he wouldn't trust me. Bakugo had his rough patches but was an amazing hero. I closed my eyes making my decision. I stood in the first place podium, Bakugo, who looked upset but not raging, was in the second place podium and Tokiyami was in third place. Iida was supposed to be there but he wasn't. I tuned out Midnight's words as I stared at Bakugo, he wasn't even mad about coming in second. I saw All Might come flying down, I am here, to award the medals. He landed with a loud thud. I suppose Midnight didn't speak over him. All Might placed the bronze medal around Tokiyami's neck and gave him a hug. I stifled a laugh at the edgelord's look. Young Bakugo, you have fought with tenacity and determination. Bakugo snatched the medal with a grumble, better than before at least. And now, young Midoriya, you have really made me proud today. All Might as in front of me putting the medal around my neck, I took the medal in my hands and smiled. Thank you All Might and also, don't say thanks for all your hard work, go with the motto. I whispered the last part, his eyes widened in shock and I gave him a wink. He then laughed, you know me too well my boy. He turned around, in the count of 3 everyone. His voice echoed through the stadium. Plus ultra. Everyone cheered, me among them. This was something to remember. Katsuki Bakugo. A day after the sports festival, Bakugo waited by Dagoba Beach, he was told to come here right after the festival. He growled as he saw Deku walking to him. Why did you ask me to come here, you won, you don't need to tell me anything. Bakugo spat. Deku frowned. I want to tell you Bakugo, I know that you hate me, but I want us to start fresh. Deku spoke walking closer. I want us to be friends and rivals, I'm not quirkless, nor do I look down on you. Bakugo scoffed. Yeah well if that's all you want to say I'll be leaving. He turned to leave. You were right, Deku said, stopping Bakugo in his tracks. About what? He asked turned back to face Deku, whose face was serious. I'm not Izuku Midoriya. Deku. No the imposter spoke. Chapter end notes. I'm finishing this chapter with my phone, I may come back and edit it. I don't have a computer right now so. Please bear with me. Chapter 13. Chapter summary. The truth and hero names. Chapter notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. Bakugo stared at me with an angry expression. He raised his hands, small explosions popping from his hands. So who the fuck are you, a villain? He asked. I gave him a dull look. Bakugo, if I was a villain, why would I be training to be a hero, why would I have saved All Might at the USJ? I listed out, I am not a villain, I'm just a person who's stuck in this body. Bakugo stared at me for a few moments before crossing his arms. Alright, explain, he demanded. I sighed, the day of the entrance exam, I woke up in this body, I have memories of the real Izuku and his habits but my memories are still there. I poked my forehead. The explosive boy looked at me with an incredulous face. Okay fine if you do have his memories, then tell me something only we would know. He narrowed his eyes. I already knew what to tell him. When you were 3, your mom put you in an animal onesie, but my mouth was covered by Bakugo who was growling, his glare was so intense, if looks could kill, I would have died. Shut the fuck up, he snarled and backed off. I smiled innocently. Okay so how the fuck did you get into Deku's body? He asked after calming down a bit. If only I knew. I said shrugging. Bakugo's eyes softened a bit, does Auntie Inko know? He asked me, my expression saddened, I shook my head. Why the fuck didn't you tell her? He demanded. I'm waiting for the right moment, what do I say? I puffed up my chest in an exaggerated manner. Hey, I'm not your son, I just inhabit his body, but I can still live here right? I then slumped sighing. I don't want to hurt her, I have his memories, so it's like she's my real mom, I rubbed the back of my head. Then why did fuck did you tell me? Bakugo asked. I lost our bet, yet you tell me anyway. I chuckled, Bakugo, Izuku thought the world of you, you were his symbol of victory, his hero. I looked at him, you inspired him, even after everything you did. I saw him flinch, at least he regrets it. And me, I think that you're gonna be a great hero, if you become a better person, you just need to learn to tone down your superiority complex. I smiled as he took a deep breath to calm himself, wow didn't think he knew how to calm down. Quote. Is he still in there? He asked. No. I said rubbing my temple, I checked, but he's not in here, I can't feel him. I bit my lip. After the entrance exam I tried meditating to find some semblance of the real Izuku but all I found was memories. I walked to a nearby bench and sat down, Bakugo after some time, joined me. We sat in silence. 5 minutes passed, Bakugo finally spoke. So who are you? He asked. I looked at my hand for a moment, remembering my life before coming here. I was just a guy who had no purpose in life, no goal, no direction, nothing. I closed my eyes. Quote. I meant your name dipshit. I couldn't help but laugh, not important. I dismissed, my old name has no purpose here, I'm Izuku Midoriya now. I leaned back, looking at the stars. Bakugo scoffed, at least you have more backbone. I rolled my eyes, I was able to beat you Bakugo, that means we're equals now. I poked his rib. Bakugo glared at me, you're still gonna be Deku. He responded, not denying my words. I laughed, fair enough, Uraraka calls me that anyway. I said, and where the fuck did you get that quirk? He asked. Ah that question, well since I never said anything about receiving my quirk from someone else. I have no idea, it came at the exam. I shrugged. Before the exam, Izuku was building muscles. In the end, my quirk kicked in when I wanted to save somebody. I explained. Maybe because I came in and got a quirk along with it. Bakugo looked skeptical for a moment before nodding slowly. He bought it. And don't expect me to be nice to everyone, he said, crossing his arms. You can still be a hard ass. I interjected, just try to not be a total jerk and socialize with people who you think is strong. I said, nudging him, making him glare at me. Whatever, I'm going home. He got up and walked away. Just wait until our rematch, I'll win. He declared, turning to face at me one more time, then walking home. I smiled. I made a friend out of him, at least I think. I got up and headed home. I needed to do some brainstorming for my hero name. During the break, Melissa transferred and is moving into her new apartment, which was right next to where All Might was living. Second shocking thing, Melissa and David already knew about All Might's skinny form. When did this happen? So when did you find out? I asked as I carried a box into Melissa's new place. Oh, I found out 2 years ago. Uncle Might visited us and was talking to Dad when I walked in. I was shocked and worried about his injuries, but there wasn't much to be done. Melissa explained as she came up behind me with her suitcase. Okay, some things changed. I hope this doesn't cause too much trouble. All Might in his buff form came in carrying a bigger box. Where do you want this? He asked. Over there. Melissa pointed at the corner. After I put my box down, I leaned in, whispering to my mentor, does David know about AFA? He looked confused for a moment before his eyes widened. Ah, well no. He shook his head. Okay, so David must be working on the quirk enhancer. I bit my lip. Maybe you should tell him. I whispered as David was helping Melissa set up a computer. All Might looked at me shocked. Please, trust me on this. I have a feeling that if you tell him, he will understand. I cut him off. If David knew about One for All, he would stop trying so hard to finish the quirk enhancer and he won't hire Wolfram to steal it back in the expo. All Might stared at me for a moment before looking at his longtime friend. He sighed. All right, he said. Crisis averted, hopefully. It was time to get back to school. I rode the train with Eri on my lap. I was recognized by people on board and was praised for my victory in the sports festival. I had to put up my umbrella since it was raining, Eri wearing a cute green raincoat next to me. We walked to UA, earlier than usual since I had to drop Eri off at Nezu's office. After doing that, I went to the classroom and found Iida already sitting there. His head was down. I know what happened to Ingenium was affecting him. I bit my lip walking over. Hey Iida. I greeted. He looked at me, his eyes didn't match the smile on his face. Good morning. He greeted. Are you okay? I asked. I heard about your brother. But I was cut off. Thank you for your concern, but I'm fine, thank you for your concern. I kept quiet after that. I wanted to push, to change things. I closed my eyes. Okay Iida, if you're sure. I walked to my desk and sat down. Today was the day we picked hero names. Time to do some brainstorming. The seats filled up and I was going through some names on my notebook. Ochako came in and sat down. She was practicing the new aspect of her quirk with her pen. Good, she's practicing. Bakugo was the last one to come in. We locked eyes for a moment. The room tensed. He didn't glare or give me a look of hate. He just went to his seat in front of me. Morning. I greeted. He grunted in response. The whole classroom sighed in relief. I hummed and looked out the window. Things were different. From my meddling or just by my presence, I had to live with that. Mr. Aizawa came in and class started. I pretended to listen as he showed the list of students who got the most internship requests. I was first, Todoroki was second, Bakugo was third. I could feel Bakugo fuming in front of me. I looked at Iida, worried about his future. What would happen if I messed something up? He could die, he could be crippled. I clenched my fist. No, that won't happen. There'll be hell to pay. Midnight announced her presence as she strutted in. Oh, code name's right. I looked at Aoyama. I took a small piece of paper and wrote down something. I handed it to Shiro, mouthing Aoyama, who nodded and passed it along. Once we got our pads, Aoyama got my note and unfolded it. He looked at me. I gave him a smile and a lazy wave. He seemed to sparkle even more than before and wrote down in his notepad. Bakugo hit me in the head with the stack of notepads he was trying to pass. Get your head out of La La Land, nerd. He growled as I took the stack and passed the other ones behind me. I then passed him a piece of paper. He looked confused and opened it. He looked back at me. I raised an eyebrow. I know the name you would pick. Go with that one. He growled. Don't tell me what to do. He slumped and started writing. I looked at the pad. Blank. A name. I could just use Deku, but something stopped me. Now who's brave enough to come up here and showcase their name? Midnight smiled. Some froze in nervousness. I watched as Aoyama walk up with his notepad. My name will be. He put the pad on the podium. The sparkling hero, Starlight. He said flamboyantly. Oh Shinny. Midnight cooed. Aoyama winked at me. Better than can't stop twinkling at least. Mina came running up excitedly. Let me go next. I watched her present her name, only to be rejected. Alien Queen was close, but I had a better idea. I was glad I had a spare paper. I passed it on to Mina, then one to Shoto. When he received it, I could feel his stare even as I looked at my notepad. Acid Queen. Mina presented proudly. That'll work. Midnight approved. Sue presentes her name, which got everyone chanting. I did it as well for fun, and I could see the look in her eyes. She loved the attention. The other names went the same as canon. Kami went up next, the misty heroine, Mirage. She winked with a blow, letting some illusion mist leak out. Great choice. Midnight gave a thumbs up. I looked at my blank notepad. Shoto went up next. I looked up. I gave him multiple names, wonder which he picked. Frost Flame, he spoke in a monotone voice. Oh, just like your Quirk. Midnight snapped her fingers in understanding. Bakugo went up next. He stomped up front and slammed his pad on the podium. The explosive hero, Dynamite. He exclaimed. That name will blast through the ranks. Midnight encouraged. Iida went next. He presented his real name. I frowned, he was suffering. But he had to learn, I hope he can forgive me for this. As the others went up, I haven't made my decision, this was so difficult. Maybe, I wrote down the name and went up last, saving the best for last, let's see what you have. Midnight licked her lips, I placed my name on the podium, Bakugo looked shocked. Ochako blushed a bit, the Viridian hero, Dekiru. I announced, I was gonna make this name my own, someone who can do anything. Oh, I approve. Midnight squealed. I smiled at her and went back to my seat, I had the color scheme so might as well. Mr. Aizawa got up and walked out with Midnight, telling us to make our choices carefully and we had 2 days to pick. I looked through my list, wow, so many heroes. I frowned, I don't think I'll be going to Gran Torino's. I already had a solid hold of OFA, no real reason to go there, other than to get my ass kicked by an old man. So who are you gonna do your internship with? Sue asked Ochako. Oh, I'm gonna be interning with the martial arts hero Gunhead. Ochako did a few punching motions. That's a good idea. I chimed in, you have the rescue part down and now you need a way to defend yourself. I continue with her nodding, yup, the fight with Bakugo opened my eyes, I need to learn how to fight. I looked at Momo, time to do a little meddling. I walked over to her, hey Momo, who are you gonna intern with? I asked sitting on her desk, she looked up with a blush. Oh I have someone picked. She showed me her paper, the Uabami, okay no. Momo, I don't think this is the type of hero you should go to. I told her, Momo looked confused. Why do you say that? She asked. Well for one, Uabami focuses more on the commercial side of hero work. I explained, I know you want to get better but you need to experience action and gain some experience. I said as I took her list. I'll help you, I know a lot about heroes. I smiled at her, Mono brighten up, thank you Midoriya. I took a look at her list. Some I recognize from Midoriya's old notebooks, they could help, oh hello. I smiled widely, so he did send her an offer. Here. I handed her the paper and pointed at a certain agency. Momo took a good look, Fatgum. She furrowed her brow, I think you and him will be good matches, his quirk is like yours, it requires food, so you won't run out of fuel. I explained. And he has experience in fighting, a lot of experience. I got off her desk. You can try these other agencies if you want but if you ask me, Fatgum should be your top choice. I went back to my desk leaving Momo to her thoughts. Hey Kami, figured out who you're going to intern with? I asked the girl who shook her head, no, I haven't found anyone yet, any suggestions? She asked me. I hummed, not really, maybe you should focus on someone who can give you tips of fighting like Uraraka. I pointed out, she did need the skills, her illusions can only do so much. Kami nodded and went back to looking through her papers. I walked back to my seat and looked over Bakugo's shoulder, of course he would pick best genist. What the fuck are you looking at? He screamed in my ear. I jumped back and rubbed my ringing ear, ouch, come on Baku, I was just curious, do genist huh? I leaned on the wall in front of him. Yeah, he's the number 3, I'm gonna go for the best of the best. He said, at least he's not yelling at me. You know he's gonna try and curb your harsh attitude and give you a haircut right? I asked. The fuck are you talking about? I took out my phone and found what I was looking for. Here. I showed him pictures of genist with his sidekicks. All wearing jeans and having the same haircut. That's gonna be you. I smirked. Bakugo unconsciously touched his spiky hair. So is it worth it? I asked. Bakugo looked at his paper and then at the picture. Fuck you. He wrote down genist's name on the paper. I tried. I went back to my desk and looked through the list and one caught my eyes, what the hell? At the end of the class, I was on my way out and was stopped by All Might. Ah young Midoriya just the guy I was looking for come with me please. Without another word, I was dragged into an empty classroom. Hey All Might, is something wrong? I asked as I leaned on the wall to regain my balance. Sorry about that. He deflated, I was running out of time. I waved it off. What's going on? I wanted to ask you if you picked out a hero to intern with yet. All Might said, yeah and you won't believe who scouted me. I took the paper out of my bag and handed it to him, his eyebrows shot up. Now that is surprising, I originally wanted you to train with my old teacher but, seeing that you already picked someone, I'm gonna have to talk to him. He shivered in fear. I shook my head, maybe next time we can meet outside of school, I want to meet this teacher of yours. I smiled, I gotta go, need to pick up Eri. I walked out waving at All Might. All Might smiled as he watched me leave, he then frowned and looks out the window, get strong young Midoriya. I hope that I'm wrong about him coming back. He spoke to himself. I visited the support studio on Monday, Melissa got settled and from her texts, met Hatsume. She was amazed by the pink-haired girl's drive but also very annoyed by how quickly Hatsume does things, which caused explosions. I stood in front of the metal door of the support studio. I was about to knock on the metal door but I stopped, I took a step away from the door before, boom. It came flying off its hinges. Called it. Hatsume. Melissa screamed from inside the smoky room, I told you not to plug in the machine until we did some tests. Tests, smash. Hatsume's energetic tone replied, I just wanted to see if it worked. I used a 10% powered arm sweep to blow some smoke away, revealing the two girls and power loader who looked done with everything. Melissa noticed me. Oh, Izuku Midoriya, sorry didn't see you there. I waved with a smile. Hatsume looked at me. Oh. I forgot who you are. She turned. Sorry, don't have time for anything, more babies to invent. Hatsume, no more explosions, or I'll ban you. Power loader snapped. Actually, I came here to ask about some adjustments to my costume. I said. Immediately Hatsume was in my face with a crazed grin on her face. Holy shit. Show me. Melissa then pulled Hatsume back. Back off, he's my customer. She sighed and smiled. So, adjustments? She asked. I took out my notebook and showed her a sketch of the Air Force gloves. I figured out a new long-range attack, but I can't do it without a bit of help. I explained. Melissa took the notebook. Oh, I see what you want, she hummed. Hatsume looked over her shoulder and gasped, that looks like one of my babies. Melissa jumped and turned to Hatsume. Wait, really? She asked. The inventor dived into her pile. Wow, it looked bigger than before. She came out with the gloves. Ta-da. She grinned. Melissa looked at me confused. Did you see those before? She asked. No, I just came up with this. I defended myself. Hatsume came up to me. I can have these fixed up before your internship. She grinned. Melissa frowned. But we need to implement it with his gauntlets, even with his shield, we need to do a lot of work. She told Hatsume. I smiled. Well, I know that I can trust you both to get that done, can I? I asked. Of course. Hatsume ran off to get started and Melissa sighed, walking after her. Yeah, you can. She said over her shoulder. I kind of felt bad. I looked at Power Loader. I tried to speak, but he held up a hand. She's distracted by one project. Let me enjoy the peace and quiet. He said firmly. I slowly left. Okay. The week passed and now, everyone was in the train station. It was time for our internships. Ochako was worried about Iida. Deku, you think he's gonna be okay? She whispered to me as we waited for Mr. Aizawa to arrive. I looked at Iida, who looked to be deep in thought. I bit my lip, and looked at her. I don't know, but I'll try my best to reach him. I assured her. Ochako nodded and Mr. Aizawa arrived. Soon everyone got on their trains and I was on mine, making my way to the hero I would be interning under. After getting off the train I walked to my destination. I sure hoped that this was a good idea. I arrived at a hotel and waited in the lobby. I tapped my fingers against my suitcase holding my hero costume. Well, about damn time. I turned and was met with red eyes and a feral grin. I don't normally do this, but I hope you can keep up, Pipsqueak. The number 6, Future 5, Pro Hero, Mirko, grinned with her hands on her hips. Chapter end notes. Okay, I saw a lot of dislikes about Bakugo finding out, but I don't really care. If you don't like it, don't read. I renamed the fanfiction. I just thought this was a better name. What do you think? And yes, Mirko, I know that there are other heroes, but she sticks out to me. No, it's not because she's hot. Not the whole reason. I read the newest manga chapter and was so happy to see the 6th user's quirk. Next chapter will show Izuku training with the number 6. Chapter 14. Chapter summary. The start of internships. Chapter notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. Come on, kid. I thought with your quirk, you could keep up. Mirko screamed as she hopped to another rooftop. I was using full cowling to chase after her. I was wearing my hero costume, with my new gauntlets. I had to treat Melissa to lunch when I got back. I was trying to match Mirko's jumps, but damn, she was fast. Screw it. I shot out Black Whip and pulled myself to the rooftop she was on and landed next to her. Finally, using all of your resources. She slapped my back. It was strange since she was shorter than me by just a bit. I admired Mirko because of her determination, but now seeing her up close, she was a pain in the ass. Yeah, well, I didn't know if I should use my whips, you never specified. I retorted, my mask receding, letting me breathe easier. A feature I had Melissa add. I was always a fan of the Optimus Prime style mask. Mirko scoffed. I shouldn't have to. I said that you should try and keep up. There's a large gap between us, so you have to give everything you have to keep up. She flicked my nose. I glared at her. You and Bakugo would get along like a house on fire, or set the house on fire. I mumbled, don't know which one is worse. This earned me a slap on the back of the head. I was surprised that she wanted to take an internship. I did ask her when we met. Flashback. I got up from my seat to realize that I was a bit taller than her. I didn't say anything about it to her in fear of her kicking my ass. Mirko. I bowed. Stand straight, brat. Come on, I got us rooms. Separate rooms. The rabbit hero emphasized and walked to the elevator. I followed after her. The elevator ride was a bit awkward. I looked at the woman next to me. Mirko, why did you scout me? I looked at her. Mirko looked at me, because I really liked that ferocity you showed in the sports festival. She gave me a feral grin. You dominated all 3 events, and in the last battle with that explosive kid, I was impressed with your finishing kick. She then flicked my forehead. But you were sloppy, you could have done better. Once I'm done with you, you'll be a pro at kicking. She walked out as the elevator doors opened and I followed behind her. So you just picked me because I have an attitude and my kicks need work. I listed out, there's something else, but I'll keep that to myself. She took out a key and tossed it to me. I caught it and she pointed to the door with the number 503. Your room, mine is right across. Get dressed, we're going on patrol. She ordered as she went into her room. Flashback end. We started jumping again. Mirko hopped from building to building. I jumped after and used Black Whip to swing like Spider-Man. With most heroes, they stick to one place and claim it is their territory with their agencies. She explained as we stopped on top of a tall building looking over the city. But me, I go around and help people all over the country. She looked at me with a serious expression. Being a hero is a tough business, if you're not careful then you could get killed. I nodded in understanding, my mind flashing to the image of her losing her arm in the war, a future I wished to avoid. I looked down and spotted something, a car racing down the street. Mirko. I pointed at the racing car, she looked down and smirked. Good eye, okay newbie, let's go. She launched herself towards the speeding car. I used Black Whip to latch to her leg and let her pull me along. I let go and flicked my fingers behind me to increase my speed. I shot past Mirko and launched a whip to the car's bumper. I looked back to see if there was anything to use as an anchor, oh there wasn't. I yelped as I was dragged by the car, fuck. I was bouncing against the pavement. Hang in there. Mirko called as she was close to catching up. I looked around, there must be something. I looked ahead and saw a cement truck parked on the side. I had one shot, please work, please work. Launching another whip to the truck and it latching was great. Bad news, the feeling of nearly being pulled apart wasn't pleasant. Gah! I shouted in pain as the car tried to drive off but I held firm. A man stuck his upper body out of the window and aimed a gun at me. Fortunately, Mirko crashed on the hood of the car, stopping it in its place. I let go of the bumper feeling the soreness in my muscles. The gunman tried to shoot her but I whipped the gun out of his hand. Mirko smirked, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. She punched the palm of her hand. The criminals got out of the car with their hands up, not wanting to fight her. I rolled my arms and glared at her. You could have stepped in. I said. Mirko rolled her eyes. I could have but I wanted to see what you would do if you didn't have backup. She walked over. You were expecting me to come in and stop the car. Great, you're not even gonna get the credit, but I wanted to see if you had a plan if I was occupied. I looked down, I understood what she meant. I didn't have a plan, just relied on her stepping in. I received a slap on the head, snapping me out of my thoughts. Come on, let's go, let the police do their job. She snapped as she walked past me. I looked and saw the police arresting the criminals. I turned just in time to see Mirko hopping away. I cursed under my breath and summoned FC and jumped after her. Momo was sweating and panting, a staff in hand. Okay, that's enough. The BMI hero Fatgum called out. She arrived just earlier to the Fatgum agency. She was put against Tamaki Amajiki, a third year at UA. Amajiki, who had manifested octopus arms, turned around facing away from her. You're getting faster at creating stuff. Momo looked at Fatgum. But you need to be faster with creating and your reaction time, too slow and the enemy can get close to immobilize you. The hero explained. I understand. Momo nodded as she went to the bench and got some water. Sunniator here had the same problem, he could manifest the parts he needed but he needed time to do it. Fatgum pointed at Tamaki who had his head against the wall. But he was able to get it down after practice. Is he alright? Momo asked, concerned. Yeah, he just has some confidence issues. Fatgum rubbed the back of his head. Anyway, what I'm saying is that you have an amazing ability and the smarts to use it, but you have to get some experience in fighting others to develop your reaction time and creation time. That makes sense. She said, come on, let's go get something to eat. Fatgum declared and walked out of the room with Momo and, reluctantly, Amajiki followed. Ochako laid in her bed sighing. She was tired from today's training, she wasn't used to using her arms so much. She looked at her bag and raised her hands. A pink glow covered the bag and it went up. She gritted her teeth and it fell after she let go. Ah, she groaned and laid her head on the pillow. She closed her eyes and sat up. Come on. She whispered as she raised her arms and lifted various items in the room. She sweated as she felt her nauseous coming in. Ochako dropped the items and held her mouth and groaned. She thinks back to before the internship started. Flashback. Ochako was in one of the gyms trying to levitate a bean bag. She stops panting. Don't worry, it's normal. She looked over at Deku who gave her a small smile. But I've been doing this for 30 minutes. She sat on the floor, her stomach calming down. Deku came to her side and offered her a hand. She took it and he pulled her up. Yeah, but your quirk evolved. You have an entirely new aspect you have to master. Of course it's gonna be hard. He said, rubbing the back of his neck. Your quirk is related to you touching the objects you want to float, but this time you have to reach out and make them float. He explained. She looked at the pads on her fingertips. How did you master Black Whip so quickly? She asked him. Deku hummed. Well, honestly, I just used it for almost everything. He replied. Ochako tilted her head. I had to regulate how much power I was using or else I would hurt someone I would be trying to save. He raised his hand showing Black Whip coming off his knuckles. After that, I started to use it every chance I got. He smiled. Practice makes perfect, Uraraka. This is something new and something that you can utilize in hero work. You can save a lot of people with this, but first you gotta master it. He said, whenever you want something, try using it to bring stuff to you. Small stuff then work your way up to the big stuff. Ochako smiled. You're right. She bit her lip and hugged him. Thank you. He blushed and hugged her back. You're welcome, he said. The two then pulled away. I gotta go. Ochako ran away, her face boiling hot. Flashback end. Work your way up. Ochako gained a look of determination and started to levitate her phone to her hand. It landed on her palm. She smiled. Thanks, Deku. She blushed. I'll be a hero just like you. She got started on levitating small items once more. The next day, Mirko took me to a forest outside of the city. She was wearing her hero costume as was I. We stopped when we reached a clearing. There was a waterfall and some large rocks spread out around the clearing. What are we doing here? I asked looking around. A place I found as I was exploring, good place to train. Mirko replied, throwing a duffel bag down and then immediately dashed towards me. I reacted by summoning OFA 10% throughout my body and jumped back before she could deliver an axe kick aimed for my head. Whoa, a little warning would be nice. I landed and Mirko gave me a smirk. A villain won't warn you about when they are gonna attack, you need to expect the unexpected and retaliate. She jumped towards me again. I couldn't help but grin and meet her halfway. Now this is what I wanted. 3 hours later, I was on my back catching my breath after another ass kicking from Mirko. I was exhausted. You lasted longer than I thought. Mirko drank some water from a bottle as she sat on a flat rock. You have the moves but your reaction could use some work. She commented. I slowly sat up. Well, you're too fast for me. I snarked, there is always gonna be someone faster than you, kid. Mirko took out a carrot out of nowhere and started to bite on it. I rolled my eyes and got up. You are very hard to predict. She said, really? I asked, yeah, you caught me by surprise when you bashed that shield of yours against the rock. She growled, rubbing her ear, I can still hear the ringing. I chuckled. It did get you to let your guard down. I smirked, cheeky brat. She growled as she walked over, slapping me over the head. Ow, I didn't even do it that hard, don't be a baby. I looked at her thighs and blushed looking away. Mirko walked to the bag and took out her phone. Let's head back, shower and then we go on patrol. I groaned. Oh, stop complaining. I got up and stretched. I think you broke something. I heard some of my bones crack. Mirko raised an eyebrow and strolled over. She poked my arm. Nope, nothing broken. She responded, walking away. I couldn't help but look at her legs and bit my lip. Also stop looking at my legs. She looked over at me. I jumped and got up, my face completely red. She smirked, a little out of your league, kid. She grabbed the duffel bag and made her way to the path we used to get here. Quote. Why is it always women with muscle? I grumbled as I followed her, first Nana, now Mirko. After getting back to the hotel, I took a shower and waited outside for Mirko. I was on my phone looking at my texts to Iida, no response. I sighed and texted in the group chat. Deku, hey guys. Gravity girl, hi Deku. Blasty, the fuck am I doing here? And who changed my name? Deku, I asked your mom for your contact info and added you smiley face. Acid Queen, hi Bakugo. Rocky, bro, Madam Mystery, lol hi. Deku, oh how's the internship with Genist? Wearing any tight jeans? Blasty, shut the fuck up Deku. Acid Queen, wait what are you talking about? Deku, Bakugo is interning with Best Genist. He is required to wear jeans and have a haircut. Madam Mystery, OMG Bakugo send a pic. Blasty, fuck no. Rocky, bro come on. I wanna see. Blasty left the chat. Deku, I'll add him again later. By the way, has anyone heard from Iida? Gravity girl, no. I'm kinda worried. Madam Mystery, I hope he's okay. Deku, I'll keep trying. I sighed as I put my phone down. Hey kid, what's got you down? I looked back to see Mirko walking towards me. Nothing important. I responded. She raised a brow at me. Well okay, come on, we have some patrolling to do. She started to walk down the street. I put my phone in my pouch and followed after her. It was quiet for a while. We passed people who took her picture and asked her about me. I don't do team-ups but I thought I would take someone to teach. Mirko answered as she ruffled my hair. I grumbled at her words. And you picked the winner of the sports festival. Someone asked. Of course, the kids got spunk. I rolled my eyes. We kept walking around and decided to get some lunch after an hour. We sat on top of a building eating some burgers. And here I thought you only ate carrots. I jabbed. She glared at me. At least carrots are healthy. She retorted, taking a bite of her burger. I shrugged and drank my soda. Looking over the city was very peaceful, the wind howling and the sound of traffic below. My mind went back to Iida. When was the attack gonna start? Tonight, tomorrow? I take another bite. Okay kid, what's on your mind? I blinked and looked at my current teacher. What do you mean? I asked. Your face is scrunched up and it looks like you're thinking too much. Mirko pointed at me. I sighed, just worried about my classmate. I said, oh yeah, how come? She took a sip of her smoothie. I think he's going after the hero killer. I responded, almost making her spit take. You're joking, right? Mirko asked. I shook my head. No, I'm not. I replied, finishing my burger. Why do you think that your classmate would go after that guy? She put a hand on her hip. He's the little brother of Ingenium. I told her, her eyes widened in understanding. Well, that makes sense. She rubbed her chin. I know it's hard to believe but I get the feeling that he might actually find him and get himself killed. I got up. You want to go after him to keep him from doing something stupid? She smirked and I nodded. Well, where is he? She asked. Hosu. I responded. Last sightings, well then that's where we're going. I looked surprised. Really that easy? I asked and she shrugged. I'm not the strict type. She walked past me. Let's get going. I smirked. Now we're talking. Don't worry Iida, I'm gonna stop you from making the biggest mistake of your life. Chapter end notes. This was a bit hard to write, I hope I did well. Just a question, who do you think Kami should internship with? Also, I read your comments, Mirko in the harem. I need to think on it. Chapter 15. Chapter summary. Battle of Hosu. Chapter notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. Mirko and I were riding on the train on the way to Hosu. I looked out the window and sighed. The sun was setting. I bit my lip. Hey, don't worry, things will be just fine. Mirko assured me. I rubbed my arm and took out my phone to text Iida again. I bit my lip. No response. Mirko, if things go sideways, can you trust me? I asked, looking at her. The rabbit hero raised a brow. What's that supposed to mean? I sighed. Please. I begged. Mirko's expression softened. The first time I've ever seen in anime or manga. Fine. She reluctantly agreed and the rest of the train ride was quiet. Soon it was night. We were close to Hosu. I put my visor on and waited. If things went the same way then. Crash. Right on cue, the Nomu crashed into the train car. What the hell? Mirko leapt off and kicked the Nomu away. Nomu, I thought there was only one. I told Mirko, who growled, the thing from your USJ attack. Well, apparently we ran into its ugly brother. She chased after it. I looked around. Everyone was safe. I turned up FC and jumped after my teacher. I jumped from roof to roof and found myself on the street. There were cars on fire, as were some buildings. I saw Mirko fighting a Nomu. There were two more wreaking havoc. Iida, where are you? I turned to see the hero Iida was interning with. Has anyone seen him? He asked. I growled and ran towards Mirko, who kicked the Nomu away. Mirko. I called. Kid. Get the civilians out of, but I cut her off. Iida isn't here. The hero he's interning with is here, but Iida is missing. I think he went after Stain. Her eyes widened in shock. We turned to see the Nomu getting up. Mirko, please give me permission to use my quirk to fight. I demanded. What? She turned to me. Please trust me. I begged. Mirko looked at the Nomu and then at me. She growled and turned back to the Nomu. Fine, Mirko, give you permission to use your quirk to fight. I smiled. Thank you. She looked at me from the corner of her eyes. Don't make me regret this, kid. I'll come running once I'm done. She leapt into battle. I ran into the alleys. I used Black Whip to swing around. I hopped onto the roof and ran across the rooftop and looked down to find Iida. As I ran, I took out my phone and sent an SOS through the Class 1A group chat. Come on, come on. I then saw Stain standing over Iida. I jumped down and aimed my gauntlets at Stain. Air Force. 2 shots of compressed air hit Stain in the chest, sending him back. I got in front of Iida and expanded my shield. I knew you were thinking of going after him, but actually doing it was another thing entirely. I looked at him, my mask receding, showing my scowl. Midoriya, what are you doing here? Iida asked. Saving your life. I retorted as Stain got back up. Can you move? I asked him. No, he paralyzed me. Iida answered. I looked back at Stain. My mask snapped back into place as I glared at him through my visor. More fakes. Stain growled. I looked at Native. I can't carry him and Tenya out of here on my own. I already sent out my location, so Shoto should be here soon. I'm not gonna let you hurt him anymore, Stain. I called. I could feel the killing intent coming off of the hero killer. I was scared, but now wasn't the time to freeze. Move. If you value your life, then move aside. All fakes must be purged. Stain pointed his sword at me. Not gonna happen. I retorted. A hero's job is to protect people, and now I'm protecting my friend. I moved forward so that I was next to Native. Stain smirked. Is that so? Then show me your resolve, hero. He brandished his blades and charged at me. I aimed and shot 3 air bullets at him. He dodged them all and tried to slice me. I raised my shield and parried. I charged 10% into my fist and punched him in the gut, sending him back again. I needed to keep him far. Get out of here, Midoriya. This is my fight. This has nothing to do with you. Iida yelled at me. I growled in annoyance and collapsed my shield, taking aim at the charging hero killer. This has everything to do with me. You come here for revenge for your brother, but you don't even think about what he would want for you. I scolded as I shot more air bullets at Stain in rapid succession. You were blinded by your anger, I get it. I clapped my hands hard, sending a gust of wind, blowing him back. But it's my job, not as your classmate or even your class president, but as your friend, to keep you from doing something stupid. I turned to face Iida. Big mistake, Stain said as he got close, but a blast of fire sent him back. I smirked. Took you long enough, Frost Flame. I commented as Todoroki in his blue hero costume walked up next to me. Next time, be more specific in your message, Dekiru. Shoto replied, pocketing his phone. Stain landed as Shoto used his ice to bring Native closer to us. We can't run, he'll try and chase after us if we do. Shoto deduced. I put a hand on Shoto's shoulder. Let me try and talk him down. I whispered. Shoto looked at me surprised. Trust me. I pleaded. Shoto slowly nodded. If he gets close, roast him. I commanded as I walked forward. He's just a kid, please. I begged. He can still be a hero. I looked at the hero killer. He came at me with the intent of vengeance. That's not a trait of a hero. The hero killer said. People like him need to be culled. He's like this because you crippled his brother. I replied. A loving brother who was a hero because he wanted to make his younger brother proud. You made him how he was today because of your twisted ideals. I tried to reason. My ideals are true, Stain said as he dashed at me, trying to get past me, but I was able to grab his scarf and throw him back. This world has forgotten the true meaning of hero. He glared at me. I gritted my teeth. And what is a hero to you? I asked. Midoriya, what are you? Iida was trying to ask, but I cut him off. Shut up, Iida. I'm still pissed at you. I snapped at him, making him close his mouth. Shoto looked shocked at my tone. Stain raised an eyebrow. A hero is supposed to save people, without rewards, without the fame, without the fortune, to do it out of the kindness of their hearts. Stain said, glaring at me. People today want to be a hero because of fame, wealth and recognition. Stain growled. They aren't true heroes. Then what, you're gonna kill all the people who want to be heroes because of their goals? I asked, keeping my hands trained on him in case he tried to move. Yes, I will do what needs to be done to create a better society. Stain said, brandishing his blades once again. My scowl was hidden behind my mask. You're wrong, I said. Stain narrowed his eyes at me. People become heroes for different reasons. You say that they only want fame and fortune because of selfish reasons, but your vision is narrow. That was the last straw for him as he charged at me with his blades. I flicked two of my fingers at the same time to create a stronger air bullet. Air Force, buckshot. I named my new long-range attack. The shot hit his hand, his blade went flying. Everyone has different motivations, becoming a hero to honor their legacy. I said. Iida looked shocked. I ran up to Stain and grabbed his wrist to keep him from swinging his sword. To make money to provide for their family. The image of Ochako came into my mind. Stain unsheathed a knife and I grabbed his other wrist before he could try and swipe at me. What are you trying to do? Stain screamed at my face. I looked into his eyes. I could see the determination and drive in them. I'm trying to get you to stop your hunt. I said, his eyes widening. To change your mind before you hurt more people directly and indirectly. I held his wrists, using 15% of OFA to keep him from breaking free. Stain gave me a stare. You truly are a hero, Dekiru. Stain said as he stopped struggling. But you are naive. I chose this path and I must see it through the end. I felt his spiked boot in my gut kicking me back. Stain dashed at Native and Iida, throwing knives at Shoto who created a wall of ice to protect the three. I held my stomach and looked at Stain as he ran up the ice wall. No. I shot Black Whip at him and pulled him back when it wrapped around his torso. Stain changed his positioning and attempted to get a slice at me, but I expanded my shield and the blade scratched the shield. I sidestepped before he swung his sword at me. You won't stop me from my mission. He screamed, his eyes growing more crazed. I growled, and you won't stop me from my mission. I returned as I raised my shield. Your drive is strong, kid, but it won't be enough. Stain rushed me, but Iida jumped in and kicked him away. Iida. I looked at him. You were right. I wasn't acting like a hero my brother wanted me to be. He said, I will make it up to you by helping you here and now. I blinked. Wow, he changed fast. Well then, Ingenium. I called him using his hero name, making him flinch. If you want to be a hero, then we need to keep Stain here until backup arrives. Stain looked murderous. Just because you changed your tone doesn't make you any less fake. He screamed. Don't listen to Stain. I told Iida, his vision is too narrow to look at all the good in the world. I charged up FC once again. Frost, keep Native safe. I dashed towards the hero killer and met him head on. Mirko kicked off the Nomu and watched as he recovered from the attack, not doing anything. She gritted her teeth. Just then a torrent of flames enveloped the Nomu. Mirko looked to the side to see Endeavor. Fancy seeing you here, number 2. She narrowed her eyes. Endeavor raised an eyebrow at her. Surprised to see you having trouble with one enemy. He retorted. The bastard's regeneration is quick. What are you doing here? She asked. Looking for the hero killer. He responded. Mirko frowned. Well, right now I think your fire is the only thing that can keep the Nomu from regenerating. She looked at the charred body of the monster. I need to go look for my intern. She turned around. Fine. Endeavor grunted and Mirko ran off as a Nomu tackled Endeavor. So you want to fight too, huh? He smirked and increased his fire power. Mirko ran faster. You better be alive, kid. She muttered to herself. Stay still. Stain screamed as he tried to slice me into pieces. No way. I screamed back, jumping away. I had to avoid being cut. He couldn't use his blood curdle if he didn't have any blood. Iida took the opportunity to drive a kick into Stain's ribs. Gah. He turned to swipe at Iida, but he was interrupted by an air bullet to the back. Ingenium. Keep your distance. I called. It's very difficult. He replied and I growled. I looked at Native. Ingenium, take Native to an ambulance now. He's gonna bleed out. I ordered. Iida looked at me and then at Stain. You want to avenge your brother, then save the people his attacker goes after next. Make sure it doesn't happen again. Iida looked at Native and back at me before nodding and running to Native's side and picked him up. As Iida left, I heard Stain growl. You really are a pain. I smirked behind my mask. Takes one to know one. Todoroki came up to me. Now what? He asked. Now we need to keep him here. Don't interfere. If I'm correct, you don't have permission to use your quirk. Todoroki looked at me stunned and gritted his teeth. Don't be stupid. I then rushed Stain before he could finish. Time to end this. I called an unleashed black whip. Stain tried to cut the whips, but it was no use as the tendrils wrapped around him. I jumped high, taking him with me. Ultimate move. I smirked. I always wanted to do this. I then pulled myself towards him at high speeds. This is from my internship with Mirko. I smirked. Lunar impact. I landed on his stomach, knocking the wind out of him. I smirked as he was now unconscious. I kicked off and wrapped black whips around him, pulling him over me. I landed and caught the unconscious villain. Frost, find some rope to tie this guy up. I looked over to Todoroki, who nodded and went to find rope. I looked at Stain. I changed a lot. I hope that it was for the best. Shoto came back with rope. Where did you find that? I asked, looking at the perfectly good rope. In the dumpster. I was surprised too. He explained. I released Black Whip and Shoto started to tie up Stain. We also disarmed him of all his weapons. I was sure that we got all of it. Kid. I heard Mirko call out. I turned around, and Mirko came running with Iida. You're alright. She stopped as she saw Stain. Whoa, what happened to him? She asked. You beat him. Iida looked shocked. I stared at him and then socked him across the cheek hard. You idiot, you could have gotten killed. I yelled at him. Mirko crouched next to Stain and looked at her intern. Kid's right, you could have been killed if he didn't show up. She got up and walked in front of Iida, who looked down in guilt. I'll let the police handle you. Mirko then turned to me. And you, I don't know whether to be pissed or fucking proud. She smirked and ruffled my hair. I'll go with proud for now. She looked at Shoto. So you're here, last I saw your dad he was taking on Nomu. She said. I think he has it under control by now. We took Stain to the street. I saved Native and came back. Iida told me, I'm sorry for my behavior. I looked at my friend. You need to be careful with your anger, Iida. It can be a strong weapon, but if not controlled, people get hurt. I said in a wise tone. Mirko scoffed. When did you become so wise? I sighed as backup came. What was I forgetting? There was a loud screech, Midoriya. Before I could react, Iida pushed me just in time as a winged Nomu came swooping down and grabbed Iida, who started flying away. I looked up shocked. I thought that guy would have been dealt with. Iida. I screamed and charged up 15% ready to jump, but then, Stain moved faster than I could see and stabbed the now paralyzed Nomu. Everyone, especially me, was shocked. Iida was saved by the hero killer. Both this shame-filled society, and the criminals who wield their power in the name of petty mischief. He started standing up. Iida was frozen in fear. Are targets of my purge, all of this for a better society. He looked at Iida. I don't want to let you live, but Dekiru's conviction showed me that there are heroes who are good at heart. I will allow you to grow. He turned to the rest of us. But there are heroes who need to be culled. Just then Endeavor arrived. Damn it. Endeavor, the most unworthy of them all. I could feel the air becoming denser. You're all fakes. I was becoming harder to breathe as everyone stood in fear of Stain's killing intent. No, not this time. I bit my tongue and let my OFA fill my body. If I don't fix this broken society. I tried to move. I growled. No, 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 no. Only 2 people are allowed to kill me. Stain's presence started to grow. All Might and Dekiru. I dashed towards him and tackled him off Iida and used Black Whip to restrain him once again. The hero society isn't broken. It doesn't require blood to make changes, just people who are brave and strong enough to survive in this harsh world and prove themselves. I raised my fist. Stain, you are under arrest. I knocked him out with a punch. I panted as I let go, sitting on my butt. Everyone looked at me in shock and awe. No more bloodshed. I caught my breath and got up. Someone cuff him before he wakes up. I stumbled past them. Tomorrow was gonna be a rough day, but I didn't care right now. Moving with his killing intent flaring like that took a lot out of me. I just wanted to sleep. Chapter end notes. Okay, this was not rushed. I was writing this when I got stuck on 14. I won't go too deep into Izuku's conviction. He thinks that people can change if they want to, that they only need to be brave and strong to do so. I hope I did alright with this. I'm very nervous. Anyways, till next chapter. Chapter 16. Chapter summary. The end of the internship arc. Changes are being made to the timeline. Chapter notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. I was sitting in the main office of the Hosu police station. In front of us was the chief of police, who had the head of a dog. I'll call him Chief Dog. Sitting next to me were my bitches. There's Candy Cane and Glasses. Standing behind us was Bunny Waifu, and the water hero Glasses was interning with. We were here because Glasses attempted to murder a killer to get revenge. I tried to stop him, but did he listen to me? No, he didn't, and now we're here because of his mistake. Chief Dog was going on and on about responsibility and law and blah 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 blah. Was there a food joint here somewhere? I just woke up earlier and was getting hungry. Maybe I can get Bunny Waifu to get me something too. Mr. Midoriya, do I have your attention? Suragame asked me to snap me out of my little world. Yes you do, sir. I assured him. So you heard what I said. I nodded. Yes. He studied me for a moment before sighing. Woof, alright, as I was saying, since you defeated Stain and there was video footage of it, we can't deny it or give Endeavor or Mirko the credit. He explained. I wouldn't have taken it. Mirko scoffed. And from what I heard, Mirko gave you permission to use your quirk to fight, plus the fact that someone was recording your fight with Stain, we can't shift the credit. Huh, so that's what he was saying. Wait, there was footage, I better ask around. I still get bragging rights. Mirko smirked. I chuckled at my mentor, the chief sighed. Yes, and as Mr. Todoroki didn't fight, he is free of any consequences, but for Mr. Iida, I will let the school handle his punishment. I leaned back on my chair and sighed. After more talking, we were let go. See you two back at school. I waved to my classmates and left with Mirko. We stopped at a cafe to get something to eat. I got a cinnamon roll and Mirko got herself a tuna sandwich. The cashier looked at me. You're Dekiru. Good job with Stain. He gave me a thumbs up. This let out a flood because soon everyone was asking for an autograph and taking pictures. I awkwardly signed another book and looked to my mentor for help, but she was giving me a grin with her arms crossed. Damn bunny. After we got away, we sat on the train eating our breakfast. See kid, you're famous now. Glad to not be on the receiving end for once. I glared at her, making her laugh. I sighed. Things were gonna be different. Did I overcloud Stain? How would people react? What kind of impact would I make with the changes I made? I took a bite of my cinnamon bun. I needed to work hard to make sure that nothing bad happened. We arrived back at the hotel after a few hours. We walked down the hall and made it to the front of our rooms. Okay brat, get some rest. I can tell you're still out of it. I need a shower and a nap. After that we're going on patrol. She looked at me and patted my head, giving me a small smile, not a cocky one but one of pride. You did good, I think that you'll be a great hero. I was surprised by her act and words. I blushed. Thank you, coming from you that means a lot. I smiled at her. You know, you're my second favorite hero besides All Might. I told her. She scoffed and rolled her eyes, heading into her room. It's always that idiot. She shut the door behind her and I went into my room to shower and nap. Mirko closed the door and walked into the bathroom and smiled. Second favorite hero, huh? She didn't realize that she had a small blush on her cheeks. She chuckled and got the bath running. The next day, Mirko and I were jumping from building to building. I was jumping ahead with a smirk on my face that was covered by my mask. So kid, why are we going to Best Jeanist's office? Mirko asked me with her eyebrow raised. I wanna see something, thanks for allowing this. I thanked her. Don't mention it, it's a slow day. We jumped and I looked down. Aha. Come on. I shot Black Whip and swung down. Mirko followed suit. As we landed, Mirko covered her mouth and looked ready to burst out laughing. I didn't hold back a laugh as we stood in front of Bakugo and Best Jeanist. Bakugo was wearing his tank top, tight blue jeans and his hair was done very nerdy. His expression was one of rage. It looked hilarious. Ha 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 Bakugo, you look. Ha 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 ha. I couldn't help myself. The angry expression on his face was priceless. Shut the fuck up, Deku. Bakugo screamed, his hands popping with small explosives. Jesus fucking Christ, Jeanist. Mirko got out before laughing. What did you do to the kid? Jeanist didn't look offended at all, at least as far as I know. I am attempting to curb Dynamite's anger and rabid behavior, he said in a smooth tone. I took out my phone and took a picture of him. Your mom would love a picture of this. I grinned. Oi, delete that. He charged at me and I ran away laughing. Jeanist looked as Bakugo took chase and then to Mirko. I was surprised when I heard you taking an intern. Mirko took a deep breath to compose herself but was still grinning. You and everyone else, he's got a lot of potential. She admitted as she watched the chase. Enough potential to take on the hero killer while in high school. He commented. She gazed at the number 4 hero. He's hiding more than he lets on. I can see that he's stressed about something, not sure what. Jeanist raised his brow. I thought you wouldn't care. She blinked. Well, he's my student. I have too. He nodded. At least you are taking interest in the next generation. Jeanist used his quirk to stop Bakugo in his tracks. That's enough. That's not the way a hero behaves. I stopped and looked at Bakugo. Don't you fucking dare. He growled. I smiled and showed him my phone and hit send. Fuck you. He roared and struggled more. Love you too. I mocked and patted his hair with a smile. Come on kid, enough, we gotta go, crime never sleeps. Mirko called me over. I ran up to the pair and took out my notebook and pen. Can I have your autograph? I asked with a smile. Of course. He took the pen and signed it. I'll get you for this, you hear me? I ignored Bakugo and gave him away. I jumped away following after my mentor. Geez kid, you're savage. She told me as she hopped building to building with me swinging after her. Haha thanks, I knew this would happen and warned him but he didn't listen to me, so thought I would give him a reason to listen next time. I responded, landing on the edge of a building next to her. Mirko looked at me smirking. Why didn't you ask me for an autograph when we first met? She asked. I blushed and rubbed the back of my neck. It didn't seem like the right time. I mumbled. She chuckled. Hand it here, I'll sign it. I slowly handed her my notebook. Mirko looked at a page and was surprised with how much detail was put into this. Wow, big brain you got there. Now I see why Blasty calls you a nerd. Better a nerd than a thug. I countered. Ha, yeah, if you have the strength to back it up you're good. She found her page and hummed. Nice sketch, but my ears aren't that big. She signed under her sketch and threw the book back at me. I caught it and put it away. So what's next? I asked. Well, we have 2 more days until internships end, so I'm gonna train you until you drop. I gulped at her words and her matching savage grin that promised pain. Might as well take it as a man. Ochako was sitting in her room, on her bed, looking at her phone nervously. The class saw the video of Deku versus Stain and the group chat exploded. Deku wasn't online but Todoroki said that Iida and Deku were fine. He was probably busy with training, but he should have at least left a message saying he was okay. Iida was fine but he was under house arrest at Manuel's agency until internships ended. Ochako fidgeted and sent a message to Deku. Gravity girl. Deku, are you okay? You've been quiet. She didn't get a response after 5 minutes. She laid on the bed, staring at the ceiling. He was running ahead. She needed to catch up. He phone buzzed and she shot up looking at it and deflated slightly as it was the group chat, but it was from Deku. She opened the chat and covered her mouth to hold in her laugh. The picture attached was of Bakugo with his hair done and in tight jeans. The caption read, visited Bakugo at Best Jeanist Agency. I warned him. The chat blew up with activity and she started to laugh out loud. Her phone buzzed again. It was a private message from Deku. Deku. I'm alright, training with Mirko. She's kicking my ass and yelling out dodge. I can't feel my legs, send help. Ochako giggled at his response. He was fine. She put her phone down and started to practice again with the new aspect of zero gravity. Come on kid, we have 2 more days of this so I'm gonna cram whatever I can into that head of yours. Mirko smirked as I dodged a kick from her. We were back in the clearing, Mirko teaching me what she knew about kicking and fighting. Well, her way of teaching was her kicking my ass and me attempting to use a kick she showed me beforehand, and if I did it wrong, she would say wrong and give me a kick in the stomach. If I got it right 4 times in a row, we would stop and rest. If I didn't and I was too tired, we would break and then go at it again. This woman showed no mercy. I growled and tried to use the spinning heel kick that she showed me. Take this. I screamed in frustration as I tried to attack. Mirko smirked wider and dodged the attack and grabbed my leg. Crap. I was sent flying into the cold river. Mirko stretched. Okay kid, break time. I surfaced and swam out. You're ruthless, I accused with a tired glare. Yeah well some guys find it hot. She smirked at me and walked to the duffel bag. I got up and couldn't help but stare at her behind. I admired her toned thighs and that cute bunny tail. Kid, if you're done leering at me then get the sandwich. I was hit between the eyes by a sandwich wrapped in plastic. Sorry can't help it, I said taking the sandwich and unwrapping it. What got a thing for strong women? She asked, smirking. She took a sip of her water bottle. When she got no reply she turned to look at me with wide eyes. Wait you actually do. I rubbed the back of my head and took a bite of my sandwich. Kid are you a sub? Mirko asked. What no? I yelled, I'm no sub. Mirko smrked. Kid it's not bad to admit it, if you're a sub I'm flattered but I ain't looking for a subby. I growled and finished my sandwich. 1. No I'm not a sub, I'm a dom don't forget that and 2. I do have a thing for strong women but that doesn't make me a sub. I explained. Quote. So how do I rank in your opinion? She asked casually. I blushed hard, none of your business. I responded. Really, come on, I know that I'm a sexy woman, I don't like perverts but you seem like a decent guy. She smirked walking over and I took a step back. So am I on the top of the list? Her red eyes bore into mine as I shook my head. Nope, you're in 5th. She raised an eyebrow and hummed. Well at least I know I'm high on the list. She smirked and walked away, swaying her hips. I blinked and looked up at the sky, questioning whatever god was up there, what the fuck. Today was the end of the internships. Mirko was walking me back to the train station. After that day, things went on as normal as it could be. Was the number 7 heroine flirting with me back then, or was it just a tease? Did she tease? I shook my head as I waited for my train. Mirko looked at me. Well this is the end for now kiddo. I rolled my eyes. When will you start calling me Midoriya? I asked. When you earn it. She retorted. Fair, thank you for teaching me. I smile at her. Yeah just don't go losing so much, it'll hurt my reputation. She flicked my forehead. I rubbed the spot and chuckled. Fine. My train came up and the doors opened. I looked at Mirko and took my suitcase. See you around Mirko. I walked inside. See you around Dekiru. I stopped and looked back to see her jumping away. I smiled and went to find a seat. I walked through the crowd and bumped into someone. Sorry about that. I looked to see a lady with brown hair as she moved down the car. I continued and found a free seat sitting on it. Why did I feel so uneasy? I took out my phone and turned on the camera setting it to the selfie function and checked my hair while looking for something off. The lady with brown hair was sitting down further down, looking at me. I put my phone down and checked the map app. Okay any alleyways, found it. I waited and could practically feel the presence getting closer. What was with that lady? The train stopped at the next station. I got up with my suitcase and got out. I had an idea on who it was, but I needed to be careful and form a plan. I turned to an alley and ran down it and hid behind 2 trash cans. I opened my suitcase taking my gauntlet out putting it on, just in case she tried to stab me. I heard heels clicking coming closer and closer. Wait. I expanded my shield and blocked a strike from the woman who had a knife in her hand with a crazed look in her eyes. I smirked. You know, stabbing random people is a crime. I pushed her off. Oh but I wanted to meet you so badly. She giggled and her body started to become gray and gooey. I waited until I locked eyes with yellow cat-like eyes. Himiko Toga, and why did you want to meet me? I questioned, keeping my guard up. Because you were deemed a real hero by Stainy. She smiled at me. Dekiru is such a cute name. I want to know your real one though, I want to know all about you. I tried to keep my eyes on her face and not her. Was that a bodysuit or something? Well why don't you put down the knife and we can talk? I held the shield in front of me in case she tried to attack. But I want to taste you. She laughed and ran up to me and swiped. I leaned back and grabbed her wrist, then shield bashing her, making her land on her ass and drop the knife. Okay now we can talk. I grabbed the knife and threw it away. She pouted and got up. You hit so hard. I collapsed my shield and walked over to her, offering her my hand. Izuku Midoriya. I introduced myself. I could see her eyes focusing on me for a bit before she grabbed mine. Himiko Toga. She returned. I helped her up. I took off my jacket and put it around her, covering her up. Ah you do care, she cooed. Are you okay? I asked. I'm fine, she chimed. I found it hard to believe. Do you need blood? I asked. Her eyes narrowed a bit. How do you know? I bit back a curse. She didn't say anything about her wanting my blood, closest thing was the tasting. You teeth. I pointed out, also you said taste me, so blood. I explained lamely. Quote. You offering. She tilted her head. I nodded. Do you want a blowjob or something after or? She asked. My eyes widened as I blushed, shaking my head and waved my hands in front of her. No nothing like that. I denied. Okay. I sighed in relief and calmed down. I offered her my arm. She took it and bit down hard. I barely flinched as she started to suck like she hasn't had water in days. I looked around for a while waiting for her to finish. She stopped after a minute and exhaled. Her eyes were more focused and less glossy like before. Better? I asked smiling. She looked at my arm and took out a pink handkerchief and wrapped it around the bite wound. Sorry. She mumbled. I really needed that. I was surprised how different she acted. She sounded so calm. It's all right. I assured her and smiled. Anything to help out. She looked at me for a moment, her gaze was analytic. You really aren't like other heroes. She mumbled. So, why did you look for me? I asked, leaning against the wall. Well, I saw the video of Staney. I was surprised that he deemed you a worthy hero. When I saw you taking him down, I wanted to see how you were like. Was it only for the cameras or are you actually like this? She looked at the floor. Society isn't broken, it doesn't need blood to make changes, just people brave and strong enough to survive this harsh world and prove themselves. She recited and turned her gaze to me. What did you mean? She asked. I bit my lip. The world is a cruel place, I know that, I've seen the bad things that people can do. I looked at her, remembering her origin, her harsh treatment, her parents deeming her a monster because of something she couldn't control. You mean villains? Her stare turned into a glare. No, I interrupted. People, like the ones walking down the streets right now. I stared at her. I think that there are people that do bad things for reasons that only they know. I sighed. People are cruel to others for various reasons. I looked at the sky. Because they are hurting inside and want a way to vent that, because they want to feel better about themselves or because they just get kicks out of it. The last one are the people I call villains, the ones who do it for fun. I explained and looked at her. Quote. The victims can choose to take that hate and use it to get revenge on those who wronged them. Himiko pursed her lip in thought. Or they can move on. She blinked at me wide-eyed. Then where's the closure? She asked. They can't just move on, there needs to be justice about what they did. She glared. What did they do then? She demanded. I simply stared at her. Live, I say, and she put a hand on my throat. Living, she growled. I didn't show fear or anger, only sadness. You're hurting, I reach out and touch her cheek, making her freeze. You want to know what to do, then live, show the ones who hurt you that they can't touch you anymore, that they don't control your actions. Leave them behind, let them live their lives and let karma do its job and take them to justice. She tears up and falls to her knees. I kneel down and hug her, she sobbed and hugged me. Tell me what's wrong. I whispered. The sun was setting as me and Himiko were in a park, sitting on the bench. We found her old clothes, her schoolgirl outfit and sweater. She started to tell me about her past. I was disgusted by how much her parents hurt her. In the show it showed her as a carefree character, but under that was a girl who was in constant pain and in need for love and affection, trying to take it in any form. Quote. Am I a bad person? Toga asked me. No, just a girl who had the world against her. I responded. But I kill people. Because your quirk needs blood. I countered. You need it to be sane. I held up my arm and then pointed at her. You were trying to cut me up, now look at you, you don't feel the need anymore. Himiko looked at her hands and clenched them. What do I do? She asked me. I don't know what to do. She whispered. I got up. We get you help. I know someone who could help you with this, but you need to not only trust me but heroes. I turned to her and saw her scrunch her nose. I don't trust heroes. She spat. Then trust me, I want to help you but you have to trust me and others. Toga looked at me and sighed. Fine. I grinned, one villain reformation coming up. I took out my phone and found the number I was looking for. I put the phone against my ear and smiled. Principal Nezu, I have a favor to ask. Chapter end notes. I am here with an update. I was a bit stuck on writing this chapter. It's difficult because I didn't know what to add. I hope I did alright with it. Yes, we are getting a reformed Himiko Toga. Will she be a hero or something more? Also about the pairing, I'm still trying to decide on Mirko. Himiko will be in the harem. Also don't question when the development will be, it's still early. Lastly, I have plans for a storyline to replace the two heroes story. Since Izuku stopped David from working on the device, hint. Crossover. Take your guesses. Chapter 17. Chapter Summary. The Talk with Afa. Chapter Notes. See the end of the chapter for notes. Mr. Midoriya, do you know what you are asking? Nezu asked me as we were in his office. It was night time. Himiko was sitting on his couch looking around. I sat in front of the principal and nodded. Yes, I am asking you to talk to the Public Safety Commission and get Toga pardoned for her previous crimes. I said without missing a beat. That is a tall order. Nezu said. I smiled and walked over to Himiko, pulling her up. Toga is just a product of society, her quirk makes her this way, with no one to teach her and no one to turn to, she had to do the things she did. Toga blushed and smiled. Nezu stared at me for a moment. How will I explain this to the commission? He asked. I smirked. Nezu, we both know that you can convince those guys, trust me, helping Himiko will be the start of something amazing. Nezu smiled widely. And what do you think that something will be? I let go of Toga. Maybe a villain reformation branch here at UA, teaching villains to use their powers to benefit society and prove the people who say they can't be heroes wrong. I matched his smile. I say, what an idea you have, are you planning on reforming other villains? He asked. I turned to Himiko. If I could get more villains from the league to join, say twice, it could be a major win. Well, I wasn't planning on it, but maybe if I can convince any others I deem redeemable. I took a seat. I'll see what I can do. For now, Ms. Toga needs to stay someplace safe until I can convince the safety commission. I blinked. Okay, didn't think that far. Do you have any idea? I asked. Nezu then smiled. As a matter of fact, I do. He took out his phone and dialed. I looked to Toga, who pouted. You don't want me to stay with you? She asked. I rolled my eyes. Toga, my mom would have a heart attack if I let you stay over. She puffed out her cheeks even more. Good news. Nezu put his phone down. Ms. Midnight is willing to have her stay over. I blinked in surprise. Toga put a hand on her chin, the R-rated heroine. She smirked at me. I'm game. I gulped. Wonderful, she will be here in an hour. As for you Mr. Midoriya, you need to get on going, you have classes tomorrow. I sighed and looked at Toga, I'll see you around. I asked, most. Definitely. I left Ua with a smile on my face, at this rate things would be looking up for everyone, I just needed to be prepared for anything. I arrived home and was tackled by a white missile. Big brother. I was able to catch myself and looked down to see Eri smiling at me with her big ruby eyes, you're back. I smiled back and ruffled her hair. I'm home. Her horn was growing, I needed to be cautious. Inko came out and smiled at Eri, she's been anxious. I chuckled and picked her up, I can tell. Did you get anything for me? I put her down and went through my bag, I did. I took out a stuffed bear and smiled. Eri took it and hugged it tight, smiling, thank you. She ran to the bedroom to probably play with the other toys she had. She's getting better and better. I commented, Inko told me, because she has an amazing big brother. She pats my shoulder, I'm so proud. I beamed at her and put my bag down and took my shoes off. I'm glad for that. I put my shoes on the rack and turned to see my mom looking at me with a concerned look. Izuku, I saw that video of you. I bit my lip. Eri saw it on the news and was well. Inko started to giggle, trying to imitate you. I chuckled imagining Eri trying to punch imaginary villains. But I was worried about what this could mean for you. I understand that hero work is a dangerous job but I thought that you being a student wouldn't have to face that yet. I pulled Inko into a hug. Mom, I know you worry but I'll be okay. I have my friends and teachers to watch my back. She hugged me back tight and sighed. I know but can't a mother worry about her son? She muttered. I smiled. She can. It means that she cares. I squeezed her tighter making her laugh. I get it, you're strong. She pulled away and gave me a teary-eyed smile. I love you Izuku, please be careful. I nodded. I will mom, now what's for dinner? I asked and she walked to the kitchen. Some beef, now go play with Eri, she's been looking forward to having you around. I walked to the bedroom and played with my little sister. Life was good. Going back to Ua the next day was a strange thing, considering what happened during the internships. Eri was next to me humming happily. I looked up at the big gate. I hope Iida didn't get punished too harshly. I walked Eri to Principal Nezu's office and walked inside. I saw the principal sitting down on the phone. We quietly approached and Eri sits on the couch as her usual spot. Nezu hangs up. Well, good morning Eri. He greeted Eri, who smiled. Morning Mr. Nezu. She responded politely. How's Hamiko doing? I asked him. Oh she's doing fine. Currently, she's working with Vlad King to work on her blood cravings. I nodded, okay that's good, and her pardon. I asked, still working on it, these humans are really stubborn when they want to be. I chuckled and ruffled Eri's hair. Yeah we can, thanks for watching over her. I thanked him. Nezu grinned, anything for a bright young mind. Don't teach her about world domination. I called back as I walked out. No promises. I laughed and went to class. I was the first one inside and sat in my normal seat. I waited until I saw Iida coming in. Hey Iida, you okay? I got up walking over. Iida looked at me, Midoriya, I'm quite alright, thank you for asking. I nodded, so, what happened? I asked slowly. Iida put his bag on the chair. Principal Nezu was lenient with my punishment since the media's focus wasn't on me, but for the finals I will have to take remedial afterwards, no matter if I pass them or not. He explained. I nodded. I see, I felt bad, in canon he didn't get punished, at least I don't think he did, but now. Don't blame yourself. It was my fault. Iida interjected, I made my bed, now I must sleep in it, I will do my best to be a great hero like you. Iida, I'm just a guy who wants to do what's right. I grinned and walked back to my desk. Just do your best and things will get better. Soon the rest of class 1A came in. Yo there's the hero of the hour. Mina ran and hugged me tightly. Dude what you did in Hosu was so manly, going toe to toe with the hero killer. I blushed and rubbed the back of my head embarrassed. The rest of the time my classmates congratulated me. I knew that I would get credit but I wasn't prepared for the recognition from my peers. Then, Bakugo walked in with his hair done best jeanist style, his face twisted in rage. Kirishima and Siro started to laugh. What the hell Bakugo? The cackled as the explosive Pomeranian started to threaten them. I laughed quietly. Bakugo could get any girl he wants, if he was nicer. Kami spoke up behind me. Yeah he could, he just needs a girl to keep him in line. Hey where did you go for your internship anyway? I asked the illusionist. Kami smiled and winked. Midnight. She's totally rad, she taught me how to use my quirk in effective ways and even some tips on wrangling guys. She licked her lips with an alluring gaze. I blushed and turned away. Hope she didn't use those tricks on me. Mr. Aizawa walked in and everyone was on their desks already. Good, you're learning, anyway, today you'll be training with someone new, a veteran pro. He said, go to Ground Gamma, he'll be waiting for you there. And with that, Aizawa left. I blinked, this hasn't happened in the anime or manga. Whoa, we're gonna be training with a veteran pro. Kaminari exclaimed excitedly. Kiro, I wonder who it is. Sue wondered as we got our costumes and left for Ground Gamma. At Ground Gamma, I looked around as we were in an area covered in pipes. Mr. Aizawa was there when we arrived. What surprised me more was the costume changes from Momo and Toru.